A pair of polished school shoes steps onto a grimy ancient stone floor. A long teal staircase descends into darkness, a lone figure waiting at the top. Looking at his surroundings, Ryuji grimly confirms that he recognizes this dungeon. His mind flashes back 2 weeks to an ordinary alleyway in his hometown. A magical portal opened beneath him, and he fell from his world. He awoke in a throne room, summoned to another world before a king. The weary king pleaded with the boy to defeat the demon lord and save them. Ryuji stared blankly, then bluntly refused, saying it was impossible. He demanded to be sent home, citing his exams. The king was speechless. A beautiful princess intervened, calmly promising to send him back to his world. The king cried out her name in protest, "Daenerys!" She explained that the magic to send him back required a huge number of magic stones. Ryuji, desperate for a timeline, asked how long it would take to gather them. Daenerys considered, explaining that summoning him had used their entire supply. It would take 50 years. The number 50 exploded in his mind like a death sentence. She offered one alternative: defeat the demon lord to get the stones and return immediately. Months later, he faced a hulking, axe-wielding monster in an arena. Dressed in simple armor, Ryuji stood ready with a sword and shield. He fought not for glory or justice, but only for a ticket home. Despite his potential, he was no stronger than an ordinary person and had to fight to improve. He stood panting over the defeated beast, victorious but completely exhausted. Whispering the word heal, he tried to cast a simple recovery spell. He watched the faint magical light, his face dirty and tired. Daenerys appeared, chiding him for almost being killed by a lowly slime. He knew he was getting stronger, but without a level display, he had to be cautious. He questioned why a princess would come to such a dangerous place alone. She blushed, asking if he was worried, then boasted these floors were easy for her. He thought her logic was more suited to a harsh boss than a princess. She offered her support magic so he wouldn't die. He gave a stiff thank you. 1 year later, he stood before a powerful skeletal boss monster. With a triumphant smile, he declared the first dungeon was finally complete. Daenerys yawned, remarking that taking a full year was a bit concerning. He boasted he'd be faster now and asked why she was still with him. She retorted that magic is useless if you run out of mana. She claimed she would stay to provide potions, a flimsy excuse. He knew she was a tsundere. Another half-year passed and he defeated a massive griffin-like beast. He asked if they really needed to clear every single dungeon to reach the demon lord. She warned him the demon lord's power was on a completely different level. She admitted she'd be troubled if he died, blushing as she spoke. Ryuji blushed slightly at her poorly concealed concern. He pointed out he could make mana potions now, so she wasn't needed. She insisted on staying to provide potions he couldn't make yet. A classic tsundere. 5 years later, the two of them faced a colossal horned dragon. Daenerys gasped, realizing Ryuji had made a critical error in the fight. She closed her eyes, preparing to act in a split second to save him. Her eyes snapped open, her resolve firm as she moved to intervene. Standing over the dead dragon, Ryuji admitted it had been a close call. Walking away, Daenerys calculated they could face the demon lord in 2 years. She proudly stated that he was no longer a burden to her. He agreed, saying it was now hard to fight while protecting her. He told her to wait at the castle. He playfully patted her head, earning a swift, indignant slap on his hand. Pouting with puffed cheeks, she told him to have more delicacy. He looked at her seriously, thanking her, and admitting he only survived because of her. She blushed deeply, softly accepting his heartfelt gratitude. She told him that while others couldn't, she believed he could defeat the demon lord. She promised that she would be waiting for him at the castle. A time skip, 10 years later, after many brushes with death, he defeated the demon lord. A wide view shows the magnificent castle and the kingdom he had saved. In the throne room, the king thanked him on behalf of the entire world. Ryuji, now a seasoned hero, listened with a calm, unreadable expression. The king offered him his daughter's hand and the throne if he would stay. Daenerys closed her eyes, a hopeful, loving smile on her face. Ryuji apologized, but said he wanted to return home to see his family. Daenerys' eyes flew open in utter shock as she heard his words. Her heart shattered, and tears began to stream down her face. An old advisor comforted the weeping princess as she covered her face in sorrow. In the magic chamber, Daenerys began the teleportation ritual, her preparations complete. She closed her eyes, her lips moving as she chanted the ancient incantation. Ryuji watched in awe as magical runes filled the air around him. He raised a hand in farewell, telling Daenerys to take care. She called him an idiot. Tears streaming down her face, she screamed for him to just hurry up and leave. Ryuji looked at her one last time, his expression filled with somber resignation. He was engulfed in a column of light, ripped from her world forever. The brilliant pillar of energy shot upwards from the glowing magic circle. He found himself back in the alleyway, returned to his original world. His childhood friend Yoshiko found him and asked why he was spacing out. He recognized her instantly as Yoshiko Mihashi, his friend since childhood. He noted she hadn't changed, then asked why she was still a middle schooler. He realized with a jolt that 10 years had not passed here. What about him? He frantically asked Yoshiko if he could borrow a mirror. Seeing his young face, he understood Dinaris had returned his stolen years. He stood before the familiar nameplate on the wall of his home. Furuya. After 10 long years, he was finally standing in front of his house again. His mother sat at the table, asking him why he was staring at her. He smiled warmly, saying it had been a while since his trip to another world. She giggled, covering her mouth and asking if he'd had a strange dream. She said she and his father were going shopping, asking him to watch the house. The quiet suburban home stood peacefully under a partly cloudy sky. Alone at last, he decided to enjoy his world with chips, cola, and anime. He emerged from a Family Mart convenience store with a bag of snacks. Walking home, he hummed happily, thinking how good it was to be back. He closed his eyes in pure bliss, profoundly grateful to have returned. Yoshiko ran towards him in a panic, yelling that something terrible had happened. His eyes widened in shock as he asked about his mother and father. At the hospital, he learned their car had been struck by a truck. A doctor told him they were killed instantly. He thought it had to be a mistake. The horrific image of the wreck, his family's car completely crushed, filled his mind. He couldn't believe this was what he returned to. It had to be a lie. At the funeral, he wondered if this was the demon lord's final curse. Surrounded by mourners in a sterile room, he sat alone with his grief. A thin trail of white smoke rises from a crematorium smokestack, a final, somber farewell. The Furuya family home stands silent under a pale sky, now a house of mourning. Yoshiko gently asked Ryuji if it is all right to place his parents' ashes here. The sharp chime of the doorbell suddenly pierces the solemn quiet of the house. As Yoshiko goes to the door, Ryuji finishes placing the boxes on the shelf. He looks at the smiling photographs of his parents, his heart aching. He thinks bitterly that he finally returned after defeating the demon lord, only for this. A rough voice from the door shouts that this is now a private family matter. Ryuji turns, his expression of grief replaced with surprise at the sudden intrusion. A garish troop of relatives barges in, led by a portly man in a loud suit. Ryuji stares in disbelief, recognizing the man as his uncle. His aunt declares that the insurance and inheritance are legally theirs, as he is a minor. He stands frozen in shock, unable to comprehend the cruelty of their words. She threatens to have him arrested and thrown into juvenile detention if he refuses. A terrified Yoshiko peeks from behind a wall, whispering that she has to leave. The uncle and another man immediately start claiming his father's expensive belongings for themselves. They loom over him, demanding he hand over bank books, property deeds, and everything of value. His aunt commands him to bring her all the rings and other jewelry. From an overhead view, he watches them pillage his home, wondering if it's a sick joke. His shock hardens into resolve. He states he won't give them the money or his parents' things. His uncle and the thugs turn to face him, their greedy expressions hardening into anger. The uncle explodes in a rage, calling him an insolent brat from the Branch family. Ryuji calmly dismisses their twisted logic, calling them stupid for their age. The relatives scream at him for his insolence, and his uncle orders his thugs to hurt him. 3 thugs surround the boy, grabbing his uniform and taunting him about his pretty face. The thug with the pompadour throws a punch, a vicious battle cry on his lips. The brute in sunglasses throws his fist forward, shouting a guttural roar. The lanky delinquent in the beanie also swings, his cigarette clenched between his teeth. The pompadour thug's face instantly contorts in shock and agonizing pain. The brute in sunglasses grimaces, his punch having met an unyielding invisible force. The beanie-wearing delinquent's eyes widen in agony, his attack having completely backfired. Ryuji stands perfectly still, protected by his shimmering aura, as his uncle watches in shock. The thug's punch is shown again, a futile attack against an unbreakable defense. The thugs surround him once more, their bravado about to be shattered. Ryuji coldly assesses their pathetic speed, slower than even a first-floor slime. 2 more relatives try to intimidate him, telling him to behave and not move. The 3 thugs rally for another attack, their faces twisted with aggression and confusion. They charge forward, only to rebound off his invisible barrier with a loud thud. His aunt and uncle watch in disbelief, asking what that strange sound was. Ryuji calmly reassures them that he is fine and that they shouldn't worry about him. The 3 thugs are on the ground, clutching their shattered hands in agony. Ryuji takes a single deliberate step forward, calmly stating, "Well then." His eyes sparkle with an unnatural, mesmerizing power that fills the room. He activates his hypnosis skill, commanding his relatives to obey him completely. Under his spell, he asks if they are used to threatening people for their assets. His uncle confesses with a twisted grin that he is smart and that idiots can't do this. Ryuji thinks to himself that his uncle's true ugly nature has been revealed. He addresses the entire hypnotized group, his command now absolute over their minds. The relatives stare forward, their expressions slack and completely suggestible. Later, Ryuji reflects that his hypnosis skill is incredibly effective on these weak-willed people. Several funeral offering envelopes tied with black and white ribbons lie on a table. His aunt asks if the traditional return gift will be half the amount they offered. The relatives leave, thanking him for his guidance, completely manipulated and unaware. A flashback shows him withdrawing his parents' savings from an ATM machine. He then went to a consumer finance office to take out the largest possible loan. He put all of this borrowed money into the envelopes he gave to them. He knows the contents of the envelopes were not the inheritance they expected. Kneeling before the altar, he hopes they learn a painful lesson from his deception. He wonders if his parents would have survived if he had been in the car. He thinks that if they had lived, his monstrous relatives would never have appeared. His face etched with sorrow, he questions if what he did to them was right. Alone and overwhelmed, he finally breaks down, weeping for the first time before their ashes. A black panel signifies the passage of time, a new chapter beginning. The sky is clear and bright. Several weeks have passed since the funeral. Yoshiko walks with Ryuji, asking if he has seen TV, but he talks about anime. She clarifies she means the news, excitedly telling him dungeons have appeared worldwide. Ryuji repeats the word dungeons, feigning ignorance of the world-changing event. Yoshiko explains they're like in games and that the world's armies have failed to explore them. She adds that the world's resources are also vanishing, asking if it isn't a terrible situation. She panics about civilization collapsing into a primitive era where she couldn't survive. Ryuji's first thought is that in a primitive era, he wouldn't be able to watch anime. Yoshiko talks about political squabbles over resource treaties, but Ryuji thinks it's not the time. She insists the timing of the resources vanishing and dungeons appearing is no coincidence. He tells her he'll look into it, and she warns him the internet is a chaotic mess. He knows his investigation won't be on the internet. His destination is the dungeon itself. The dungeon entrance is cordoned off with police tape and guarded by stern-faced officers. Using his invisibility magic, Ryuji walks right past the unsuspecting guards. He strolls through the police line, completely unseen by the authorities. He thinks how easy it is to get past the heavy security with his invisibility magic. He approaches the massive stone entrance, noting its strangely familiar design. He stands at the top of a long, dark staircase, plunging deep into the earth. Inside, he touches the wall, confirming that this dungeon feels strangely familiar to him. He realizes that if it's the same one, then this is a dungeon he has already cleared. He looks down a dark corridor and sees the first floor is filled with gelatinous slimes. He confirms the second floor is crawling with the same snarling, green-skinned goblins. He walks through a ruined chamber, certain it's identical to the otherworld's dungeon. He crouches down amidst the rubble, confirming his suspicions. It is the same place. He sits before the massive corpse of a great dragon, seeing a glimmer of hope. He realizes that by endlessly hunting these respawning monsters, the resource problem can be solved. He deduces that this world's weapons must be ineffective against these magical monsters. He recalls the adventurers of the otherworld, warriors who hunted monsters for resources. He summons his item box to store the dragon's valuable materials for later. Standing in the vast empty hall, he calmly says the word for his escape skill. A brilliant column of light envelops him, instantly teleporting him away from the depths. He reappears near the exit on the dungeon's first floor, his investigation complete. His stomach growls loudly. He decides to buy a bento box on the way home. He pauses, sensing that something about him has changed, a questioning thought in his mind. He looks at his palm and sees a glowing level 1 has appeared there. He notes with confusion that this strange number wasn't on his hand before he entered. He attempts to cast a dispel spell, but the glowing number remains, unaffected by his magic. He studied the strange mark that had materialized on his hand, a glowing level 1. Ryuji tried to dispel it with magic, but concluded that it had no effect. Nearby, a police guard turned to his partner, asking if he heard a strange sound. Preparing to leave, Ryuji quietly incanted the spell for invisibility. Now unseen, he strolled past the guards, thinking how convenient invisibility magic was. The lead guard narrowed his eyes, still feeling a sense of unease. Ryuji looked at the massive dungeon, wondering what would happen when resources ran out. The other guard told his partner it was just his imagination. With a final decision made, Ryuji closed his eyes and prepared to teleport away. The world warped around him as he used his teleportation skill to escape. In an instant, the familiar sight of his own house appeared before him. He materialized in his entryway, kicking off his school shoes as he arrived. His form solidified in his room, the teleportation magic perfectly executed. He called out a customary, "I'm home," the words echoing in the empty house. A sudden, disappointing realization struck him. He had forgotten to buy a bento box. Utterly exhausted from the day's events, he collapsed face first onto his bed. He let out a deep sigh, too tired to even think about going out again. The silence of the house was suddenly broken by the chime of the doorbell. He opened the door to find Yoshiko, who asked why he hadn't changed clothes yet. She had brought a delicious-looking meal of beef stew, salad, and crusty bread. Ryuji's eyes lit up as he exclaimed how amazing the food looked. Saying his thanks, he immediately began to eat with ravenous enthusiasm. He praised her mother's amazing cooking, but Yoshiko proudly said she made the salad. He cheekily observed that it just looked like she had cut and arranged it. After he finished every last bite, the plates were left completely clean. He suggested they play a video game, but she immediately shot him down. Yoshiko looked away, saying she wasn't in the mood to hang out with him. Ryuji was slightly taken aback by her sudden and sharp refusal. Changing the subject, he held up his hand, telling her to look at it. She leaned in close, looking at his open palm with a curious expression. From her perspective, his hand was completely normal. She asked what she was seeing. Ryuji sat back, realizing with certainty that she couldn't see the level display. A new idea forming, he asked Yoshiko to let him see her hand. She agreed, though she was still a little confused by his strange behavior. He gently took both of her hands, examining her palms with intense focus. He confirmed his suspicion. There was nothing there, no mark at all. Yoshiko's face turned a deep shade of red, completely misinterpreting his actions. Flustered, she snatched her hands back, asking what was wrong with him. She quickly said her goodbyes and left, waving as Ryuji thanked her again. He watched her go, his mind processing the new information he had gathered. The level display was definitely related to the dungeons, but why was he level 1? With so little information, he felt tired just thinking about the annoying mystery. He decided to sleep on it, resolving to investigate the Ueno dungeon tomorrow. Night fell over the Furuya household as Ryuji drifted into a deep sleep. In the dark dungeon corridors, a squad of riot police advanced cautiously. Their commander yelled at them not to let their guard down in this strange place. One officer muttered that they were being too paranoid, given their numbers. A single drop of viscous fluid landed on the officer's helmet from above. He looked up just in time to see the monstrous threat descending upon him. A massive slime dropped from the ceiling, completely engulfing the unsuspecting officer. Trapped within the creature, the man's armor and body began to dissolve. The other officers shouted warnings as more slimes appeared on the ceiling above. Another officer cried out in pain as a slime latched onto his side. The commander ordered his men to surround the main slime and attack it. The face of the trapped officer contorted in agony as the acid burned him. An officer reported the slime was slowing. The commander yelled to destroy its core. A well-aimed baton strike shattered the shimmering core within the creature's body. The slime convulsed violently before melting away from its victim's corpse. The squad stared at the scene, relieved to have defeated the monster. The commander ordered his men to recover the valuable slime jelly and magic stone. He then assigned a team to stand guard while the others collected the materials. The commander asked for a casualty report. Patrolman Satu had been killed instantly. 2 officers knelt by their fallen comrade, asking if they should press on. The commander grimly noted that this was only the 17th magic stone they had found. Declaring the mission over, he ordered a full withdrawal from the dungeon. Outside, a makeshift command post was set up with police vans and patrol cars. A young officer was brought before his superior to deliver his report. The stern-faced superior asked to see the level display on the officer's hand. The young officer complied, presenting his hand for his superior's inspection. The superior officer stared at the hand for a long moment, his face unreadable. He then dismissed the officer, telling him to take paid leave and get counseling. The young officer looked down, dejected, as he was sent from the room. Just as he was leaving, the superior called out, asking what his hand displayed. The young officer turned back and reported that he was a level 2 monk. The superior officer watched him go, a thoughtful expression on his face. He then looked at his own hand, revealing that he was a level 3 warrior. The next morning, Yoshiko ran to greet Ryuji as he walked to school. She immediately brought up the strange numbers appearing on people's hands. She excitedly explained that some people were awakening as adventurers with levels and jobs. She relayed the latest news. America had over 20, but Japan only had a few. Ryuji realized his own level 1. Jobless status must be some kind of bug. Yoshiko gushed that if she had a trait, she'd be looking at her hand constantly. Ryuji could only look on, slightly bewildered by her intense excitement. As they arrived at school, Yoshiko said it wasn't cool to just copy everyone else. Ryuji entered his classroom and was greeted formally by a classmate. He immediately noticed a crowd of students gathered in a corner, causing a stir. A student named Yokoyama was bragging that he was an adventurer, a fact he was hiding. Ryuji's classmate confirmed that Yokoyama did indeed have an adventurer trait. A close-up showed Yokoyama's smug, self-satisfied expression as he held court. Ryuji learned that a new law now banned middle schoolers from the dungeons. The school bell rang sharply, signaling the beginning of homeroom. The teacher called for Yokoyama to report to the principal's office immediately. As Yokoyama left with a wave, his classmates whispered that he was being scouted. The classroom door slid shut behind the school's newly minted celebrity. Ryuji watched him go, a pensive and unreadable expression on his face. As the lesson began, Ryuji raised his hand, asking to be excused for the restroom. He told a classmate he'd be gone for a while, who joked he didn't need to know. He walked down the empty school hallway toward the men's restroom. Inside a stall, he sat down and activated his clairvoyance skill. His vision focused on the principal's office, where Yokoyama met with a government agent. In the principal's office, an agent explains that adventurers are a precious global resource. Ryuji, watching through clairvoyance, is surprised to learn of their importance. The agent asks for the boy's status. Yokoyama lies, claiming to be a level 6 thief. The agent is impressed, noting this level rivals the top American adventurer. From his hiding spot, Ryuji admits that for Yokoyama, that's not bad at all. The agent asks if a level 6 adventurer has ever seen a particular item. He holds up a device, explaining it's a rare dungeon drop known as a scouter. This device, he explains, allows the user to see another person's hidden level. Yokoyama's eyes sparkle with excitement, exclaiming that he wants a scouter too. The agent asks to verify his level, but Yokoyama bows and apologizes profusely. He tearfully confesses he has no trait and has never even entered a dungeon. Ryuji is utterly baffled by the sudden, pathetic confession he has just witnessed. The agent dismisses the boy, telling him to call if a trait ever manifests. In the bathroom, Ryuji is amazed someone would actually try such a foolish lie. The scene shifts to the massive Ueno dungeon, surrounded by a keep-out fence. A government office now restricts entry, citing the extreme danger of exploration. A man named Shishu worries they won't get in, but his subordinate, Kunimi, is confident. Kunimi presents their paperwork, demanding access as a citizen's right to explore. A wary official silently reviews their documents, his expression one of annoyance. After confirming their papers are in order, the official grants them permission to pass. Inside, Shicho is impressed, and Kunimi says he prepared by watching online videos. Kunimi checks his hand, frustrated that he doesn't seem to possess an adventure trait. Shichu looks at his own palm, confirming that he doesn't have a trait either. Kunimi smiles, insisting they can still defeat a first-floor slime without any special powers. Shichu is nervous, but Kunimi reassures him, saying he studied the strategy guides. They use a strange gimbaled lantern to illuminate the dark stone corridors before them. Shichu is amazed strategy videos exist, but Kunimi clarifies they're just notes and talk. Kunimi consults his hand-drawn map, shining his light on a nearby stone column. He realizes with a sweat drop that a passage on the map doesn't exist here. His boss asks what's wrong, but Kunimi nervously insists that everything is fine. He dismisses the error, thinking the video creator must have made a simple mistake. Suddenly, a massive gelatinous slime oozes into the corridor, blocking their path. Both men shout in alarm as the monster appears right in front of them. Kunimi tells his boss to follow him, planning to lure it into a dead end. He turns the corner only to find a second slime blocking their only escape route. He realizes with dawning horror that the strategy information was completely wrong. Far away, the scene shifts to a modern apartment building under a clear sky. A man with a bowl cut celebrates as his video's view count skyrockets. His blonde associate asks about the fake dungeon video, and he brags about its success. She wonders who watches it. He cruelly speculates it's desperate, laid-off salarymen. Back in the dungeon, Kunimi knows fighting even one slime is tough. 2 is impossible. He bravely tells his boss to run while he provides a distraction for the monsters. Shichu can only watch in horror, calling out Kunimi's name in desperation. Kunimi lets out a desperate war cry, swinging a baseball bat at the slime. He watches in shock as the bat begins to dissolve in the slime's acidic body. He cries out as his only weapon melts away, leaving him completely defenseless. A glob of acid splashes from the creature, striking him directly on the leg. He screams in agony, his legs searing with pain from the corrosive attack. The slime looms over him, its gelatinous body ready to engulf its helpless prey. He squeezes his eyes shut, believing that this is the moment of his death. Shachu suddenly intervenes, striking the slime with a cane, demanding it release Kunimi. Lying on the ground, Kunimi can only stammer his boss's title in utter shock. Shachu tells his subordinate to wait, promising that he will save him from this. He tells Kunimi to run, reminding him that he has a wife and daughter waiting. He declares he won't abandon his subordinate, vowing that he won't let Kunimi die. Kunimi stares, watching his boss prepare to sacrifice himself for his sake. His mind flashes back to the past, a single bead of sweat on his brow. He remembers meeting his boss for the first time, 3 years ago. Shachu was a convenience store manager, promising to support Kunimi's rehabilitation. He recalls his boss's kindness, even when Kunimi was listless and unmotivated. His co-workers made excuses for him, but Shachu saw his hidden potential. Shachu believed everyone deserved a second chance, a philosophy Kunimi initially distrusted. Thugs from his old life cornered him, trying to drag him back into crime. Kunimi refused to help them, threatening to call the police if they persisted. The thugs began to beat him, enraged by his defiance and newfound morality. The leader of the thugs asked his cronies what they should do with the truck. Beaten and bleeding, Kunimi begged them not to touch the truck and to spare him. Another memory surfaces, Shachu setting a truck on fire to protect him. The scene shifts to a modern hospital where Kunimi recovered from his injuries. Bandaged and defeated in a wheelchair, Kunimi felt his life was completely over. Shachu burst into his room, his face etched with worry, asking if he was all right. Kunimi could only apologize for the loss of the truck and its valuable cargo. Shachu told him not to worry, that insurance and funds would cover the loss. Kunimi stared at his boss, his heart filled with a profound sense of gratitude. With tears in his eyes, Shachu told him a truck is replaceable, but he is not. Back in the dungeon, Kunimi weeps, blaming himself for trusting the fake video. He closes his eyes, offering a desperate prayer to any god that might be listening. He begs for his boss, this kind and selfless man, to be saved from death. A powerful jet of acid sends Shachu flying through the air against the wall. As the second slime attacks, a new figure appears in the corridor, just in time. Ryuji arrives, pulling up his mask, glad that he managed to make it in time. He kneels, casting healing magic on the fallen men, telling them not to move. Kunimi stares in wide-eyed shock, unable to believe they have actually been saved. Shachu lies on the ground, his body slowly recovering from the brutal attack. Ryuji calmly assesses their condition, confirming that his healing magic is working. Kunimi thanks him profusely, saying his prayer was answered and they would have died. He asks for his savior's name, but Ryuji insists on remaining anonymous. Ryuji advises them to get better equipment or they will surely die next time. He points them to a slime spawn point, then leaves to find a scouter. Kunimi's eyes narrow in thought as he watches the mysterious boy walk away. He marvels at how this boy defeated 2 slimes instantly, a feat beyond the SDF. A diagram explains the scouter, a rare item that reveals another's hidden status. The few scouters found have all been purchased by the Japanese government for huge sums. Back home, Ryuji holds one of these priceless devices, his expression determined. He puts it to his eye, joking that his combat power is a mere 3. He admires his cool reflection in the mirror, pleased with his new acquisition. The doorbell chimes, the sound echoing from the front of his suburban home. He opens the door to find Yoshiko, who has come over for a study session. She immediately spots the device, asking in shock if he's wearing a scouter. Ryuji freezes, a bead of sweat on his forehead, realizing his critical mistake. Yoshiko excitedly asks where he bought the scouter, suggesting they do couples cosplay. She wants one for herself, asking where they're sold, revealing her status to him. A sudden exclamation mark flashes in his vision as his eyes widen in utter shock. Through the lens, glowing words on her palm reveal she is a level 1 warrior. Noticing his stunned silence, a concerned Yoshiko asks him what is the matter. He realizes she has an adventurer trait, despite never having entered a dungeon. Knowing her personality, he is certain she would rush to become an adventurer. He recalls the many novices he saw perish after entering dungeons without a guide. He lies claiming the scouter is a rare, non-sale item won in a lottery. For now, he decides to put it aside. He will face this problem later. He reflects on his own status, thinking his job display is bugged and his level odd. He steers the conversation back to their original plan, suggesting they get to studying. While studying, she asks how his grades suddenly improved, making him first in their year. He calmly explains that he simply studied by reading through the course textbooks. Yoshiko playfully teases him, demanding the real reason and accusing him of cheating. A jolt of panic strikes him as he struggles to find a believable excuse. He confesses that his intelligence increased after he went to the other world. He watches her reaction, his expression serious as he offers this partial truth. Completely misunderstanding, Yoshiko asks him to clarify which other world he means. She assumes he means the cram school, wishing she had attended the winter session. He realizes she's talking about a cram school, a world away from his truth. His mind is thrown back in time to a memory of his grueling training. He recalls a long, perilous corridor deep within a familiar dungeon. As a novice, he faced a massive, heavily armored kappa turtle monster alone. He celebrates a seeming victory, thinking magic works well against tough opponents. Daenerys calmly informs him the monster will regenerate without destroying its core. His sword clangs uselessly against the impossibly hard shell, chipping the blade. Daenerys realizes a novice shouldn't be fighting this monster alone and offers to help. He looks on with a nervous sweat, embarrassed by his own weakness. The princess offers him a small, encouraging, and slightly mischievous smile. Annoyed, he insists that he is fine and can handle the situation himself. The monster suddenly regenerates and sends the young hero flying across the floor. In desperation, he begins to cast a powerful magic spell from midair. He casts a thunder spell, a complex magic circle appearing before him. The lightning sparks uselessly as Daenerys sighs that this will take a long time. In the middle of the dungeon, an elegant tea set has been magically conjured. While he struggles, Princess Daenerys calmly sips tea, waiting for him to finish. After a long and arduous battle, his sword finally shatters the monster's core. Panting with exhaustion, he finally declares victory over the kappa turtle. A strange, sparkling energy suddenly envelops his body as he feels a change. His body feels lighter and his vision sharpens. He recognizes this sensation. Daenerys notes that he has leveled up and suggests they finally take a break. He asks about the tea set, and she explains she used her item box skill. As she demonstrates the skill, Ryuji wishes he had such a convenient power. He asks if levels exist in her world, since there is no status display. She confirms the feeling of lightness was a level up, surprised he didn't know. He laments that if he had known, he would have kept count of his levels. Daenerys reassures him that he can remember, offering him some baked sweets. He questions her, asking if it is truly possible for him to remember. She explains leveling up boosts intelligence, granting perfect recall of all experiences. Holding a cookie, he realizes that defeating monsters actually makes him smarter. With a slight blush, Daenerys confirms that, in simple terms, he is correct. He thinks he'll be a genius back home, as Daenerys asks about the cookie. Mid-chew, his senses scream a warning as his eyes dart sharply to the side. The princess also looks over, her expression shifting from calm to sudden shock. The kappa turtle has respawned with shocking speed, charging at their tea party. They abandon the elegant tea set and flee from the resurrected monster's attack. With his new level, he easily dodges the monster's attack with newfound agility. He lands a decisive blow, shattering its horn and defeating it for good. Landing lightly on his feet, he feels the difference in his own movements. He looks at the defeated beast, realizing the battle was much easier this time. He understands his stats improved due to the level up, explaining his new strength. On the floor lies the heart-shaped cookie he dropped, now broken in two. Daenerys trembles, her hands clenched as she mutters about her ruined sweets. He watches her, wondering if she really liked those baked sweets that much. Back in the present, he recalls his first battle where he defeated 3 slimes. He remembers reaching level 73 after fighting goblins, marveling at his perfect memory. A thrilling idea strikes him. He could recall every line of his favorite anime. By the time he defeated the Demon Lord, his level had surpassed 1400. A flashback shows his school, where the teacher announces the start of the exam. He sits calmly in the classroom, the test paper placed before him on the desk. Having read the textbook only once, he feels confident he can solve every problem. He thinks to himself that all his hard work in the other world was worth it. The teacher announces the results. Furuya is first in the grade with 496 points. He clenches his fist in a small private victory as he receives his test. The teacher calls on him, asking him to come to the staff room later. He looks up in surprise, not expecting to be called out by the teacher. The school bell chimes, signaling the end of the class period. Classmates crowd his desk, amazed that he is secretly a top-scoring genius. He waves them off, saying he has to go see the teacher as requested. He walks towards the door, marked with a sign for the staff room. His teacher discusses prestigious university paths, which Ryuji agrees to consider. He walks away thinking he has failed. Standing out is just a huge hassle. He decides to aim for an average score next time to avoid drawing attention. He didn't risk his life defeating the Demon Lord to live a stressful life. Back in the present, Yoshiko asks if he wants to hear her elaborate story idea. He can only stare back at her, completely lost for words by her question. It's simply too much to expect him to believe her fantastical story. She's amazed by his intellect, calling him a true hero from another world. Their study session is punctuated by a break with plenty of snacks and soda. Yoshiko remarks that using your brain makes you crave sweets, and he agrees. Suddenly, Yoshiko has an idea and asks Ryuji to go to the level assessment. He looks surprised by her sudden suggestion, repeating the words level assessment. She explains the government is holding an official assessment for adventurer high schools. She playfully asks if he's curious about his own otherworld adventurer stats. He tries to feign disinterest, simply replying with a hesitant, no? His complete lack of curiosity leaves her looking surprised and a little confused. Internally, he knows the truth. He is already well aware he has a trait. He claims it's too much of a hassle, but she sees right through his act. She looks at him intently, her expression serious as she asks, really? Yoshiko stands before Ryuji, her shoulders slumped in dejection after he turned her down. She looks up, fidgeting nervously, and admits she is too scared to go alone. Ryuji recognizes her signature move, the puppy dog eyes he could never resist. With a hopeful blush, Yoshiko asks if he will please go with her. He sighs in defeat, and she beams, praising the former hero for his kindness. She waves a cheerful goodbye from his gate, leaving him to his thoughts. Ryuji contemplates the upcoming level assessment with a growing sense of unease. His mind flashes back to a time when he walked a dungeon with Princess Daenerys. He recalls asking her if a world without visible levels wasn't inconvenient. Daenerys thoughtfully replied that while convenient, it could also cause a lot of trouble. She explained that there are rumors of adventurers who can see levels in some regions. Ryuji, confused, asked why she thought having visible levels would be a problem. She called him a fool, asking if he would look down on her if he leveled up. He was genuinely surprised, insisting that he would never do such a thing. He reminded her of the immense power her kingdom used just to summon him. Daenerys was taken aback, surprised by the sudden serious turn in their conversation. He explained that her success in such a difficult summoning was an amazing feat. Her eyes widened as she listened intently, his words cutting through her usual defenses. He continued, saying she had to raise a weak middle schooler without letting him die. She was captivated by his earnest praise, her usual tsundere guard now completely gone. He told her that he could never do what she did. She was truly incredible. He declared that even at level 1000, he could never look down on the princess. His heartfelt words brought tears to her eyes as her cheeks flushed deeply. Overwhelmed with emotion, Daenerys completely covered her face with her hands. Ryuji, baffled by her reaction, apologized if he had said something to upset her. She shouted at him to be quiet, completely flustered by his sincere compliments. That day marked the first time their dungeon exploration was cut short by Daenerys' request. Back in the present, Ryuji lies on his bed, worrying about his world's new hierarchy. He reassures himself that as a level 1400 plus hero, he at least will be fine. But the glowing level 1 that stubbornly remains on his palm gives him pause. A bad feeling about the whole situation begins to creep over him. The scene shifts to a large, modern government building, the seat of power. Inside, officials brief Prime Minister Takahashi on the global race to explore dungeons. The Prime Minister states that with resources gone, dungeons are now the only way forward. An aide agrees, stressing the urgency of sending more adventurers into the dungeons. He explains Japan's advantage, many dungeons and a high rate of adventurer traits. The Prime Minister asks for other ideas to incentivize exploration besides raising prices. An official suggests cultivating young talent through new laws and level assessments. The Prime Minister considers authorizing adventurer high schools, a crucial decision for the nation. The scene shifts to the exterior of the bustling level assessment venue. A massive, noisy crowd of teenagers waits in a long line to be tested. Ryuji notes the huge number of people, while Yoshiko remarks that all the kids from their school are there. He overhears someone say that just hunting slimes pays more than a salaryman's job. Inside, a disappointed student shouts at an official, demanding they check his status again. The official calmly tells the boy to show him his status, threatening a massive fine. The dejected student walks away toward the exit, cursing his bad luck. Ryuji asks if the boy didn't have a trait, and Yoshiko says she feels for him. Using his enhanced senses, Ryuji reads the thoughts of the exhausted assessor. He notes internally that the man conducting the test looks incredibly tired. An announcer calls the next person to the desk, Yoshiko Mihashi. The official confirms her status as a level 1 warrior, and she squeals with delight. A group of boys from their school are shocked to see her get a trait. Another student remarks that it seems having an adventurer trait is rarer than they thought. The official recommends she apply to an adventurer high school, and she eagerly agrees. The next name is called Ryuji Furuya. He steps forward to be tested. He presents his hand to the official, who wears a large, headset-like scouter. The official frowns, looking through a smaller monocle-style device for a second opinion. Ryuji asks what's wrong, wondering aloud if his job failed to display properly. The official informs him that, according to the scouter, no level display was found. Ryuji insists, asking the man to please check again more carefully. Yoshiko tries to calm him down, but he adamantly states he has an adventurer trait. A female official whispers to her superior that she can see a level 1 display. The head assessor thinks to himself that the boy has no job and is better off quitting. Ryuji asks what he means, but the assessor snaps that the situation is a hassle. Ryuji and Yoshiko listen as the man begins his dismissive explanation. The assessor lectures on the importance of party balance and job-specific skills. He states bluntly that being jobless means he's nothing more than useless baggage. Ryuji argues that maybe his job just isn't being displayed for some reason. The assessor clicks his tongue in annoyance, his patience clearly wearing thin. He slams the desk, shouting that he's a level 6 beast tamer who's been to the 5th floor. The assessor yells that Ryuji has no idea how dangerous the dungeons truly are. Ryuji deadpans that he, a hero, has been all the way to the 999th floor. The crowd murmurs, and Yoshiko tells Ryuji that he's being too persistent. Ryuji apologizes, claiming his imagination ran away since he has never been in a dungeon. The assessor watches him go, a suspicious look lingering on his face. Yoshiko tells Ryuji it's time to leave, and he quietly agrees. The assessor wonders how the boy knew about the Mad Bee, as that information is classified. Walking home, Yoshiko apologizes for being so worked up, and Ryuji says he's sorry too. She suggests that since they both have traits, they should take the Adventurer High School exam together. Their conversation is interrupted by another student, Itu, from Yoshiko's class. Itu cheerfully announces that he was also assessed as a level 1 adventurer, a hunter. Yoshiko is thrilled, exclaiming that it's amazing he has a trait too. Ryuji watches them, thinking how nice it is, his own secret status remaining hidden. Itu invites Yoshiko to a briefing session about jobs, and she considers it. He insists that it's best to go and learn more, and she happily agrees. She waves to Ryuji, telling him that she'll see him later. Itu tells Yoshiko he's relieved to have another person he knows with a trait. Ryuji watches them walk away together, a thoughtful expression on his face. The scene shifts to a grand Gothic dungeon in the Earl of Hakusu's territory. A group of translucent, multi-eyed slimes oozes down the ornate corridor. A knight remarks that slimes are cute, but his comrades warn him to stay alert. Their blonde leader, Isabella, rallies them, ordering the party into formation. A knight screams as he is suddenly struck by one of the slimes. The party fights back with fireballs and healing spells, supporting one another. A knight wonders where the monsters come from, just as Isabella shouts a warning. She leaps forward, her great sword slicing through an ambushing slime with a wet slash. A party member thanks her, and she explains the monsters likely respawn over time. One adventurer notes that the system of jobs and levels is just like a game. Isabella agrees with a sharp smile, adding that unlike a game, you can get hurt. She sits at the top of a dark staircase, ready to descend to the 2nd floor. A priestess and a witch walk through a dungeon, discussing their fear of goblins. Suddenly, a grotesque, leering goblin looms up from the darkness behind the witch. The witch lets out a terrified scream as the monster grabs her from behind. With a surge of adrenaline, she shoves the creature away with all her might. She unleashes a powerful fireball spell at the advancing, lecherous goblin. The creature's body smolders on the ground, instantly incinerated by the blast. Isabella praises the witch, noting that her hard work in leveling up has paid off. The witch blushes, grateful for the expensive MP potion her leader offers her. The priestess remarks how creepy real goblins are compared to their fantasy counterparts. Isabella declares that she will take the rearguard position on the 2nd floor. A monstrous, clawed foot steps out from a dark side passage ahead of them. A horde of snarling goblins suddenly swarms the unsuspecting adventuring party. Isabella leaps forward, her sword a blur of motion as she cuts down the monsters. The remaining goblins are momentarily stunned by her ferocious and elegant attack. The knights worry as more goblins gather, shouting for everyone to protect Isabella. Isabella continues her graceful assault, a whirlwind of steel among the creatures. The witch cheekily points out that Isabella is protecting the knights, not the reverse. The priestess argues that their leader's stamina isn't infinite and will need healing. Spurred by her words, the knights rally, vowing to cover their leader's back. The sounds of a fierce and desperate battle echo through the stone corridor. After the fight, the knights are left panting heavily, utterly exhausted from the effort. The priestess prepares to cast a healing spell on the weary warriors. A wave of restorative light emanates from Isabella, healing the grateful knights. She explains she learned healing upon reaching level 10 as a holy knight. The party emerges from the dungeon, gathering on the lawn before a grand manor. Isabella empties her item box, revealing a massive hoard of valuable loot. She calculates their earnings at £100,000 to be split evenly among them. Her party members thank her profusely, overjoyed by their successful dungeon run. A harsh voice commands them to wait as a polished shoe steps into frame. An imperious older man appears, immediately chiding Isabella for her indecent armor. Isabella recognizes the man as Duke Grosvenor and his son Wyatt. The Duke asserts his authority, reminding her the dungeon is on his family's land. He coldly demands 50% of all their earnings as his tribute. Isabella stares back in shocked disbelief at his completely outrageous demand. The Duke reiterates that 50% of all profits must be given to him. Her party members are aghast at the thought of giving up half their loot. Isabella flatly refuses, stating she cannot take the rewards from her party members. She argues the dungeon is too dangerous and that she is negotiating state management. The Duke dismisses the danger, calling the dungeon a goose that lays golden eggs. Isabella counters that leveling up alone cannot solve the dungeon's inherent dangers. He scoffs at her, noting the world record for solo clearing is only 8 floors. He suspects her true plan is to monopolize government dungeon management contracts. A close-up shows his internal monologue, convinced of her greedy intentions. The Duke leaves, demanding his £50,000 and making a veiled threat. Isabella and her party stand in stunned silence as a light rain begins to fall. She wonders if she will forever be trapped under the Duke's oppressive control. The scene shifts continents, focusing on a map of Japan and its capital, Tokyo. Outside Ryuji's modern 2-story home, a sudden sneeze breaks the silence. Ryuji wonders what is wrong, as he has been sneezing for a while. He worries he might have a cold, though he hasn't been sick since leveling up. Just in case, he casts status recovery and heal on himself with a thought. Feeling better, he decides it's time to head out on his planned mission. Dressed in his adventurer gear, he resolves to go clear the Weno Park dungeon. He closes his eyes and quietly casts an invisibility spell upon himself. In a brilliant swirl of light, he activates teleportation and vanishes instantly. He materializes outside the massive, craggy entrance to the Weno Park dungeon. Inside, he moves like a phantom, a blur passing by oblivious goblins. He descends deeper and deeper into the dungeon's seemingly endless stone depths. He reaches the 999th floor, confirming it's the same dangerous Demon Lord's dungeon. He knows that on the floor below, this is where the Demon Lord once resided. A colossal shadowed form looms on a throne in the vast final chamber. Using his detection skill, he knows the entity is one he has fought before. He enters the throne room, facing the entity known as the Demon Lord. He looks up at a colossal jet-black dragon, a dungeon boss he's never seen. A close-up shows the massive draconic wing, emphasizing its immense scale. The great beast reveals itself fully, smoke curling from its maw. It is not the Demon Lord. Ryuji draws his glowing sword, the Godslayer, ready to test its might. He activates his flight skill and launches himself directly toward the beast. The dragon lunges with incredible speed, its massive jaws snapping shut on air. Ryuji marvels at the creature's speed, so unlike its massive, powerful body. He lands a powerful blow on the dragon's flank, but his sword bounces off. He realizes with certainty that the Godslayer is ineffective against its tough hide. The dragon's massive tail smashes into the ground where Ryuji was a moment before. The dragon glares down at him, smoke billowing from its nostrils with menace. He sees that the very tip of its tail has been cleanly severed by his attack. The dragon takes to the air, seeming to notice its newly severed tail. Ryuji realizes with surprise that the dragon has just now noticed its own injury. The beast flies erratically, thrown off balance by the loss of its tail tip. It swoops low across the chamber, struggling to maintain stable flight. The dragon charges forward clumsily, unable to properly maneuver in the air. Ryuji understands that aerial combat is no longer an option for the dragon. Now grounded, the dragon unleashes a volley of glowing fireballs toward him. Ryuji leaps through the air, easily dodging the incoming magical projectiles. He casts Arrow of Ice to counter the dragon's fiery assault with his own magic. The spells collide mid-air, and he notes the dragon's firepower is superior. A massive condensed fireball appears from a blind spot, catching him off guard. The sphere of scorching energy explodes with a deafening, brilliant flash. The impact sends a shockwave through the chamber, kicking up clouds of dust. Ryuji lies on the ground, groaning theatrically that he has been hit. The dragon glares down at his prone form, believing its opponent to be defeated. It begins to chant in an ancient, runic language to cast a powerful spell. A colossal meteor materializes above, preparing to descend upon the chamber. Ryuji looks up from the ground, his expression completely calm and unimpressed. He reveals he was only pretending to be defeated, having hope for a longer fight. The dragon looks down, stunned, as Ryuji rises to his feet completely unharmed. Ryuji calmly notes that he was able to cancel the meteor spell, saving himself. He feels the familiar, sparkling sensation of a level up washing over him. He counts the increments, realizing he gained 12 levels all at once. He checks his palm, but the glowing display remains stubbornly unchanged. Level 1. He surveys the dragon's massive corpse in the vast field of glittering dropped items. In the vast, empty chamber, Ryuji searches for something specific. A triumphant smile lights his face as he finds the dungeon core. He holds the glowing artifact, a key to free dungeon travel. The old core was useless, but this one will be a great help. He groans, realizing he might have to collect every dungeon's core. He faces the mountain of loot, wondering how to carry it all. To his shock, his item box absorbs the entire hoard effortlessly. He realizes his inventory has never actually been filled to capacity. On the dungeon's peak, he resolves to begin his grand plan. He teleports home, calling out to the silent, empty house. In bed, he knows he must act before Yoshiko becomes a victim. As he sleeps, he dreams of building the special item he needs. His bedroom desk is shown, cluttered with a computer and tools. A closer look reveals a custom drone and cameras being assembled. The next morning, Yoshiko greets him, asking about the dungeon news. He compliments her hair, and she playfully says his is cuter. She relays a frightening rumor of monsters overflowing from a dungeon. She worries that if monsters spread, humanity could be wiped out. She claims ancient civilizations were also destroyed by dungeon outbreaks. Her source is a paranormal magazine, which Ryuji finds surprisingly credible. Their conversation is interrupted by a new voice calling for Yoshiko. A boy named Itu greets her, his face flushed with a shy smile. Yoshiko blushes, asking if he had been waiting for her. Ryuji recognizes the boy as Itu, the level 1 hunter. Itu tells Yoshiko her new hairstyle is very cute. She beams with happiness, thanking him for the compliment. The two of them agree to walk to school together. As they leave, Ryuji is struck by a strange, unsettling feeling. He watches them walk away down the street, feeling left behind. He questions if this strange emotion could be romantic jealousy. He imagines the two of them looking at each other affectionately. The uncomfortable feeling in his chest continues to grow. He pictures Yoshiko's happy, blushing face as she talks to Itu. His own expression is a mask of confusion and inner turmoil. He strokes his chin, trying to analyze this unfamiliar feeling. He continues to ponder the true nature of his emotions. He likens it to a father seeing his daughter with a boyfriend. With a flash of insight, he realizes Yoshiko is like family. The school day begins, the bell ringing through the building. A classmate tells Ryuji about victims of fake online dungeon guides. He worries that for every survivor, many more have likely died. Ryuji wonders why anyone would believe such obvious misinformation. The classmate mentions Itu and another student are studying those videos. Ryuji is stunned and alarmed to hear Yoshiko is involved. He excuses himself, telling his classmate he's going to the restroom. He walks purposefully down the hall toward the men's room. Inside a stall, he confirms the online guides are nothing but lies. He wonders if the creators have some malicious incentive. Knowing this can't continue, he activates his item box skill. He reaches deep into the shimmering portal that appears before him. With a grunt, he pulls something out of the magical space. He now stands face to face with a perfect copy of himself. He admires his own handiwork, noting how well made the double is. The silent replica stands before him, a flawless imitation. He recalls using a cruder version to distract a monster once. He is confident this perfect copy won't be discovered in class. He instructs the doll to cover for him until after school. With his alibi in place, he activates his teleportation skill. He instantly materializes back in the quiet of his own home. At his desk, he quickly books a flight and pays online. He pauses before the framed memorial photos of his parents. He brings his hands together in a gesture of respect. He quietly asks them for permission to use some of their money. With his backpack on, he confirms he has everything and departs. His expression is one of grim and focused determination. As he leaves, he remembers he almost forgot something important. He teleports directly to the entrance of Tokyo International Airport. Inside a men's restroom, he cancels his invisibility spell. He remembers coming here before to see his father off. He walks out, marveling at how convenient his powers are. He feels a nervous excitement about his very first flight. He worries about what might happen going through security. He reflects that the money he's using isn't exactly honestly earned. He scans his ticket and proceeds through the boarding gate. He walks down the aisle of the airplane, looking for his seat. The plane soars high above a sea of white, fluffy clouds. He looks out the window, impressed by non-magical flight. His flight lands safely at Kochi-Ryoma Airport in Kochi. From there, he takes a large tour bus toward the coast. He arrives at Katsurahama Beach, a new teleportation point unlocked. A note explains teleportation only works for previously visited locations. He sees a massive, noisy crowd lining up for the dungeon. Using his invisibility, he walks straight through the checkpoint. He looks at the dungeon island, surprised by how busy it is. He overhears another party relying on the fake internet guides. He finds a secluded, empty corridor to begin his real work. He activates his detection skill, creating a wireframe map. As expected, the dungeon's layout is identical to one he knows. He opens his item box to retrieve his special equipment. He pulls out a custom-made drone-style golem with a camera. He recalls learning magic engineering to make the camera dungeon-proof. Due to the rare metals required, he could only build 4. He casts an invisibility spell on the drones to avoid detection. The mana cost is trivial for someone of his high level. He stands ready, transformed into his sleek, adventuring persona. With all his preparations complete, he is ready to start filming. He suddenly realizes that he has forgotten something important. The scene cuts back to the exterior of his middle school. A classmate observes Ryuji's body double, noting he seems different. He remarks that the double seems much sharper than the real Ryuji. In his classroom, Ryuji explains that his double is a perfect replica he created. The real Ryuji stands at the Katsurahama dungeon entrance, thinking it's cool. He begins to put on the sleek helmet of his new adventurer persona. The white and gold helmet clicks firmly into place, concealing his identity. His invisible, magic-powered drones hover, ready to film his dungeon exploration. Through the camera's lens, the masked hero does a quick sound check. He awkwardly introduces his Dungeon Exploration Information Channel, or DTJC for short. He admits to himself that he is more nervous now than when he fought the Demon Lord. He decides to cover monster strategy in a separate video to avoid confusion. An hour later, he confidently tells viewers to check the description for a map. He sighs, having finally filmed an opening after more than 30 takes. He strides into the dungeon, telling his audience they'll start right away. He points out a good hunting spot, already contested by 3 parties. He warns that many adventurers die, so safety must always come first. He starts to feel more comfortable and confident in his new role. He guides viewers to a corridor where 2 slimes reliably spawn. He points out a treasure chest, hoping for a valuable scouter. Unfortunately, the chest only contains a common potion, not a rare scouter. He tells viewers to try again later, as the chest respawns in 24 hours. He points out a floor trap, noting the slight discoloration of the tiles. A dart springs from the trap, harmlessly pinging off his helmet. Inside the helmet, his eyes widen in flustered surprise at the miscalculation. He quickly ad-libs that he let the trap hit him for demonstration purposes. Having mapped the first floor, he prepares to descend to the second. He warns that the goblins are much stronger than slimes and will kill non-adventurers. To demonstrate the danger of the steep stairs, he stages a clumsy fall. He lands at the bottom, now on the 2nd floor of the dungeon. He tells the camera he fell on purpose to show how dangerous it is. A woman in revealing clothes screams for help as 2 goblins pursue her. The masked hero turns, his glowing eyes locking onto the leering monsters. He raises his hand, preparing to cast 2 fireball spells at once. The fiery projectiles streak past the terrified woman, heading for the goblins. The 2 goblins are reduced to smoldering corpses on the dungeon floor. He calmly approaches the woman and asks if she is all right. She thanks the beautiful older sister and says her friend was captured by goblins. He agrees to help, his eyes glowing as he activates his detection skill. A wireframe map appears in his vision, pinpointing the friend's location. He turns to the woman, ready to sprint down the long stone corridor. He dashes off down the corridor at an incredible, almost blurry speed. The woman is left stunned, exclaiming at his unbelievable speed. He bursts into the goblin's chamber, announcing that he has come to help. A bald man, tied up and surrounded by goblins, cries out for help. The masked hero pauses, confused by the unexpected sight before him. Inside the helmet, Ryuji realizes with disappointment that the friend is a man. He thinks that couples exploring dungeons is fine, but this situation is different. He briefly imagines a romantic future, exploring dungeons with Yoshiko. The fantasy sours and his expression turns to one of clear irritation. He unleashes an absurdly powerful fireball spell at the goblins. The spell carves a massive smoking trench through the dungeon floor. The explosion blasts through the wall, revealing the dark void of the dungeon. He realizes with a start that his display of power was a huge mistake. He uses detection to confirm that he didn't accidentally kill anyone else. The rescued man asks what kind of magic has such destructive power. Ken is suspicious, thinking the rescue was a bit of an overreaction. Ryuji is confused by the man's suspicious and ungrateful attitude. He reassures the man that the dungeon will repair the damage by tomorrow. Yoko arrives and she and Ken have a tearful reunion. The hero lectures them, saying they would have died without his help. The pair is ungrateful, calling him annoying and preachy for his advice. They walk away, leaving the hero to wonder if he should babysit them. With the map destroyed, he stops filming and casts invisibility and concealment. He watches the pair walk off into the dungeon's depths. He reflects that he has given them a warning. The rest is up to them. He recalls Daenerys' lesson. In a dungeon, you are ultimately responsible for your own survival. A sign at a dungeon entrance forbids entry without government permission. Finding a secluded spot, Ryuji prepares to teleport back home. In a flash of light, he arrives back at his house. He rests on his bed, planning his next dungeon exploration video. He calculates that he can film all the national dungeons before graduation. He realizes the biggest problem will be editing all the video footage. He decides to look for some stylish videos online to use as a reference. He happily discovers that his favorite streamer has uploaded a new video. The next day, the school chimes ring, signaling the start of classes. Inside the classroom, students are busy during their lunch break. A classmate with glasses asks Ryuji what happened to his lunch. Yamada offers to share his yakisoba bread and other pastries with Ryuji. Yamada is surprised that Ryuji remembers his name, thinking he'd been forgotten. Ryuji thanks Yamada, saying he'll never forget the kindness of sharing food. Yamada is moved, declaring that they are now friends, not just classmates. Ryuji looks at his new friend, a small bead of sweat on his face. He wipes away a single tear, moved by the simple act of friendship. Back in the dungeon, Ken asks what happened, having something in his eye. Yoko screams for help as she is cornered once again by goblins. She lies on the ground, telling the monsters to stay away from her. The leering goblins are excited, while Ken shouts at them to leave her alone. One of the goblins casually backhands Ken, knocking him aside. The lustful goblins close in on the terrified Yoko, surrounded by hearts. Their clawed hands reach for her as she cries out in disgust. A single clawed goblin hand reaches out, a heart floating beside it. Ken watches helplessly, tears in his eyes as he tells her not to look. In a moment of desperation, Ken shouts the command, "Freeze!" The goblin's hands stop midair, frozen in place by the command. The hero's foot steps into view, telling them the goblins are temporarily frozen. The masked hero reappears, saying he got worried and came back for them. The two are overjoyed, calling out to the mysterious masked hero for help. He uses Windcutter to slice Ken's ropes, freeing him. Ken and Yoko embrace in a tearful, relieved hug. They thank the hero for saving them a second time, apologizing for ignoring him. He tells them not to thank him and asks why they were there with such low levels. They explain they were tricked by a video claiming low-level players could clear the floor. Ryuji contemplates his dual identity, the boy and the masked hero. A disembodied voice speaks from a flash of ethereal light. A command is given to awaken the golem, plot 1. Ryuji activates the weight-reducing magic, warning against any sudden movements. He immediately stumbles, crashing headfirst into the massive cylindrical golem. Clutching his head in pain, he yells at the golem. The golem explains its actions, and Ryuji realizes he's to blame. The golem notices its reduced weight, just as Ryuji had said. Plot 1 understands not to turn off the magic, lest it break the floor. Ryuji begins to explain his grand plan to the golem. The golem, Plot 1, listens intently to its master's words. He explains the dungeons and the plague of false strategy guides. The golem's glowing eyes stare back, processing the information. Ryuji declares his mission to create his own accurate strategy videos. Plot 1 asks what its role will be in this new quest. Ryuji states that the golem's job will be video editing. The golem seems disappointed that it will be useless in the dungeon. Ryuji admits the golem would likely be invincible on lower floors. Plot 1's eyes light up with a spark of hope, but Ryuji refuses to take it, fearing it might be destroyed. The golem's hopeful expression fades into one of quiet understanding. He cannot bear the thought of losing his precious creation. Ryuji sits Plot 1 down to teach it how to edit videos. He explains that he learned to use a computer by searching online. He points out the basic tools, the mouse and the keyboard. Suddenly, Ryuji remembers something critically important. In a panic, he forbids the golem from ever opening the O to KR folder. Plot 1 acknowledges the command as a promise, its hand hovering ominously. Ryuji is horrified as the golem immediately breaks its promise. A voice calls out, "Wake up, Plot 1!" reversing the earlier scene. Ryuji awakens to see Plot 1 and a new laptop. The golem explains that its master fainted, so it took action. Plot 1 calmly continues its explanation. It used teleportation to buy a new laptop from Akihabara. Ryuji realizes Plot 1 is deleting the folder from his memory. The sun sets on a day of strange domestic chaos. Ryuji prepares to leave, entrusting the editing to Plot 1. The golem acknowledges its new responsibilities. Ryuji asks if his companion has any questions before he goes. Plot 1 asks if its master was able to meet his family. Ryuji looks away, the question hitting a raw nerve. His expression darkens with the memory of his tragic loss. He quietly confirms that he did see them, and Plot 1 is glad. The pain is still too fresh for him to discuss. The golem notes that its master doesn't seem very happy. Ryuji asks Plot 1 not to bring up his family for a while. The massive Ueno Park dungeon looms over the city at dusk. Ryuji enters, noting it's the largest dungeon he's encountered here. He decides to film up to the 20th floor for his videos. On the 5th floor, he is met by a swarm of mad bees. He knows that simply defeating them is not the correct approach. A single stinger is shown, a valuable material to be preserved. To maintain their value, he must defeat them without causing damage. The key is to understand the monster's weak points and attack correctly. He visualizes his attack, a precise strike against the insect's body. He unleashes Windcutter X6, a flurry of magical blades. The dismembered parts of the bees fall harmlessly to the ground. With the monsters defeated, he prepares to film the map guide. He wonders if Plot 1 is handling its duties back home. He recalls that Plot 1 was the first golem he ever created. Most golem makers would simply scrap old models for new ones. But he painstakingly upgraded Plot 1 through multiple versions. The golem became more human-like, even serving him meals. Over time, Plot 1 became his partner, his companion, his family. He brought the golem to this world to help edit videos, but he admits to himself that wasn't the only reason. He did not want to return to a life of solitude. He walks through the dungeon, his helmet held in his hand. Arriving home under the stars, he calls out a customary, "I'm home." Plot 1 greets him, announcing that 18 videos are fully edited. Ryuji is shocked by the golem's incredible speed and efficiency. Plot 1 requests a dedicated editing machine for its work. He notices Plot 1 has included several bloopers in the final cut. Ryuji insists that only his cool moments should be shown. The golem agrees to re-edit the videos to his specifications. He admits to himself that working with Plot 1 is fun. February arrives, and with it, the adventurer high school entrance exam. Yoshiko's mother answers the door, saying her daughter has already left. Ryuji is slightly disappointed that he won't walk with her. Her mother playfully asks if they had a fight, calling him cute. She wishes him luck on the exam as he gives a polite bow. He arrives at the impressive campus of Tokyo Ueno Adventurer High School. Inside, he sits for the exam among rows of other hopeful students. He resolves to pass, his interest piqued by the school's existence. After the exam, students pour out into the school courtyard. Itu tells Yoshiko not to get too friendly with Ryuji. He complains that Ryuji's jobless status would be a liability. Yoshiko reluctantly agrees, admitting that she is also risking her life. Ryuji overhears their conversation as he walks past them. He is frustrated that his level and abilities are misunderstood. He sees the growing social divide created by jobs and levels. He knows his jobless status is just a bug in the system, but explaining the truth is far too much of a hassle. Yoshiko spots him and calls out his name, startling Itu. She asks him how the exam went, and he gives an okay sign. Itu apologizes to her for his harsh words about her friend. She waves goodbye, leaving with Itu to tour the school. Itu and Yoshiko walk away hand in hand, a new couple. Ryuji decides to go home and find a new teleportation spot. March arrives, and with it, the gentle fall of cherry blossoms. The middle school graduation ceremony is underway in a large, crowded auditorium. Ryuji's friend, Yamada, is overcome with emotion, tears streaming down his face. Yamada tearfully declares their friendship is eternal, and Ryuji simply agrees. At home, Ryuji considers the law. Until now, middle schoolers couldn't enter dungeons. He is certain Yoshiko will rush into a dungeon, and he won't let her die. A clock ticks towards midnight, the moment the dungeon ban for them will lift. The hands align perfectly. The hour of their freedom has finally arrived. With a jolt of excitement, Ryuji calls out to his loyal Golem. Plot 1. He gives the final command, set all of his prepared videos to public. Plot 1, his robotic companion, confirms that it has understood the order. The Golem's finger presses the key, launching the Dungeon Exploration Information Channel. In late March, the Ueno Park dungeon is swarmed with new adventurers. Inside, chaos erupts as hopefuls fight over monsters, ignoring all etiquette. Shachu observes the chaotic hunting grounds, realizing they can't possibly earn anything here. Kunimi suggests they retreat for now and try again at a different time. They sit outside, remarking on the desperate salarymen and youths trying their luck. Shachu wonders if there are better spots deeper in, but Kunimi says it's too crowded. Shachu wishes for reliable dungeon information, knowing most of it is dangerously false. Elsewhere in the dungeon, two young women venture into the stone corridors. The lead woman, Seiya, realizes the path doesn't match the video she watched. She screams in terror, warning her friend that a slime is right behind her. Her friend Mio flees, abandoning Seiya to her fate as she's engulfed. In a modern apartment, the creators of the fake videos live comfortably. The man with the bowl cut clicks his tongue in annoyance at his computer. His comments section is a flood of grief and rage from victims' families. His partner notes the recent complaints, and he coldly orders her to delete them. The consequences of their lies have now reached the Metropolitan Police Department. A detective furiously tells the man that people are dying because of his videos. The creator smugly asks if it's his fault, hiding behind a legal disclaimer. The detective demands proof, threatening to sue him for defamation and obstruction. He knows he has no case. If only he had actual footage from inside. At Takanasu TV, a producer screams that dungeon footage would be a goldmine. His subordinate explains the impossibility, as electronics don't work inside the dungeons. The producer doesn't care, threatening to terminate his contract if he fails. Defeated, the subordinate feels he has no choice but to resort to a final measure. He tells his crew that this desperate plan could make them rich if it works. Inside the dungeon, their supposedly NASA-developed camera is completely dead. He admits in a sweat that he took out a 10 million yen loan for it. His partner suggests they cut their losses and sell the scam camera to another fool. At the stroke of midnight on April 1st, a new era begins. Ryuji cheers as Plot 1 officially launches the Dungeon Exploration Information Channel. Ryuji is amazed to see over 100 videos go live all at once. Plot 1 explains it used MeTube's scheduling function to release them simultaneously. The masked hero, DTJC, greets his new audience from inside a dungeon. Ryuji's heart pounds with excitement as he watches his own channel finally begin. An employee at a production company rushes to his boss with urgent news. He shoves a tablet into his boss's hands, telling him he has to see this. The boss stares in disbelief, realizing he's looking at real dungeon footage. He wonders how it was filmed, certain that it is authentic footage. His subordinate excitedly suggests they either borrow the camera or steal the content. Late at night, the new videos have also reached the police department. An officer runs to his superior, announcing that dungeon videos have been released. The official dismisses it as another fake, but his subordinate insists it's real. He leans in to examine the video, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He orders his team to print 50 screenshots to compare with Ueno's layout. In the streets of Roppongi, everyone is buzzing about the new dungeon videos. A young man on the phone urges his family to watch the incredible new channel. Group chats explode with people asking if the footage is real. A news anchor reports an unprecedented, nationwide communication network failure. The source of this global disruption sits quietly in his suburban home. Ryuji is ecstatic as he watches his views and subscribers rapidly increase. He thanks Plot 1, but the Golem claims all credit for its own sense. The Golem seems to blush, telling him not to ruin the joke with sincerity. Ryuji smiles, finding it fun to keep reloading the page to see the numbers rise. He looks at his screen, suddenly confused by what he is seeing. He clicks his mouse repeatedly, but the page refuses to load. Plot 1 informs him the network is congested, and he realizes he did it. At the White House, a crisis is unfolding at the exact same moment. Aides burst in, reporting a massive communication outage across the United States. An aide suggests it could be a cyber attack, and the president demands to know who. Another aide looks at a tablet, his expression one of utter disbelief. The president looks at his bewildered staff, a question mark in his thoughts. An aide explains that NSA monitoring shows everyone is trying to access one MeTube channel. The president incredulously asks who this channel could possibly be. The aide, his eyes wide, reveals that it is a Japanese channel. The video ends with a simple request to like and subscribe to the channel. The video shows the masked hero explaining how to defeat a slime. The president asks if this is real dungeon footage or just a well-made fake. He summons Linda, wanting the opinion of America's top-ranked adventurer. A glowing hand reveals her status, level 29 gunner. Linda Bluestone, a confident 15-year-old, confidently agrees to help. She stands tall in her cowgirl-inspired outfit, ready for the challenge. Her eyes narrow with focus as she examines the footage. She watches the masked hero on the tablet with intense concentration. She declares the footage is authentic, and the adventurer's level seems decent. The president thanks Linda for her professional assessment. He orders his staff to get the DTJC's info, deciding not to inform Japan. Linda declares she'll film her own videos if they provide her the same camera. The door to the Oval Office swings shut, a decision having been made. The president realizes Linda's competitiveness means she sees DTJC as a rival. He knows a global race for the DTJC's technology is about to begin. Meanwhile, back in Japan, the source of the chaos is blissfully unaware. Ryuji accuses Plot 1 of cheating after losing another round of their game. His game is suddenly interrupted by the chiming of his smartphone. He sees the call is from his tax attorney, Ms. Kojima. She tells him she has finally gotten through and is heading to meet him. He panics, realizing he completely forgot about his meeting with Furuya Planning. Plot 1 tells him to go, assuring him it will continue editing videos. Ryuji walks to the meeting, thinking about the company he recently established. He arrives at the designated meeting spot, a brightly lit family restaurant. The chime of a bell announces Ryuji's arrival at the family restaurant. He looks around the quiet room, noting his associate, Miss Kojima, has not arrived yet. His heart thumps with nervous excitement. This is his first time here so late. The door chimes again as Miss Kojima enters, apologizing for being late. Ryuji assures the professionally dressed woman that he only just arrived himself. Relieved, she suggests they find a quiet table, a faint blush on her cheeks. Once seated, she apologizes again for summoning him so late at night. A waitress appears, and Miss Kojima orders for both of them to use the drink bar. As she gets up, she asks what Ryuji would like. He requests a cola. She stands at the drink station, her movements precise and efficient. He watches her, impressed by her capable and confident demeanor. Soon, a glass of cola and a cup of coffee sit on their table. She informs him that his channel has already surpassed 3 million subscribers. Ryuji's face lights up with a brilliant, sparkling smile at the incredible news. Miss Kojima offers him a warm and sincere congratulations on his success. Getting down to business, she says there are a few things she needs to confirm. He affirms her question, understanding she needs to check for any legal issues. She asks if other adventurers can film as he does. He says it's impossible. He explains it requires rare materials and a magic engineering skill of level 900. She listens intently, her expression serious as she absorbs the information. He adds that a camera alone is useless without his unique knowledge and experience. She understands, concluding that he has an absolute advantage over any competitor. He agrees, unless another hero has returned, which he considers impossible. She predicts a monetization email is coming, just as his phone chimes. He reads the notice, which offers him an exclusive incentive-based contract. She advises him to accept an exclusive deal to combat unauthorized re-uploads. The thought hadn't occurred to him, but he immediately agrees to her suggestion. A second email arrives instantly with the contract. He notes their quick reply. He reads the official offer, stating the contract is for $40 million a year. Miss Kojima is stunned, muttering that it's a major league level salary. Ryuji looks at her, confused by the baseball reference. She covers her mouth, flustered by her unprofessional outburst. Composing herself, she advises hiring a lawyer and a CPA for his new company. Ryuji calmly sips his cola, telling her he will leave it in her capable hands. She agrees, stating she has contacts she can commission for the work. With such high sales, she explains, the expense will be a drop in the bucket. She promises to have everything settled by tomorrow, asking if he has questions. Changing the subject, Ryuji asks if she is fond of cats. The question catches her completely off guard, and she looks surprised. He clarifies, pointing and explaining he was asking about her shirt. She looks down, pulling her jacket open to reveal the subtle cat print blouse. Mortified, she confesses it's her sleepwear, and she doesn't even own a cat. Ryuji feels a pang of regret, apologizing for his awkward question. Outside the restaurant, she insists on covering the bill as a business expense. She bids him a professional farewell with a polite bow. She turns and walks away down the quiet, lamplit sidewalk. Ryuji watches her go, a curious expression on his face. She suddenly stops in her tracks, turning back with a pained look. Pressing a hand to her temple, she admits to a sudden, splitting migraine. He offers to walk her home, but she insists she'll be fine. He insists, pointing the way, and she smiles, calling him a klutz. The two of them walk together down the empty street under the starry sky. She asks if he plans to continue uploading his dungeon strategy videos. He explains his goal is to prevent civilization's collapse so he can watch anime. She smiles warmly, telling him it's a wonderful idea and to do his best. She reflects that the world has been waiting for this, unaware it's a boy's work. Ryuji is visibly moved by her sincere and heartfelt encouragement. She offers her full support, telling him to ask if he ever needs help. He thanks her, thinking to himself what a truly good person she is. The nameplate on his family home, Furuya, comes into view. He sees her to her building, where she gives him a polite good night. He returns the sentiment, still impressed by her professional efficiency. Turning invisible, he watches over her until she has safely hailed a taxi. His mind flashes back to a year before he defeated the Demon Lord. A king rallies a massive multinational army for a decisive battle. Standing in the ranks, Ryuji is incredibly nervous about fighting outside a dungeon. A beautiful woman with pink hair tells him to focus, as she has his back. A title card appears reading, Memories of the Heroes Era. The title continues, superimposed over Ryuji's anxious face. A narrow panel focuses on the stoic, helmeted soldiers around them. The woman tells him he must do his best, for today is a crucial day. She smiles brightly, declaring that it is the day of his debut as the hero. He charges into battle, his glowing sword clashing with a colossal cyclops. He worries that the other armies are advancing too slowly, risking their formation. A caption explains he destroyed the enemy's main force in just half a day. Back in the present, on his second day as a streamer, Plot 1 greets him. The Golem reports the comment section is a disaster and asks for a policy. It analyzes that half the Japanese comments are hateful, split into 3 types. Ryuji is utterly baffled by this, his mouth agape in disbelief. He tries to laugh it off, asking if he's really getting that much praise. His forced smile quickly vanishes, replaced by a look of shock. A chaotic collage of hateful comments fills the screen, calling him a fake. Ryuji stares, speechless at the sheer volume of online vitriol. Plot 1 tries to console him, pointing out there are also thank you comments. He turns away, insisting that he is fine and that this was all expected. The Golem suggests that thinking of them as tsundere toddlers might help. He imagines a little girl berating her teddy bear, calling it useless. The thought strikes him with the force of a sudden, brilliant epiphany. Genius, he exclaims as Plot 1 asks for more praise. He recalls that the anonymous message boards in the other world were just as bad. Plot 1 dismisses the idea as nonsense, but he tells it not to be so sure. His mind returns to the time of his great debut battle. After his victory, Daenerys congratulates him on being recognized as a true hero. He asks if such recognition is necessary, but she insists he must attend meetings. He doesn't quite understand, but he is happy just to see her looking so pleased. In the War Council, Daenerys is praised, while Ryuji's power is called remarkable. A noble privately mutters that his strength is abnormal and impossible. A dark-haired princess suggests he may be colluding with the Demon Lord. Another princess defends him, stating his level is simply higher than theirs. The cynical old lords dismiss him as a creepy pawn in a political game. In a grand hall, Princess Daenerys stands firm, declaring they can say what they wish of her. But with tears welling in her eyes, she forbids them from speaking ill of Ryuji. She passionately insists he is risking his life to fight for their world. The Council of Nobles remains unmoved, dismissing her words as mere tears. They mutter amongst themselves, calling her plea a cheap trick and her evidence non-existent. A lonely caravan travels as narration explains Daenerys' subsequent silence and seclusion. Ryuji knocks on her door, gently asking if she is sulking inside. He explains that they have cleared all the planned dungeons and asks about their next move. From within the room, only the sound of her shifting boots can be heard. Daenerys explains that dealing with the nobles who own the surrounding lands is a hassle. Her voice softens as she apologizes to Ryuji for making him worry. He is taken aback, slowly realizing that his frustration was born of concern for her. A soft, warm chuckle is his only reply from behind the closed door. Later, walking together, she admits she thought the world would support her efforts to save it. She wonders aloud why that wasn't the case, then dismisses the thought. With renewed resolve, she declares her love for her world and her will to keep fighting. She adds that it was Ryuji who was truly putting his life on the line. In the present, Ryuji recalls how he too was slandered behind his back. He realizes for the first time that Daenerys must have felt the same way he does now. His Golem, Plot 1, interrupts his reverie, asking what he was talking about. Plot 1 asks for a decision regarding the chaotic comment section on his videos. It explains the merit of closing them. He would no longer have to worry. The demerit, however, is that he would lose access to his viewers' opinions. Ryuji understands and decides to simply leave the comment section as it is. He's surprised when Plot 1 continues its overly detailed explanation anyway. The Golem insists he listen to the end, which Ryuji finds surprisingly amusing. Plot 1 adds that the management team will handle any truly dangerous comments. Ryuji grins, praising Plot 1's intelligence and reaffirming his decision. The Golem's glowing eyes curve in satisfaction, its task complete. Ryuji announces he's going to film more videos, as their stock is running low. The Ueno Park dungeon looms, its entrance carved into a massive craggy mountain. He arrives on the 27th floor, a vast empty hall lined with stone pillars. Clad in his adventurer gear, he begins to narrate the floor's features for the camera. He stops mid-sentence, patting his head in sudden realization that he forgot his helmet. He sighs, knowing he'll have to reshoot, which feels like too much of a hassle. He stands dejectedly in the empty hall, his motivation completely gone. Deciding he's just not in the mood, he resolves to take the day off from filming. The next day, April 3rd, the third day since his MeTube debut, he is at home. Lying on his bed, he wonders aloud if his childhood friend Yoshiko has seen his videos. Plot 1 informs him it would be strange if she hadn't, given how famous he's become. The Golem lists all the media covering his channel, from TV to internet forums. It then announces that a special television program about him is about to start. The program begins with an anchor detailing the global crisis caused by the dungeons. Ryuji and Plot 1 settle onto the couch to watch the broadcast together. The anchor explains the economic collapse that followed the world's resource depletion. She shifts her tone, introducing the glimmer of hope found within the dungeons. Magic stones harvested from monsters have become a revolutionary new source of fuel. Plot 1 suggests they buy stock in Iwao Heavy Industries, the leading magic stone processor. The report details the dungeon's dangers, where only adventurers with traits can survive past the first floor. It highlights the grim reality. Modern weapons and electronics are completely useless inside. Ryuji complains about the long introduction, eager for the program to get to his channel. The anchor introduces an interview with a dungeon expert, Professor Shinohara. Ryuji is baffled, wondering what a dungeon expert even is. The professor claims that humanity isn't taking the dungeon threat seriously enough. The news report then introduces the DTJC channel as a beacon of hope in this crisis. Ryuji's excitement builds as his channel's segment finally begins. The anchor announces that they have secured an exclusive interview with the creator. Ryuji is shocked, exclaiming that he never agreed to an interview. Plot 1 asks when he did it, but Ryuji insists that he never has. On the screen, an impostor in a cheap helmet introduces himself as the man behind DTJC. Ryuji stares in disbelief, wondering who this person could possibly be. The fraud criticizes the so-called experts who have never even set foot in a dungeon. Ryuji finds himself reluctantly agreeing with the impostor's point. The fraud signs off with a thumbs up, declaring that only the DTJC can win. The anchor concludes the exclusive interview segment, leaving Ryuji speechless. Ryuji explodes in rage, furious not at the stolen credit, but at the ugly helmet design. The scene shifts to the sleek, modern office of the Kojima tax attorney firm. Ryuji explains that he wants to take legal action against the impostor. Miss Kojima asks if he wants to ensure this kind of thing never happens again. He wonders if she means they should make a public example of the fraud. With a cool, dangerous smile, she agrees to be as thorough as possible. Ryuji is impressed by her immediate resolve, thinking how reliable she is. Miss Kojima then brings up the matter of the various nuisance videos that have appeared. An image shows a woman with a sour expression claiming to be the DTJC's mother. Another shows a brutish-looking man pretending to be his older brother, offering an apology. A third shows a goofy-looking boy claiming to be a former classmate, ready to spill secrets. Miss Kojima confirms she's investigated the dozens of fake relatives and even a self-proclaimed girlfriend. She notes that the only one with a genuine connection to him is his former teacher. She quickly gets to work on her phone, preparing to unleash legal hell upon them all. Ryuji again thinks to himself how dependable and impressive Miss Kojima is. She advises him to announce the impending legal action in his next video as a warning. He readily agrees, promising to film and upload the announcement that very day. As their productive meeting concludes, he thanks her for her hard work. A faint, almost imperceptible blush appears on her cheek as she accepts his gratitude. As he leaves, she asks if his filming of the strategy guides is going well. She confesses with a warm smile that she has actually watched his videos many times. Ryuji is taken aback by her sudden and unexpected personal admission. She explains that she enjoys his content because it makes her feel like an adventurer. He looks on, a new, warmer appreciation for his attorney dawning in his eyes. She adds that her friends and acquaintances also love his videos, finding them very helpful. She tells him that she is eagerly looking forward to his next video. Ryuji is left speechless, a faint blush appearing on his own cheeks. He arrives home calling out a greeting that Plot 1 promptly returns. He hums happily to himself, his mood significantly lifted by the meeting. Plot 1 asks if something good happened, but Ryuji simply deflects the question. He tells the Golem he's heading out to film the video Miss Kojima requested. He arrives at the Ueno Park dungeon, a massive crag that has erupted in the city. Inside, he notes the increased number of adventurers and hopes to find a quiet place to film. He closes his eyes using his detection skill to find an empty area deeper inside. His skill reveals a wireframe map, but he spots two familiar, glowing figures in a remote corridor. In a secluded dungeon corridor, Ryuji spots Yoshiko and Itu sharing a romantic moment. He quickly hides, feeling embarrassed for having stumbled upon their private time. Deciding to leave, he feels confident that his strategy videos will keep them safe. He recalls fumbling his lines while filming a warning against impersonators for his channel. Back home, Ryuji complains to his Golem, Plot 1, for using an outtake in the video. On the first day of Adventure High School, Yoshiko rings Ryuji's doorbell. Ryuji, already in his uniform, wonders who is visiting on such an important day. He is surprised to see a somber-looking Yoshiko standing at his door. She greets him and asks if they can walk to the entrance ceremony together. Ryuji agrees but is confused, asking her where her boyfriend Itu is. With a puff of air, she dismissively states that Itu cheated and they broke up. Ryuji is shocked by the news, recalling how affectionate they had seemed. On the train, other students gossip about how popular adventurers are. Yoshiko asks Ryuji if he has ever actually been inside a dungeon. She is left looking puzzled by his quiet, almost inaudible response. He whispers to her that he goes every day using his invisibility skill. She asks about old classmates. He mentions his friend Yamada asks him out. Yoshiko notes that he seems strange and different from other adventurers she knows. She is taken aback when he mentions he is jobless. He casually explains that his job display is probably just bugged. She pats his head encouragingly, telling him not to get discouraged by it. He smiles, thinking to himself that he's glad she's still her usual self. Arriving at the school, they are met by a large crowd of reporters. A TV news reporter immediately approaches them for an on-camera interview. Yoshiko proudly announces to the camera that she is a level 2 warrior. The reporter then turns the microphone towards Ryuji, asking for his status. He calmly states that he just hit level 1,500 and his job is hero. The reporter is left completely speechless, her professional smile frozen on her face. Flustered and confused, she quickly stammers a thank you and backs away. Yoshiko sighs that he's as unflappable as ever, while he insists he was honest. The large modern building of the Adventure High School looms before them. Before the placement boards, Yoshiko explains that classes are ranked from A to E. Confident he aced the exam, Ryuji scans the top A-class list for his name. He can't find it, and a flicker of confusion crosses his face. His confusion deepens as he wonders why his name isn't there. He knows he should have scored at the top. There must be a mistake. Yoshiko finds Itu's name in A-class, which only irritates her. Ryuji is mildly impressed that Itu managed to get into the top class. After finding her own name in B-class, Ryuji offers his congratulations. Yoshiko points out his name is missing, but he insists he's A-class. Found it, Yoshiko calls out, telling him he's actually in E-class. She points to the very bottom of the last list, showing him his name. His world goes dark as the shocking revelation begins to sink in. Ryuji's mind disconnects, his shocked face floating in a cosmic void. A close-up on his eye reveals his utter inability to comprehend the situation. His mind flashes back to his 10 long years fighting monsters as a hero. He recalls facing the Demon Lord, a level 1,500 hero, now a failure. He tries to joke that E must be for extra, something special. Yoshiko, worried, clarifies that E is for the lowest-ranked failures. He waves off her concern, claiming he's fine as he heads to class. A sign on the wall confirms his destination, the dreaded classroom 1E. Inside, a palpable aura of gloom hangs over the slumped, defeated students. Ryuji observes the room, thinking there are a lot of depressed people here. He sighs, still unable to understand why he, of all people, is in E-class. Their teacher, Miss Satu, cheerfully introduces herself to the class. She tells them they can change classes by leveling up in the dungeons. Ryuji is shocked to learn that moving to a higher class is possible. A fire of determination lights in his eyes. He will get into A-class. His excitement quickly fades as he wonders how he can prove his strength. He stares at his palm, where the bugged level 1 status is displayed. A terrible feeling dawns on him. Escaping E-class might be impossible. Miss Satu warns them to never go into a dungeon solo. She adds that her bonus gets cut if they die, which makes the students laugh. She asks the students to share their jobs to think about party balance. A student with a pompadour hairstyle walks towards Ryuji's desk. The student asks Ryuji what his job is, interrupting his thoughts. Ryuji doesn't respond at first, and the student snaps at him for spacing out. The student impatiently asks again what his job is. In a quiet voice, Ryuji replies that he doesn't have one. When pressed, he clarifies that he is jobless. The entire classroom, including the teacher, reacts with stunned silence. Then the room erupts into a chorus of cruel, mocking laughter. Ryuji is bewildered that he, a hero, is being ridiculed by these failures. The students begin banging on their desks, chanting, "No job," in unison. He realizes they're just venting their own frustrations on a new target. Miss Satu tries to defend him, explaining he aced all his exams. Ryuji is unimpressed with her half-hearted attempt to control the class. The teacher herself is visibly trembling, trying to hold back her own laughter. She fails, covering her mouth as she giggles at his jobless E status. Ryuji thinks to himself that she is exactly the teacher E-class deserves. A group of bullies surrounds him, telling him to quit school. The teacher suggests someone party with him, but the students refuse. A bully whispers a threat, saying he'll be a loner for 3 years. Miss Satu is surprised when Ryuji asks for an official absence to go to the dungeon. The bully smirks, believing he has intimidated Ryuji. The rest of the class watches, anticipating what will happen next. Ryuji calmly repeats his request to go to the dungeon. The bully taunts him, asking who would go with a jobless loser. Ryuji effortlessly brushes the bully's hand from his shoulder. A close-up shows Ryuji's eye, cold and completely unfazed. Miss Satu pleads with him not to go, worried she'll get in trouble if he dies. Ryuji states that talking is a waste of time and walks out of the room. The classroom door slams shut behind him with a loud bang. After he leaves, the students continue to laugh and mock his serious demeanor. A fellow student asks the lead bully what just happened. The bully stares at his hand, confused by how easily Ryuji broke his grip. He angrily dismisses Ryuji, boasting that he himself is a level 3 martial artist. Ryuji walks away from the school, disappointed with his new life. He approaches the massive, craggy form of the Ueno Park dungeon. Thinking it's convenient to have the dungeon near school, he joins the entry line. Ryuji goes through the official dungeon registration, a new and tedious experience. He is surprised to find convenient rental lockers in the dungeon's entrance hall. He notes the paid changing rooms, expecting them to become free eventually. The familiar conveniences remind him of the adventurer guilds in the other world. Finding a secluded spot, he uses his dungeon core to teleport to the 1000th floor. The colossal black dragon of Ueno Park greets him as his training timer begins. The dragon lunges across the vast chamber with incredible, terrifying speed. It unleashes a massive beam of energy, which Ryuji easily dodges. Knowing its attack patterns, he sprints forward to meet the beast head-on. He anticipates its next move, a powerful back-jump breath attack. With a perfectly timed blizzard, he cancels the dragon's fiery chant. Before the beast can recover, Ryuji closes in for the final blow. The dragon's massive body crashes to the ground in a cloud of dust. It explodes into a shower of glittering loot, the subjugation complete. He pumps his fist, celebrating a new personal record of 5.31 seconds. Among the spoils, a rare, leather-bound grimoire glows with power. He picks it up, identifying the spell as Level Drain 2. He wonders if this is an improved version, deciding to study it later. Returning home, he announces his arrival to the quiet, empty house. Plot 1 greets him, asking if he was filming, but Ryuji says he just finished his daily routine. With a bright smile, he announces his next project, a sub-channel video. He stands on a kitchen set, wearing a DTJC apron over his hero costume. Under his helmet, he's incredibly nervous about his on-camera performance. The magic-powered camera is set up and ready to record his debut. Plot 1 begins the countdown, telling him it will start rolling the camera. The golem starts filming immediately, catching the flustered Ryuji off guard. He quickly recovers, beginning his lesson on crafting potions from slime mucus. Off-camera, he frets about his performance, while Plot 1 thinks it's going well. He holds up a potion, explaining it's a rare drop that now sells for a high price. The secret, he reveals, is that potions can be crafted with common materials. With slime mucus as a stabilizer, the potion's quality and shelf life improve. He quickly demonstrates the simple crafting process for the camera. He proudly presents the finished potion, ready for a taste test. He awkwardly drinks the potion through his helmet, noting its bitter taste. After drinking, he jokes that his skin feels surprisingly glossy. He waves goodbye, encouraging his viewers to try crafting potions themselves. Plot 1 gives a mechanical thumbs up, declaring the take a success. Ryuji is shocked that it was approved on the first try, despite his fumbling. The Golem explains that waiting for a perfect take would take forever. Ryuji makes Plot 1 promise not to edit his mistakes into the final video. The next morning dawns, bringing with it a new reality. Plot 1 informs him that the sub-channel has already surpassed 300 million subscribers. The video has caused the market price for potion ingredients to skyrocket. He decides to sell his massive stockpile of herbs slowly to avoid suspicion. For 2 years, he filmed countless videos while attending Adventure High School. His helpful guides earned him tens of millions of views and grateful fans. Time passed and the second semester of school arrived. The familiar grounds of the Adventure High School await the students. The hallways buzz with gossip about a beautiful new transfer student. Ryuji overhears them but dismisses it, uninterested in 3D girls. He had no idea how close he would soon become to these very girls. The scene shifts to the White House in the United States. A surveillance photo of Ryuji is displayed on a tablet screen. The president remarks that Ryuji Furuya looks like an ordinary student. His daughter Linda is skeptical, noting that he doesn't look strong. The president teases her, saying she doesn't look like a top adventurer either. Surveillance photos show Ryuji walking through the city streets. He seems to be going about his day, completely unaware of the cameras. But in every shot, he seems to be looking back, as if he knows. A close-up reveals his gaze is locked directly onto the hidden lens. Linda is bewildered, asking why he's looking at the camera in every photo. An aide explains that he seems to possess some kind of detection skill. Another photo shows him looking directly at the surveillance team. In one shot, he even gives the hidden camera a casual thumbs up. Linda looks on, a faint blush of intrigue on her cheeks. The president concludes that Ryuji has the nerve of a seasoned veteran. He asks Linda if it would be possible to capture Ryuji by force. She says it's impossible. His power is so great, an army couldn't stop him. The president listens to her assessment, his expression grim. Linda estimates his level is easily over 100, far beyond their reach. Changing tactics, the president asks if Linda can win Ryuji's heart. Linda is completely stunned by her grandfather's sudden matchmaking. He insists he's serious, believing there is no better man for her. She protests that it's a ridiculous joke, reminding him she's only 16. The president replies that Ryuji is also 16, making it perfect. The idea takes root, and Linda finds herself blushing uncontrollably. She fantasizes about the boy who is secretly the idol of adventurers everywhere. She imagines a romantic encounter, her heart pounding at the thought. The president is then briefed on Japan's plan to tax video streamers. Linda is completely lost in her romantic daydream, oblivious to the meeting. His aides explain Japan is waiting for his company's financial records. The president realizes Ryuji's peaceful, anonymous life is about to end. Back in the present, Ryuji walks through the school gates. The bully from his first year, Bando, angrily confronts him. Ryuji stares at him blankly, having no idea who he is. Bando boasts that he has moved up to B class, unlike the trash in E. Ryuji vaguely recalls the boy who picked a fight with him long ago. Bando taunts him for being jobless and rotting away in the lowest class. Ryuji is completely unfazed, not understanding what the boy's talking about. Bando leaves, telling Ryuji he'll be waiting for him in B class. Ryuji's eyes sparkle with an unexpected pure admiration. He thinks the cheesy line was incredibly cool and wants to copy it. Nearby girls giggle, calling the line lame and embarrassing. Ryuji sweats, quickly deciding it's probably best not to imitate him. He arrives at the sign for his classroom, 1E. His teacher, Miss Satu, greets him with a morbid, sarcastic welcome. Ryuji is annoyed to see that she hasn't changed in the slightest. Miss Satu suddenly remembers something important she forgot to tell him. She informs him that the school's chairman, Iwaki, has summoned him. Ryuji is surprised, wondering what the chairman could possibly want with him. Miss Satu cheerfully asks Ryuji to praise her to the school chairman. Walking away, Ryuji thinks his impression of her is the absolute worst. He heads down the long, bright hallway toward the chairman's office. Suddenly, the door ahead clicks open from the inside. Ryuji stops, realizing that someone is about to come out. A beautiful girl with long blonde hair exits the chairman's office. He is momentarily stunned by her serene and elegant profile. Ryuji's eye widens as he watches the mysterious girl pass him. She notices his gaze and looks at him with slight surprise. Ryuji is flustered, thinking to himself that she looked right at him. The blonde girl Isabella offers him a polite and gentle bow. She pauses in the hallway, surrounded by a faint, sparkling aura. With an air of grace, she continues on her way down the corridor. Ryuji watches her go, still a bit stunned by the brief encounter. She glances back at him one last time with a gentle expression. He realizes with a jolt she resembles his favorite new anime heroine. Composing himself, he stands before the door labeled Chairman's Office. He raises a fist and knocks twice on the plain wooden door. After a moment of silence, he notes that there is no response. Announcing his name, he enters the dark room, his shadow stretching long. Before his eyes can adjust, a shadowy figure lunges at him. The air crackles with the sound of a sudden, violent attack. The attacker, Tanaka, is shocked that his level 25 assassin skills are failing. He is pinned effortlessly by the level 1 jobless student, Ryuji. Ryuji is surprised to be ambushed by an assassin in this world. A voice from above apologizes, telling Ryuji to forgive Tanaka's actions. A shaggy-haired man appears, introducing himself casually as Iwaki. He then adds that he also happens to be the school's chairman. Ryuji is deeply skeptical, thinking he doesn't look like a chairman. Iwaki agrees, cheerfully admitting his real job is being an engineer. He apologizes for the sudden test and prepares to state his real business. From the floor, Tanaka calls out to the chairman for confirmation. Iwaki explains he's bad at subtlety and wants to ask Ryuji something directly. He leans in, his eyes sharp, asking if Ryuji is a hero from another world. Ryuji is completely frozen, his most guarded secret instantly exposed. He stammers, asking how he knew, and Iwaki reveals he's also from another world. Iwaki seems to lose his train of thought, asking Ryuji to wait. He triumphantly presents a monocle-like device, announcing it's a scouter. He asks Ryuji to use it to check his and Tanaka's status. Ryuji nervously raises the scouter to his eye to verify the claim. He sees Tanaka as a level 25 assassin, realizing there are others with power. He then sees Iwaki hold up his hand, revealing a glowing level 1. Ryuji is stunned by the confirmation that the chairman is just like him. Iwaki asks if Ryuji finally believes him now that he has seen proof. Ryuji is left speechless, the impossible reality of the situation sinking in. Iwaki explains he supported his world's hero using magic engineering. He now uses that experience to make items and run the Adventurer High School. He invites Ryuji to sit down so they can have a proper conversation. Iwaki momentarily forgets his point, asking what they were just talking about. Ryuji reminds him of the topic and offers to return the scouter. Iwaki explains he felt a kinship with Ryuji because of his jobless status. He then excitedly brings up Ryuji's popular channel, praising its success. Ryuji is taken aback, thinking that the chairman is incredibly talkative. Iwaki eagerly asks how Ryuji films his videos and if he can see the camera. Tanaka interrupts, reminding the chairman of his schedule and to get to the point. Iwaki apologizes for getting carried away and says he has a favor to ask. Ryuji immediately gets a bad feeling about what the chairman wants. Iwaki reveals random shuffle time starts tomorrow, asking Ryuji to be a bodyguard. Ryuji instantly refuses, stating that it is absolutely impossible for him. An info panel explains RST is a dangerous time when powerful monsters appear on low floors. The panel also explains that treasure and rare item drop rates are greatly increased. Ryuji insists he has an extremely important, can't-miss event during that time. Both Iwaki and his assistant, Tanaka, are left completely stunned by his refusal. Iwaki frantically points out the danger, reminding Ryuji of his own video warnings. Ryuji calmly confirms that he warned people not to enter the dungeon. He argues the school should forbid entry, letting the reckless face the consequences. Iwaki explains that the elite, arrogant foreign exchange students won't listen. He laments that even the powerful Klinig family couldn't stop them due to their pride. Seeing no further business, Ryuji excuses himself and turns to leave. Iwaki thanks him, saying he was glad he got to speak with him. Tanaka whispers urgently to Iwaki, telling him not to give up yet. Iwaki asks Ryuji to reconsider, but Ryuji states firmly his decision is final. Tanaka asks what could possibly be so important, and Ryuji explains it's One Fest. He excitedly launches into an explanation of limited figures and legendary artists. He talks about respecting the rules and getting there early for the battlefield. Iwaki is confused, asking if he just wants to buy limited anime merchandise. He suggests Ryuji could just buy the items at auction later since he's rich. Ryuji's expression darkens at the mere suggestion of using scalpers. He turns and leaves without another word as Iwaki realizes his mistake. Walking away, Ryuji reflects on the surprise of meeting another returned otherworlder. He knows he won't be able to talk more until after random shuffle time. Tanaka worries that if they become friends, he'll be asked for favors constantly. Ryuji puts it out of his mind, focusing on the 3-day battlefield of Wanfest. On the 11th floor of the Ueno dungeon, Tanaka faces a monstrous spider. He prepares to attack, mentally listing off his various assassin skills. He lunges forward with his knife, moving with blinding speed. The giant spider effortlessly swats him aside with one of its massive legs. He is shocked that his skills are useless and his knife was knocked away. He is sent flying helplessly towards the monster's gaping fangs. He realizes this is random shuffle time. The monster is too strong for this floor. He closes his eyes, accepting that he is about to die. Suddenly, a flash of silver reveals Isabella in full armor, intercepting the attack. The spider's leg is severed as Tanaka thanks the A-class student for saving him. Tanaka and his party recognize their savior as Isabella of the Klinigi family. Isabella turns to them, asking if the A-class students are all uninjured. Tanaka thanks her again, amazed by her speed that his assassin's eyes couldn't follow. He tells her they would have died without her, feeling completely useless in comparison. Isabella sternly advises Tanaka not to be so reckless in the dungeon. She smiles gently and simply accepts his heartfelt thanks. Tanaka watches her leave, wondering why she would save such foolish classmates. Isabella smiles serenely, thinking that she doesn't want to see anyone die in this place. Tanaka, the assassin, is greeted by a group of students and asks about the special class. A student reports that the special class went to the 36th floor, joined by Kurenai and Aya. Tanaka freezes in horror, a single bead of sweat on his brow as the number 36 echoes. The story flashes back to the previous day, showing the outside of Ryuji's quiet home. Ryuji, excited for Wonder Festival tomorrow, is interrupted by the ringing of his doorbell. With a look of annoyance, Ryuji trudges to the door to see who is bothering him. He opens the door to find Tanaka, the level 25 assassin, looking grave and determined. Tanaka apologizes for the sudden visit, his expression tense as he stands on the doorstep. Ryuji stares back with a blank, uninterested expression, clearly not wanting to be disturbed. He says he has to be up early and tries to slam the door shut on his visitor. Tanaka is shocked by the dismissal, shouting out in protest as the door closes. Unwilling to be ignored, Tanaka mashes the doorbell button repeatedly and frantically. Ryuji slides the door open again, curtly telling the assassin their conversation isn't over. He sighs in resignation, telling Tanaka to get on with it, but not out in the open. Ryuji refuses to let him inside, insisting the entryway is more than sufficient for their talk. Tanaka explains the chairman was summoned by the Prime Minister, probably regarding the RST. He begins to explain why the Adventure High School is unique, asking if Ryuji knows. Ryuji bluntly replies that he has no idea, as he's never tried to build a school. Tanaka clarifies it was established with government backing, a decision the Prime Minister made. Ryuji, looking stressed, asks if this will be a long story, since it all starts tomorrow. Tanaka reveals that a faction of politicians wants to shut the school down, calling it dangerous. If many students die during the RST, public opinion will turn, sealing the school's fate. If the Prime Minister loses support, he will abandon the school, a fact that worries the chairman. Ryuji glances at his phone, coolly informing Tanaka he has 2 minutes left to talk. Tanaka is internally stunned by Ryuji's incredible indifference to the unfolding crisis. As a last resort, Tanaka mentions that the school's top 3 beauties will be there as guards. He glances hopefully at Ryuji, expecting this news to finally get a reaction. Ryuji just smiles faintly at his phone, scoffing at the very idea of 3D girls. Tanaka is aghast. Ryuji laughed at beautiful girls. His willpower must be made of steel. Ryuji, looking at an anime figure on his phone, notes that Tanaka has 1 minute left. He tells the worried assassin that he already warned everyone in his videos not to go in. Tanaka asks how far the 3 level 40 girls can safely go while acting as guards. Ryuji states that at their level, they can barely handle the 36th floor. He delivers a chilling prophecy. If they descend to the 37th floor, they will all be annihilated. Tanaka starts to question him, but Ryuji cuts him off, stating he has 10 seconds left. Defeated, Tanaka says it's fine and thanks him before sliding the door shut and leaving. Alone, Ryuji sighs, admitting to himself that perhaps he was being a little childish. The scene returns to the present day, showing the massive, craggy Ueno Park dungeon. On the 36th floor, a huge armored dragon roars, terrifying a pair of young adventurers. Kurenai shouts for Aya, who confidently casts her powerful iceberg spell. A massive shard of magical ice shoots through the air towards the great beast. The students watch in awe as the dragon moves with blinding speed, dodging the attack. The iceberg shatters against the dungeon wall in a glittering explosion of ice and magic. The dragon's head is suddenly rocked by a powerful, glowing impact. A stylish boot plants itself firmly on the stone floor with a resounding thud. Kurenai lands a devastating kick, smashing the dragon's head into the ground. The colossal monster collapses, defeated, and the surrounding students erupt in cheers. They celebrate their incredible victory, already dreaming of the riches and fame it will bring. Two students smugly comment that the RST hasn't been so tough after all. Kurenai hears their foolish words and begins to tremble with suppressed rage. She whirls on them, shouting that their victory was anything but easy. She declares that if she and Aya hadn't been there, they all would have died. The students just laugh, thanking them for the help and casually calling it a meetup. Kurenai clarifies that she and Aya came specifically to stop their reckless behavior. She then becomes flustered, admitting she helped because she saw they were in danger. The students are completely charmed, commenting on her cute broken Japanese and great legs. Aya speaks coolly, stating that their deaths would negatively impact the school's reputation. Her pragmatic words shock the students, who think she sounds cold and uncaring. Kurenai panics, waving her hands and trying to explain that's not what Aya meant. The students, now convinced Kurenai is a good person, decide to head to the next floor. One student cheerfully asks Kurenai to guard them, as she inexplicably floats in the air. Kurenai, at her wit's end, turns to Aya with a tearful plea for help. Aya, the level 40 sage and world's second-ranked adventurer, steps forward to speak. The group of students looks towards her, their expressions a mix of curiosity and confusion. Aya admits there were many close calls and they might not be so lucky next time. The students are stunned into silence, realizing that even she was struggling. They remember she is the noble princess of the Sanzanin family, second only to Isabella. The students whisper among themselves, surprised that someone so aloof is talking to them. Aya stammers, suggesting that by demonstrating their power, they have achieved their goal. Another student agrees, noting that most of A class had already retreated from the 10th floor. With a slight blush, Aya suggests that they end their dungeon exploration for the day. The students look at each other, uncertain of what they should do now. The girl with dreadlocks speaks up, insisting that they can still keep going. She argues that the RST is their chance to make a name for the Adventurer High School. Her friends agree, saying it's not right to give up before even trying. She declares that her group will proceed alone, thanking the others for their help. Kurenai watches them leave, worried that their excitement has completely clouded their judgment. Aya warns Kurenai that it's too dangerous to continue, as her own MP is nearly depleted. Aya states that dungeon exploration is at one's own risk, and they should withdraw. Resigned, Kurenai and Aya begin their retreat down the long, empty stone corridor. Kurenai glances back over her shoulder, unable to shake her worry for the other students. Aya reminds her that an adventurer's duty is to survive and bring back resources. She looks forward with grim resolve, adding that this rule applies to them as well. Kurenai looks downcast, sadly agreeing that Aya is right about their duty. She then remembers that their class representative was helping a rescue team on the first floor. A flicker of realization crosses Aya's face as she processes this information. She admits she's worried too, but her priority is getting Kurenai back safely. Kurenai closes her eyes, a pivotal memory surfacing from her past. She recalls her master teaching her that Kung Fu is for protecting the weak, not defeating the strong. She stops, apologizes to Aya, and says she simply cannot abandon her classmates. Aya, understanding her friend's resolve, immediately declares that she will go with her. Kurenai is shocked, protesting that it's far too dangerous for Aya to come along. A pair of armored boots steps into the frame, announcing the arrival of a third party. Isabella appears before them in a shower of sparkles, asking where everyone else has gone. Kurenai and Aya's faces light up with joy and relief as they cry out Isabella's name. Isabella, the level 42 Holy Knight and World Rank 1, smiles warmly and says hello. Kurenai explains that the other students went to the 37th floor after a tough monster fight. Isabella's eyes widen in pure shock upon hearing they descended to the 37th floor. At the same time, at the Tokyo Big Site, Tanaka uses Shadowrun to race through the crowd. A startled crowd wonders if a person just rushed past them in a blur. Tanaka sprints through the massive, crowded hall, desperately searching for Furuya. Clutching a catalog, he thinks with grim urgency that the students will die. Ryuji and Yamada finally reach the line's end, relieved to have secured their spot. A rare, blissful smile spreads across Ryuji's face as his prize is within reach. Suddenly, Tanaka appears, his face a mask of panic as he exclaims he's found him. Ryuji is utterly bewildered, asking why Assassin Tanaka is at the Wonder Festival. Tanaka pleads with him to go to the Ueno dungeon, his voice strained with panic. He explains that special class students have descended to the perilous 36th or 37th floor. Ryuji's eyes widen in shock at the grave news, the implication clear. Yamada reminds a distracted Ryuji that their long-awaited turn in line is next. Ryuji's gaze hardens with resolve, his priorities shifting in an instant. He shoves the line marker into Tanaka's hands, asking him to get the figure. Tanaka stares at the sign, stunned by the sudden, bizarrely important new mission. Ryuji asks him to get the details from Yamada, already turning to leave. He sprints away, a blur of motion carving a path through the dense crowd. Yamada watches him go, giving a thumbs up of understanding and encouragement. A staff member calls out a warning not to run, but Ryuji is already gone. In a cold stone corridor, Isabella fumes that the students went to lower floors. Kurenai calmly suggests it would be better to observe them from the shadows. Isabella pauses, her expression hardening with a different kind of resolve. She declares they will not hide, but will go to help them fair and square. Kurenai is shocked, wondering if this is truly Isabella's usual character. Aya, however, gives a cheerful thumbs up, loving the direct approach. Kurenai worries that even for an aristocrat like Aya, this will be difficult. On the 37th floor, the group of reckless students stands in a vast chamber. The girl with dreadlocks and her friends are tense, sensing a grave danger. She knows they were mocked for leveling up, but this is different. A monstrous silhouette fills a doorway, its single eye glowing in the oppressive darkness. The creature's slitted reptilian eye narrows, focusing on its newfound prey. Isabella's eyes widen, her determination clear as she prepares for battle. She rallies her companions Kurenai and Aya, telling them to go all out. Back at the convention, Ryuji is frustrated. He needs to teleport, but the restroom is packed. His thoughts drift to the blonde transfer student he passed in the hall. He recalls the brief, impactful moment they passed each other yesterday. He can't get her out of his mind, certain her level is over 50. He looks at the massive convention center, the site of his current dilemma. He knows he must hurry, but using teleportation magic outside a dungeon is illegal. His eyes lock onto a sign for a restricted, staff-only area. He makes his decision in a split second, a look of resolve on his face. A staff member is startled by the sound of a door opening and closing behind him. He turns and rushes to the door, telling the unseen intruder they can't enter. He looks around confused, wondering where the person went. Opening the door, he finds only an empty, silent stairwell. Ryuji reappears in a flash of light, his expression grim and focused. He arrives at the Ueno Park dungeon to a scene of absolute carnage. Under the effects of invisibility, he wonders what has happened here. He looks over the field of wounded, furious they ignored his video warnings. He decides he has no time for these fools and must get to the 37th floor. He takes a step forward, ready to abandon them to their fate. But he stops, sighing, deciding he can at least offer some first aid. He raises a hand, quietly incanting the spell Extra Heal. A wave of restorative light washes over the wounded, who cry out in thanks. From the crowd, a white-haired young man looks on, shocked that someone else can use the spell. It is Ken, a level 39 Grand Priest, who berates the wounded for their weakness. The other injured adventurers plead with him for healing, their voices desperate. Ken snaps at them to be quiet, preparing his own healing magic. He prioritizes the most critically injured, his triage swift and professional. Seeing the situation is handled, Ryuji turns and sprints deeper into the dungeon. On the 37th floor, a massive clawed dragon foot slams onto the stone floor. The students recognize the creature from the DTJC's videos, the baby dragon. It is a special random shuffle time monster, far from its usual 100th floor home. The great beast lets out a low growl, steam venting from its nostrils. The students can only stare, their faces pale with abject terror. The girl with dreadlocks accepts that this is her fault for leading them here. She resolves to buy her friends time to escape, preparing to sacrifice herself. Her classmates refuse to abandon her, declaring they are special class students too. Inspired by her courage, they rally together for one last, desperate stand. She charges forward, dagger raised, a determined look on her face. She looks up, a flicker of confusion crossing her features. Her arm has been severed at the elbow, the wound gushing blood. The massive dragon looms over her, the power difference an impassable gulf. She realizes with dawning horror that the level gap is too immense. She tries to use magic to stop the bleeding, but she knows it is futile. She resigns herself to her fate, knowing she will be killed instantly. Suddenly, a massive wall of jagged ice erupts from the floor. The dragon is thrown off balance by the surprise magical assault. Aya gives a confident snap of her fingers, her attack perfectly executed. The baby dragon dodges with surprising agility as the ice shatters. It slams its massive body into the wall of ice, turning it to dust. The girl with dreadlocks is shocked, realizing Aya has saved her. Kurenai follows up with a powerful flying kick aimed at the dragon's side. Her attack connects with a massive explosion of force, but has no effect. She lands, grimacing at the ineffectiveness of her powerful blow. She can't believe it, wondering if this is the pride of a martial artist. Kurenai stands amidst the dust, remarking on how tough the dragon is. The dragon roars in fury, preparing to unleash its own devastating attack. The girl with dreadlocks recognizes the signs of a powerful breath attack. Isabella plants her shield, vowing that she will not let the dragon pass. She intercepts the fiery blast, her body thrown back by the immense force. The girl with dreadlocks is stunned by the power of the World Rank 1 adventurer. Isabella prays to the goddess, asking for the strength to protect her friends. She looks at her sword, realizing it couldn't even scratch the beast's hide. She prepares her ultimate skill, invoking the name of the goddess Lunaria. A shimmering, holy barrier slams into the dragon, trapping it completely. The girl with dreadlocks is amazed, wondering if the beast can even be defeated. Isabella screams for everyone to evacuate, warning that her skill won't last. Aya casts extra heal on the wounded students, her magic a beacon of hope. Kurenai directs the evacuation, telling the others to buy time for everyone to escape. She orders the able-bodied to help the wounded, promising they will all survive. Isabella, the Holy Knight, calls upon her dimensional storage. She retrieves her final, precious mana-restoring potion. Nearby, Aya the Sage collapses, her magic completely spent. Isabella's eyes widen with alarm, seeing her friend's plight. She offers the potion, urging the exhausted Aya to drink. In her haste, she makes a critical error and throws it. Aya yelps as the vial bounces off her outstretched hands. The potion shatters uselessly against the cold stone floor. Kurenai appears, handing another potion to a blushing Aya. A mortified Isabella stammers apologies for her clumsy throw. Miles away, Ryuji prepares to use his item box skill. He realizes with a jolt his dungeon core is not there. He remembers his Golem, Plot 1, polishing the pretty orb. Deciding it's faster, he resolves to run to the 37th floor. Down below, the baby dragon unleashes a devastating attack. Isabella stares in horror, knowing they are totally outmatched. Kurenai shouts that 5 minutes is all they need to escape. The dragon charges forward, a blur of monstrous speed. It lunges with its claws, aiming directly for Isabella's legs. Kurenai activates body enhancement, her form blurring. She snatches Isabella out of the path of the deadly attack. She realizes the beast was too fast for the others to see. Isabella and Aya wonder where the vanished monster went. Kurenai plants her feet, preparing to use her enhanced speed. She triples her leg strength, carrying Isabella to safety. Aya watches in wide-eyed shock at Kurenai's incredible feat. The dragon turns, unleashing a torrent of searing dragonfire. Aya casts absolute defense, invoking the sage's protection. Kurenai praises her, but Aya notes the spell's high cost. The dragon's fire blasts against the shimmering magic shield. The barrier cracks as Aya converts her life into magic. Kurenai prepares to use her life-sacrificing ultimate skill. Aya cries out, knowing that Hanfa will die if she does. Suddenly, a massive force erupts from the dungeon floor. A colossal wall of ice, an iceberg, shoots forward. The jagged ice surges through the corridor like a frozen wave. The three women are thrown back by the powerful magic. The entire corridor is transformed into a glacial landscape. The rampaging baby dragon is trapped in a tomb of ice. Kurenai looks on, a single tear of relief on her cheek. Aya stares, whispering the name of the spell, Iceberg. Isabella's eyes also fill with tears of shock and gratitude. A pair of sneakers steps into view. Ryuji has arrived. He dons his iconic DTJC helmet, glad he remembered it. Inside the mask, a faint blush colors his determined face. Kurenai recognizes him, calling out his famous channel name. Her own clothes are torn and tattered from the fierce battle. Aya, in equally shredded gear, blushes with embarrassment. Isabella clutches her ruined top, trying to cover herself. The three women stare at their mysterious savior, confused. Ryuji ignores them, calmly summoning his item box. He curses his weakness for three-dimensional girls under his breath. He pulls out 3 unused adventurers' cloaks for them. The girls gasp, grateful for the offer of new clothing. Feeling awkward, he says he will deliver the finishing blow. He stands before the dragon, his perfect day now ruined. He clenches his fist, channeling his fury into one attack. He roars for his lost figure, shattering the ice and dragon. The women watch as the monster is utterly obliterated. Inside his helmet, Ryuji realizes he misjudged his strength. The cloaked women are terrified by his overwhelming power. He offers them the dragon's loot, divided into 4 shares. They are overjoyed, excitedly deciding which portion to take. Ryuji watches them, thinking that they seem very happy. Aya asks to put her share in his much larger item box. She tries her own inventory, but it is completely full. Kurenai asks if it's broken, but Aya admits she just shoves things in. Ryuji feels a strange kinship with her disorganized habits. Isabella kindly offers to hold their items for them instead. Ryuji observes the three of them interacting with each other. He thinks about how much they remind him of anime heroines. They are kind, caring, and have wonderful personalities. He marvels at the feeling of a real-life anime heroine. Kurenai mentions that he often bites his tongue in his videos. She explains his verbal tic has become popular with children. His tone hardens as he asks why they ignored his RST warning. Kurenai says everyone knew the danger from watching his video. He is confused by their seemingly contradictory actions. Aya shyly confesses the truth about the school's leadership. The others are shocked, as they were absent and didn't know. Ryuji listens intently as the conspiracy is revealed to him. The headmaster had told them the RST was for commoners. He saw it as a chance to prove the special class's power. The students recall feeling that something was off at the time. The headmaster framed the RST as a challenge for the chosen. Kurenai asks if the headmaster was inciting them to go. She is surprised that he knows someone in A class. Aya admits she doesn't know them, she just overheard them. Ryuji feels a strange sense of familiarity with Aya. Isabella wonders why the headmaster would create such conflict. Kurenai looks back at Ryuji, who is listening intently. Aya guesses it's because they belong to different factions. She explains the headmaster is from the Ministry of Education. Kurenai finds it hard to believe they'd use students in a proxy war. Ryuji thinks that such power struggles are actually quite common. He thanks them for the information, glad his videos helped. Isabella and Kurenai blush at his unexpected praise. He tells them that thanks to their bravery, the school was saved. He pauses for a moment, letting his words sink in. He finishes by telling them not to be so reckless again. Isabella and Kurenai solemnly agree to be more careful in the future. The masked DTJC delivers a lecture on the New World's guiding principle. He acknowledges their hard work, pleading with them not to die needlessly. The three women look up at him, their faces shining with pure admiration. He praises their dedication, noting their jobs are difficult ones to level up. Kurenai suddenly asks how he could possibly know what their jobs are. Ryuji freezes for a split second, realizing he has made a mistake. Isabella guesses that he must have heard about them from Tanaka, the assassin. Aya quietly suggests that perhaps he keeps up with the adventurer rankings. Ryuji explains he deduced their jobs by observing their battle equipment. The women are instantly flustered, remembering their tattered, revealing outfits. Aya is especially mortified, letting out a silent scream of embarrassment. They stand awkwardly, suddenly very aware of their state of undress. A wide shot captures the four of them in a profoundly uncomfortable silence. Ryuji panics internally, realizing his speech has made him seem insensitive. The heavy silence stretches on, becoming almost unbearable for him. He awkwardly says he will wait for them upstairs, immediately regretting it. The girls, misunderstanding, brightly agree to meet him at the dungeon exit. He realizes his attempt to sound cool has failed spectacularly. He casts escape, vanishing in a puff of smoke to flee his embarrassment. Arriving home, he immediately dives under his covers, unable to face the world. He thrashes in bed, wishing he could erase the mortifying memory forever. After recounting the tale, his Golem, Plot 1, finds the situation hilarious. A note explains he later told Tanaka about the incident with the school officials. The next day, he enjoys the Wonder Festival with his friend Yamada. He confides in Yamada, revealing his secret identity as a level 1501 hero. Yamada accepts his incredible story without question, proving his true friendship. And so, the massive 3-day Wonder Festival event finally came to a close. On that very same day, the chaotic, random shuffle time also concluded. A title page shows Ryuji facing the girls before the dragon's glittering remains. Ryuji, back in his masked persona, returns to the dungeon feeling refreshed. Kurenai, still weary from the battle, feels a sharp pain in her leg. Aya lets out a deep sigh, her physical and magical energy completely spent. Isabella forces a smile, though she is clearly struggling with exhaustion. Ryuji, now without his helmet, observes that all three look unsteady on their feet. Kurenai and Isabella are overjoyed to see him, offering their heartfelt thanks. He wonders if his current mana will be enough to fully heal all three of them. Raising his hand, he begins to chant the powerful spell, Extra Heal. A brilliant wave of restorative light washes over the three surprised women. Kurenai gasps in utter amazement, feeling completely recovered in an instant. Isabella is stunned, having never experienced such potent healing magic before. Aya recognizes the spell's name, questioning its unbelievable power. Overcome with gratitude, the girls thank him profusely for saving them. Ryuji bluntly dismisses their thanks, saying he simply helped on a whim. Aya, still overwhelmed, shyly tries to offer her thanks once more. She nervously clutches her cloak, unable to meet his gaze directly. The four of them stand in silence before the massive pile of dragon loot. He explains that he learned most of what he knows from Tanaka. Kurenai is shocked, realizing the legendary DTJC knows Tanaka the assassin. Ryuji points to the loot, declaring it will be split into 4 equal shares. Kurenai and Isabella immediately protest, insisting they did nothing to earn it. He explains that since they were fighting before he arrived, it is only fair. The conversation continues on the stone-paved floor of the dungeon. A flashback shows a younger Ryuji and Daenerys giving loot to another party. The two of them walk away from the grateful but undeserving adventurers. The young Ryuji asks Daenerys why they shared, since the others did nothing. Daenerys explains it is to avoid future arguments about kill-stealing. A young Ryuji quietly absorbs her pragmatic and worldly lesson. Daenerys adds with a smile that sometimes humans are worse than monsters. Ryuji's expression is serious as he recalls this formative memory. Back in the present, he tells them to leave the items if they don't want them. Kurenai's face lights up as she excitedly asks for her share as a memento. Kurenai playfully nudges a blushing Aya, teasing her about wanting one too. Kurenai grins, announcing that Aya also wants to keep something as a souvenir. Isabella is struck by the idea, realizing it's the perfect way to remember this day. She admits she came to Japan specifically because she admired his channel. With newfound resolve, she also asked for a memento of their fateful meeting. Ryuji is taken aback by their intense desire for a memento or memory. He finally understands. They aren't just adventurers, they are his loyal viewers. He realizes this is the first time he's spoken to fans other than Miss Kojima. Feeling a bit nervous, he tells them to pick what they want from the 4 piles. The 3 women are ecstatic, finding it hard to choose from the glittering treasures. Ryuji watches them with a small smile, thinking to himself that they look happy. Kurenai asks Aya to store her chosen items in her item box for safekeeping. Aya tries but finds that her dimensional storage is completely full. Kurenai asks if it's broken, but Aya admits she just threw stuff in carelessly. Ryuji feels a sudden, powerful wave of kinship as he does the exact same thing. Isabella kindly offers to hold their items, and a grateful Aya thanks her. Ryuji watches the 3 of them, his gaze thoughtful and observant. He thinks back to the girl he briefly passed in the chairman's office. He realizes they are like real-life versions of his favorite anime heroines. He's struck by their powerful presence, just like true 3D anime heroines. Kurenai mentions that the DTJC often chews on his words in his videos. She explains that children have started imitating his unique way of speaking. Ryuji's mood turns serious as he remembers the reason for this meeting. The girls explain they weren't supposed to enter, but everyone was watching his videos. Ryuji is confused by their reasoning, unable to follow their logic. Aya, blushing, reveals that the headmaster and principal were behind it all. The other 2 are shocked, as the officials were supposed to be on leave. Ryuji listens intently, his expression unreadable behind his sleek helmet. A flashback shows a teacher telling students the RST warnings don't apply to them. The portly headmaster tells them this is a chance to prove their true strength. Some of the students, including the girl with dreadlocks, look determined. The headmaster encourages them to take on the challenge of random shuffle time. Kurenai realizes the principal must have been inciting the A-class as well. She is surprised that Ryuji seems to know someone in the A-class. Aya clarifies that she doesn't know them, she just overheard them talking. Ryuji finds himself feeling a strange sense of familiarity with Aya. Isabella wonders why the headmasters would pit the classes against each other. Ryuji stands behind Kurenai, contemplating this new, dangerous political game. Kurenai, the martial artist in the witch hat, looks flustered. She wonders if the school officials are using students in a proxy war. Isabella finds the idea hard to believe, while Aya finds it confusing. Ryuji, as the DTJC, reflects that such political maneuvering is quite common. He thanks the 3 women for sharing this valuable information with him. Aya and Isabella blush slightly at his sincere gratitude. He acknowledges that thanks to them, the school was saved from disaster. The situation could have been much, much worse. However, he sternly warns them not to be so reckless again. Soberly, the 3 of them agree to be more careful in the future. He tells them that in this new world, a high level is justice. He doesn't want them to die over something trivial and irreversible. The girls are visibly moved, their eyes sparkling with admiration. He praises them, noting their jobs are difficult to level up. Aya suddenly asks how he could possibly know their specific jobs. Ryuji is caught completely off guard by her sharp question. Isabella quickly guesses that assassin Tanaka must have told him. Kurenai shyly wonders if he's been checking the adventurer rankings. Ryuji bluffs, claiming he deduced their jobs from their equipment. The girls are taken aback by his confident explanation. Kurenai then realizes the implication and becomes utterly mortified. All three recall their battle-torn, extremely revealing outfits. An intensely awkward silence falls over the entire group. Ryuji panics internally, realizing he has ruined the heroic mood. The silence stretches on, becoming almost physically painful. He makes a clumsy attempt at a cool exit, asking if they'll wait upstairs. They misinterpret him, cheerfully agreeing to meet at the dungeon exit. He realizes his attempt to sound cool has completely backfired. He casts escape and vanishes, leaving them stunned. Too embarrassed to face them, he teleports straight home. Diving into bed, he thrashes in shame, wanting to forget the incident. He later tells Plot 1 the story, and the Golem finds it hilarious. A flashback shows Tanaka visiting Ryuji to discuss the corrupt school officials. Ryuji and his friend Yamada enjoy the final day of Wonder Festival. He explains his absence with a wild tale of being a level 1501 hero. Yamada, a true friend, accepts his story without question. The 3-day Wonder Festival finally comes to an end. On the very same day, the chaotic random shuffle time also concludes. The students who entered the dungeon are given a week of house arrest. Ryuji uses his suspension to catch up on his manga and anime backlog. A week passes, and the students return to the Adventurer High School. Aya's new prosthetic arm glows with faint magical energy. She flexes her new fingers, noting that she still needs to get used to it. Honfa looks at her friend with concern, lamenting her lost arm. Aya simply says her friend's name, Honfa. Honfa thanks Aya for her help during the random shuffle time incident. Aya insists the thanks should go to the DTJC, who saved them all. Honfa listens to this, her expression thoughtful and unreadable. Ken approaches, telling Aya she should have shown him her arm sooner. He claims he would have prioritized her healing over the others. Aya quietly says his name, Ken. Honfa tells him off, but Aya dismisses it, saying it's fine. Ken insists that for her, more than just an arm was at stake. Ignoring him, Aya declares that she is heading to the dungeon. She slides the classroom door open and walks out alone. Honfa watches her friend leave, her eyes filled with worry. Ken informs her that Aya has been kicked out of her party. Honfa is shocked to hear that her friend has been abandoned. Her expression hardens with a newfound resolve. Aya walks dejectedly down a city street, all alone. A voice calls out from the darkness, telling her to wait. Honfa and Ken have caught up, inviting her to the dungeon with them. Aya blushes slightly, quietly agreeing to their offer. The three of them walk off together, a new and unlikely party formed. That evening, under a starry sky, Ryuji is at home. Plot 1 senses its master's unease and asks what is wrong. Ryuji wonders aloud why he is still in E-class with his top scores. Plot 1 suggests calling the level 25 assassin, Tanaka, for answers. Ryuji agrees, remembering he has a favor to call in. He makes the call from his balcony late at night. A sleepy Tanaka answers, asking what Furuya wants. Ryuji gets straight to the point, asking how class promotions work. Tanaka explains it's based on dungeon results and the value of sold items. Ryuji is stunned as he sells items constantly, but his rank hasn't changed. He hangs up, sensing something is deeply suspicious about the system. His investigation leads him to the Kijima Tax Accounting Office. Miss Kijima confirms she has been looking into the Adventurer High School for him. She lays out the school's financials. Chairman Iwaki is the founder. He doesn't accept donations, preventing outside influence on his vision. Ryuji asks if Iwaki is truly serious about training new adventurers. Miss Kijima confirms that this is highly likely. She details Iwaki's other successful, off-the-books business ventures. Ryuji concludes that the chairman seems like a good person. This means the truly suspicious ones are the school's other leaders. He is impressed by Miss Kijima's thorough and efficient investigation. She reveals Iwaki Industry has the #1 global share in magic stone processing. Ryuji marvels that this is the work of a fellow otherworldly engineer. He thanks Miss Kijima for her help, and they shake hands. As he walks home, he reflects on how much he relies on her. In her office, Miss Kijima looks at her hand with a faint blush. She admires her hand, which the young hero had just held. The next day, back at the Adventurer High School, Yoshiko is arguing furiously with her friends in front of the class rankings. She demands to know why another party was promoted to A-class over hers. Her friend explains the other party's leader is a corporate president's daughter. Yoshiko fumes, declaring that such favoritism makes her hard work feel pointless. Ryuji arrives asking his childhood friend what's wrong. She looks down at him, demanding to know what class he is in. When he says he's still in E-class, she explodes, calling him lame. Ryuji is stunned by the cold, condescending way she addresses him. A group of students blocks Ryuji's path, one sneering that he's an E-class nobody. Walking away alone, Ryuji is overcome with a strange, unsettling feeling. He realizes with a start that his childhood friend Yoshiko has changed so much. Tanaka, the chairman's secretary, calls out to him, but Ryuji tells her to stop being so formal. She informs him that the chairman has summoned him to offer his thanks. As they walk, Ryuji internally notes her status as a level 26 assassin. Yoshiko and her friends watch, baffled as to why the secretary is with an E-class student. Yoshiko is completely shocked, wondering how Ryuji became so friendly with the chairman's secretary. She can't comprehend it, knowing he's a jobless student with no connections. They arrive at a door bearing a sign for the chairman's office. Inside, Chairman Iwaki bows deeply, profusely thanking Ryuji for saving the students from disaster. When asked for a reward, Ryuji makes a simple request to turn back time. Iwaki sweats, admitting that such a feat is far beyond his current abilities. He muses that Ryuji already has money, so maybe he wants a class change. The chairman then offers to take him out for a meal instead. Ryuji declines, thinking that using connections to change classes would feel wrong. Iwaki offers a different prize, prototype scouter glasses that display stats above a person's head. Ryuji's eyes widen and sparkle with pure, unadulterated otaku glee. Seeing his reaction, Iwaki smiles and offers the glasses to him. Ryuji eagerly puts them on, thanking the chairman for the incredible gift. He looks around, seeing Iwaki's level 1 and Tanaka's level 26 assassin status. "Whoa, I can really see it," he exclaims, amazed by the new technology. Iwaki then reveals the real reason for his visit. The headmaster and principal put Ryuji in E-class. Ryuji is confused, unsure what the chairman means by this. Iwaki explains they've been faking records for powerful students, possibly using Ryuji's sales numbers. He sighs, saying he must now fire them, a task he is not looking forward to. A sinister smile crosses Ryuji's face as he asks if he can come along. Iwaki and Tanaka are taken aback by his enthusiastic and slightly menacing offer. Iwaki agrees, stating that he is, after all, deeply indebted to Ryuji. As they walk, Iwaki nervously asks Ryuji not to cause any trouble. They enter the headmaster's office with Ryuji using his skills to become almost unnoticeable. The portly headmaster arrogantly asks Iwaki what business he has with them. Iwaki cuts straight to the point, demanding both of their immediate resignations. The two corrupt officials are momentarily stunned into silence by his bluntness. The headmaster's shock gives way to a cruel smile, asking what happens if they refuse. Iwaki calmly and firmly states that he will simply fire them. The headmaster bellows, questioning if Iwaki is prepared to make enemies of two government ministries. The principal laughs, threatening to have Iwaki's certification revoked if he goes through with it. Ryuji steps forward from the background, politely asking for a moment of their time. The principal sneers at him, demanding to know who he is and why a student is present. Ryuji's eyes glow with hypnotic runes as he declares that they will now speak their true feelings. The headmaster and principal's arrogant expressions slacken into a vacant, suggestible daze. Tanaka, watching from the side, finds her own eyes swirling, caught in the spell. Iwaki is also affected, his gaze becoming distant as the hypnosis takes hold. Ryuji begins his interrogation, asking the two men what they truly desire. They confess with glee that Adventure High is a place to train the next generation of slaves. Tanaka is visibly shocked to hear their vile, unvarnished intentions. Iwaki mutters in disbelief, questioning their horrifying use of the word slaves. They elaborate that adventurers are merely slaves meant to gather resources for the nation's elite. Ryuji listens to their despicable philosophy, his own expression hardening with cold resolve. The headmaster continues, explaining their plan to use elite students as mascots to manipulate the public. The principal laughs, adding that all lower-class citizens are in fact slaves. Iwaki is heartbroken, lamenting that this is what has become of the school he built for adventurers. Tanaka is disgusted, realizing they've created a system to buy adventurers' hard-won materials cheaply. Ryuji's glowing eyes fix on them, suggesting that to manage slaves, they must first become them. Under his command, the two men agree that they must experience the dungeon for themselves. As Ryuji walks out, he advises them to submit their resignations and get proper gear. He gives one last command to restore the data they altered before closing the door. He thinks to himself that he is no hero, but they will not get back the profits he earned. In the dungeon, the two men swing bats uselessly at a slime, wondering why they're so weak. More slimes converge on them, and they scream in absolute terror. The headmaster shrieks at the approaching monsters to stay away from him. The principal wails in despair, crying out that he doesn't want to die. The gelatinous monsters lunge forward, ready to engulf the two pathetic men. Suddenly, a party of real adventurers appears, with Ken casting a healing spell. The two men are enveloped in a restorative light, their minor wounds vanishing. Aya and another student leap in, effortlessly dispatching the slimes with kicks and slashes. The disgraced officials sit in puddles of defeated slime, saved but utterly humiliated. Their rescuers scold them for entering the dungeon so poorly equipped. The men bow deeply, sobbing their thanks as Ken tells them to get lost. One of the students notes their resemblance to the school's leadership, but dismisses the idea. The scene shifts to a quiet, peaceful view of Ryuji's suburban home. Ryuji watches a news report about the former school officials being hospitalized with minor injuries. The anchorwoman concludes the report by stating that neither man possessed an adventurer trait. Ryuji tells Plot 1 that the two were too pathetic to even be dungeon fodder. In his office, Iwaki notes that the men resigned, but their memories of the event are hazy. The doorbell chimes at Ryuji's house, interrupting the quiet afternoon. He opens the door to find Yoshiko's mother, who offers a warm greeting. Ryuji hands her a shopping bag, explaining it's a manga Yoshiko had borrowed. A look of deep concern suddenly crosses her face. She forces a smile, thanking him for going to the trouble of returning it. She then apologizes, confessing that Yoshiko has become a shut-in and refuses to see anyone. Ryuji, deciding it's not his problem, gives a slight bow and tries to end the conversation. He pauses for a moment, a flicker of confusion crossing his features. She apologizes again for bothering him, saying her daughter isn't very bright. Ryuji listens silently, his expression unreadable as he takes in her words. With a gentle smile, she makes a final, heartfelt plea for him to remain Yoshiko's friend. Her earnest request seems to strike a nerve, his eyes widening slightly. Back inside, his golem Plot 1 makes a grass sound effect, a sign of amusement. Ryuji tells the golem he had intended to cut ties, but her mother's plea has trapped him. He complains that he's terrible with girls, even the ones who call him rude names. Plot 1 asks if that includes tsundere anime girls, to which Ryuji says anime is different. Lying on his bed, he sighs, lamenting that Yoshiko was never like this before. Plot 1 offers a chilling theory. Her personality changed because she lacked the aptitude for her trait. Ryuji sits up abruptly, questioning the meaning of aptitude. He realizes that Yoshiko's strange behavior started right after she awakened as an adventurer. Plot 1 confirms that in the other world, a portion of adventurers were driven mad by their powers. Ryuji listens, a bead of sweat on his temple as the grim implications sink in. He recalls that in the other world, about 10% of adventurers became unstable. An infographic explains the power gap, showing how some adventurers abuse their strength over ordinary people. A dark new trend emerges as some adventurers begin preying upon weaker individuals. Ryuji observes that even his friend Yoshiko has developed a worse, condescending personality. His golem Plot 1 notes this world is becoming just like the one he escaped. Ryuji looks on with a confused expression, not yet understanding the implication. Plot 1 reports that adventurers are now attacking people to steal their materials. The golem explains that player killers have appeared, a reality Ryuji finds shocking. Ryuji recalls Daenerys explaining that adventure traits were once a sacred, divine duty. In her world, those who abused their power for theft were given a harsh death sentence. He had thought the justice too severe, but Daenerys insisted it was necessary. This dark new reality now unfolds within the familiar Ueno Park dungeon. Inside the dungeon, Kunimi suggests to his boss, Shashu, that they should finish up. As they walk, Kunimi warns of recent robberies happening in this very area. They suddenly hear shouting as a group of thugs corners another adventurer. Kunimi and Shicho peek around a corner, startled by the violent scene. A blonde woman has been struck, her face showing a mix of pain and fury. Two of her assailants mock her, joking about their low-level strength. Horrified, Shicho points out the attack, but Kunimi urges him to find another path. Shicho hesitates, his face a mask of fear, as Kunimi calls out to him. Overcoming his fear, he takes a firm, resolute step out from their hiding place. He bravely confronts the thugs, demanding that they leave the woman alone. The thugs' leader sneers, dismissing them as weak and demanding their loot. Shicho defiantly refuses to surrender their items, and the leader grabs him. The tense confrontation immediately escalates into a brutal, one-sided assault. The thugs mercilessly beat them, taking care not to actually kill their victims. The leader steals their backpack, mocking their weakness before he leaves. Their cruel work finished, the gang saunters away, leaving their victims behind. Kunimi helps a dazed Shicho, who tells him to check on the woman first. He asks the woman if she is all right, but she is upset about her stolen items. She thanks Shicho for his help, glad that her injuries are not too serious. Kunimi, still smarting from the fight, says they were of no real help. The woman glares, clarifying that her gratitude was not intended for Kunimi. She accuses him of planning to run away, leaving him utterly stunned. Shachu makes peace while Kunimi can only protest that he is only 22. Uwo storms through the dungeon, furious that the police are powerless against the thuggish adventurers. She demands to know if they should just let the thugs run wild, but Shachu tries to calm her down. Shachu explains that the thugs are high level, while the first floor is full of ordinary, powerless people. He notes that real adventurers quickly move on, so the thugs have found a route to avoid them. Kunimi simplifies the situation. For them, only the area near the dungeon's entrance is truly safe. Uo despairs, as the entrance is too crowded with slimes to earn anything of value. Walking down a long, warehouse-like corridor, Shachu concludes there is nothing they can do. He glances at his companions and smiles warmly, simply glad that they are both doing well. Uo curses her bad luck, frustrated that she has to hunt slimes without an adventurer trait. Kunimi's thoughts drift, wondering what the mysterious boy who once saved them is doing now. The sun rises over a cloudy sky, heralding the start of a new and uncertain day. The scene shifts to the imposing, modern campus of the Adventurer High School. Ryuji Furuya walks with quiet purpose across the school grounds in his neat uniform. U spots him from behind and stops in her tracks, a sudden jolt of recognition hitting her. Her eyes sparkle as she realizes with certainty that he is the one from that time. A sign on a heavy door indicates their new location, Supply Warehouse C. Inside, Tanaka reveals the chairman has appointed her the new headmaster, surprising Ryuji. She explains his class will change, but it will take time to investigate the previous administration's corruption. Ryuji smiles, stating confidently that he will of course be placed in the special class. He then turns serious, asking about Yoshiko Mihashi's chances of being promoted to A class. Tanaka thoughtfully consults her tablet, considering his question about the student from B class. She apologizes, stating that while she can't share details, Yoshiko's promotion is likely impossible. Ryuji looks down, disappointed, but quietly thanks Tanaka for giving him an answer. Tanaka gets to business, asking if he has a large stockpile of medicinal herb moss to sell. Ryuji is surprised, wondering aloud if Chairman Iwaki is planning to start making potions. Tanaka smirks, doubting even he could have enough materials for the requested 100,000 potions. Ryuji opens his item box, and massive sacks of herbs begin pouring out, startling her. They are dwarfed by a mountain of supplies. Ryuji says he can get 5 million portions ready. Tanaka is completely dumbfounded, asking if he is some kind of obsessive herb-collecting maniac. He explains that cheap potions will save adventurers and help those without special traits. A knowing smile touches Tanaka's lips. Ryuji's selfless reasoning is exactly as the chairman predicted. A flashback shows Chairman Iwaki's confident belief that Ryuji would absolutely agree to help them. Tanaka asks how he'd like to be paid. Ryuji decides on a wire transfer to Furuya Planning. The sign for Classroom 1E marks the entrance to the school's social basement. Ryuji Furuya slides open the door, his expression flat and thoroughly unimpressed. The teacher, Miss Risatu, greets him with a saccharine smile as no job kun. At her cue, the entire class of delinquents erupts in a chorus of cruel laughter. Ryuji's foot taps the floor with a quiet, dangerous rhythm as his patience thins. He coldly assesses their pathetic levels, seeing them as nothing but a childish nuisance. Activating his hypnosis skill, he commands the entire chaotic classroom to fall silent. The students freeze instantly, their taunts dying on their lips under his absolute control. His interrogation begins, asking why none of them have leveled up in half a year. He focuses his gaze on one student, demanding to know why she hasn't improved. A level 2 monk drones that leveling up is a pain. She'd rather watch videos. Ryuji turns his attention to the next student, his questioning continuing without emotion. A level 2 warrior admits he is simply too afraid of dying to enter dungeons. Finally, he turns his cold, questioning gaze upon their teacher, Miss Satu herself. She sees no need to improve, content with being slightly stronger than normal people. He thinks to himself that their pathetic lack of ambition is exactly what he expected. He asks his final damning question, who among them has stolen from the powerless? To his disgust, every single hand in the classroom is raised without any hesitation. He looks at the blissfully smiling teacher, realizing the corruption starts from the top. Knowing the decent students are long gone, he decides this rotten class must be purged. He unleashes a rare and terrible power, the mighty skill known as Level Drain 2. The status displays floating above their heads begin to flicker and fade away. One by one, their powers are snuffed out, their adventurer traits completely erased. He leaves them a final thought. Their powers will return only if they become worthy. He checks a clipboard, noting 5 students are officially absent and in the dungeon. As he leaves, he states the hypnosis will soon wear off, erasing their memories. The scene shifts to the imposing, craggy entrance of the Ueno Park dungeon. Inside, the 5 absent students walk deeper, one telling the others to move on. Suddenly, a strange lethargy washes over them, their bodies feeling incredibly heavy. Looking at their hands in horror, they see their level displays vanishing into thin air. They panic, realizing that deep in the dungeon, they are now completely powerless. Their leader screams for them to retreat, and they turn and flee in absolute terror. From a place unseen, their desperate flight is reflected in the lenses of Ryuji's glasses. He accepts his decision about E-Class, but realizes many others are also unfit for power. Standing invisible in a stone corridor, Ryuji wonders what he should do next. He decides he only wants to protect the world where he can watch his anime. The chapter begins, showing his quiet suburban home under a bold title. Ryuji lets out a surprised questioning sound. Plot 1 reports that only E-Class lost their traits, making Ryuji's immunity suspicious. Ryuji nervously asks if he will be discovered, but Plot 1 tells him not to worry. He briefly wonders if he should have refrained, but Plot 1 insists he was right. The Golem explains that letting criminals run free would tarnish all adventurers' reputations. Plot 1 advises him to act cleverly to avoid suspicion. Ryuji listens intently. A close-up on Ryuji's eyes reveals a deep well of thought and resolve. He decides on a new mission, to tour all the dungeons in the country. He explains his plan to hide his actions among many, like a tree in a forest. Plot 1 waves goodbye, reminding him to film new DTJC videos while he's at it. His crusade begins, using his invisibility to strip thugs of their powers with Level Drain 2. On his channel, the masked hero warns that robbing people can cause traits to vanish. Ryuji complains to Plot 1 for including yet another embarrassing outtake in the final video. He hopes the problem of dungeon crime will fade away due to his channel's massive influence. Plot 1 senses his master's distress and asks what is wrong. Ryuji confesses his guilt over taking their powers and then making videos to cover his tracks. A close-up focuses on Plot 1's silent, unblinking robotic eyes. Plot 1 offers to stop the video uploads and even return the stolen adventurer traits. Ryuji hesitates, knowing the chaos that would ensue if he stopped his work. Plot 1 states its only desire is for its master to be happy, not to do things he hates. Ryuji is visibly moved by his loyal Golem's heartfelt words. His mind made up, he tells Plot 1 to upload the videos as he heads out. He silently thinks a heartfelt thank you to his mechanical friend. With renewed purpose, he decides he will just try a little harder for now. He arrives at the Adventurer High School, standing before the chairman's office. In the office, Ryuji apologizes to Iwaki for being late, but the chairman waves it off. Ryuji reports that the news is full of stories about adventurers becoming violent thugs. Iwaki agrees they must act quickly before the public image of adventurers is ruined. He muses that they need a crime prevention system that high-level adventurers can't bypass. Ryuji suggests security cameras, but Iwaki explains the materials are impossibly rare. Ryuji proposes having high-level adventurers patrol the first floor as a deterrent. Iwaki's eyes light up at the idea, planning to pressure the Prime Minister into creating a volunteer force. Ryuji agrees to help, and Iwaki asks him to announce the program on his channel. He feels a moment of relief, hoping this system will be adopted by other countries. Iwaki then casually asks if Ryuji was involved with E-Class losing their traits. Ryuji breaks into a cold sweat, vehemently denying any knowledge of the incident. Iwaki gives a nervous, knowing smile, clearly not believing a word. He laughingly calls it divine punishment and suggests they continue to cooperate. Ryuji agrees, ready to move forward with their newly forged alliance. Outside the Ueno Park dungeon, a line of adventurers waits to enter. In the shop, Shichu tells Uo her stylish outfit is completely unsuitable for a dungeon. Uo holds up a tracksuit, complaining that it costs an outrageous 50,000 yen. Kunimi questions bringing her along, but Shichu insists it's too dangerous for a girl alone. Uo emerges from the changing room, having reluctantly put on the practical gear. Blushing slightly, she tells her new party members to hurry up so they can start hunting. Kunimi glances over at her, a faint blush dusting his own cheeks. Shichu cheerfully tells Kunimi she looks cute, and Kunimi awkwardly agrees. Uo takes the lead, rallying the party to begin their slime hunt. Shichu directs the battle, telling Kunimi they will attack the slime from behind. The 3 adventurers work in perfect sync, quickly dispatching a slime in the corridor. After a successful hunt, Kunimi calls it a day, thanking his teammates. The new party of 3 walks out of the dungeon together. On the way home, Kunimi apologizes to Uo for having ignored her before. She brushes it off, admitting she had been ignoring him as well. The glittering Tokyo skyline is shown against the backdrop of a starry night. From an overhead view, the three adventurers are seen crossing the street. Shachu asks Uwo why she became an adventurer, having heard it pays better than a salaryman's job. Kunimi laments that without a trait, they can't level up and are always close to death. Uwo listens to their conversation, her expression hardening with frustration. She suddenly snaps at them to shut up, tired of their constant lecturing. Shachu complains about the scumbags who are lucky enough to have traits but abuse them. Uwo looks down, whispering that God is unfair, as she works so hard in the dungeon. From a nearby power pole, a mysterious voice calls out, agreeing with her. As they walk down an alley, Uwo complains that having a trait is useless if you don't use it. She wishes aloud that an adventurer trait would just fall out of the sky. A figure lands dramatically before them, telling them to wait. The trio is startled, staring in disbelief at the sudden arrival. A hooded crone cackles, holding a glowing orb and asking if they desire an adventurer trait. The group is suspicious, wondering if she's a lost old woman, a fortune teller, or a fraud. The crone ignores them, stating she will only say it once, adventurer trait. Kunimi calls her a weird old lady as she demands to know if they want the power or not. Shachu muses that a trait would allow them to hunt monsters stronger than slimes. The crone names her price, cackling as she asks if they have 100,000 yen. The trio is shocked by the incredibly low price. Their suspicions immediately confirmed. The old woman seems genuinely surprised by their skeptical reaction. A caption appears, indicating a flashback to several hours prior. An establishing shot shows the large, modern building of the Adventurer High School. In an empty classroom, Aya asks Kurenai if she's been watching the DTJC's videos. Kurenai stares out the window, quietly worrying that her adventurer trait might just disappear. An advertisement for the manga's first published volume is shown. Aya gushes about a DTJC video where the hero saved an ordinary person from thugs. Kurenai smiles softly, remarking that it would be nice if that were true. Aya wonders what happens to the adventurer traits that vanish. Kurenai speculates that since they can disappear, they might also reappear somewhere else. The scene returns to the present on a street near Ueno Park Dungeon. The crone complains that they're rude for calling her suspicious when she was only trying to help. Uo clarifies that not the old woman, but the offer of a trait for 100,000 yen is suspicious. The crone concedes that perhaps 100,000 yen is indeed too cheap. Kunimi wonders if her crone persona is just an act, and this is her true personality. She challenges them, asking if they could afford to pay if she asked for 100 million yen. Shachu admits that while a trait is worth that much, they could never afford it. The crone explains she set the price low because she is an emissary of God. Shachu counters that if she's from God, she should give the traits away for free. The crone's eye widens as she snaps that free is unacceptable. Kunimi says that while he wants a trait, he still can't bring himself to trust her. The crone grows impatient, giving them only 5 seconds to decide. Her gnarled finger is raised high as she begins the final countdown. 1. Kunimi warns Shachu that buying an adventurer trait must be a scam. Shachu muses that 2 years ago, the existence of dungeons was just as unbelievable. The old woman's hand counts down the final seconds of her offer. Shachu turns to the conflicted Uo, asking for her opinion on the matter. Uo admits that she would be furious if she were to be scammed. But she adds she would be even angrier if it were real and she missed out. The mysterious woman's countdown continues, her gnarled fingers ticking away. She complains that they are taking too long to make their decision. Kunimi advises Shachu to ignore her, as 100,000 yen is a valuable sum. The old woman continues her countdown, her voice rasping out the next number. The three adventurers watch her, their expressions a mix of suspicion and hope. Her countdown concludes as she holds up 5 fingers, the offer about to expire. Shachu suddenly declares that he will buy it, much to Kunimi's shock. He explains to his subordinate that he doesn't believe the old woman is a fraud. He sends Kunimi to a nearby convenience store to withdraw the necessary cash. The old woman clicks her tongue, muttering about the persistence of three-dimensional women. Uo looks on, confused and intrigued by the strange woman's words. Now alone with the mysterious figure, Uo is surrounded by a heavy silence. The woman asks if Uo is carrying 100,000 yen, but she says she isn't. Uo explains that she spent all her money on new adventuring equipment. She laments her bad luck in life, from scams to the death of her friend. She gets the old woman's attention, preparing to ask a serious question. Uo asks why, if God exists, some children are born into unhappy lives. The old woman, secretly Ryuji, is completely stunned by the profound question. She stammers that her god is a dungeon god. a different jurisdiction. She apologizes for asking something strange and tells Uo to forget it. Internally, Ryuji feels the weight of her story, his disguise faltering. He wonders how the situation became so serious. This wasn't part of his plan. He reflects on his own tragic life, from the other world to his parents' death. His gloomy aura becomes so palpable that Uo asks if she is all right. Shachu and Kunimi return, interrupting the somber and philosophical moment. Shachu hands over a thick envelope containing 300,000 yen for all three of them. Wu's eyes widen in disbelief at their incredible generosity. Kunimi explains that they withdrew the money from the party's emergency fund. Wu is shocked, realizing it was their savings, and she had only just joined. Kunimi says it would be embarrassing if only they got scammed. Shachu agrees. Overwhelmed, Wu turns away, blushing and saying she has no choice. A single tear of gratitude escapes her eye as she accepts their kindness. Shachu and Kunimi smile warmly, happy to have helped their new friend. The old woman smiles, confirming she has received the 300,000 yen. She raises her arms and casts a powerful spell. Goddess's blessing. The three adventurers are bathed in a brilliant, sparkling light, feeling a change. Kunimi stares at his palm, seeing the glowing words, Level 1 Warrior. Shachu looks at his own hand, discovering he is now a Level 1 monk. Uo smiles radiantly, seeing that she has become a Level 1 mage. Kunimi questions if it's a trick, since level displays are usually private. Shachu confirms that he cannot see the level display on Kunimi's hand. Kunimi wonders if it's real or just some form of powerful hypnosis. Uo excitedly summons a small flame, asking to test her new magic. The old woman gives them a final warning to cherish their new powers. With a final cackle, she vanishes, leaving the three of them stunned. They marvel that she might have been a real messenger from a god. Ryuji arrives home, where his loyal Golem, Plot 1, welcomes him back. He tells Plot 1 he sold 50 traits and has already deposited the money. He explains the sales will be donated to a fund for general adventurers. Ryuji looks up, a thoughtful expression on his face as he reflects. Plot 1 mentions that the spell Goddess's Blessing is a new one. Ryuji explains it's his original magic, named after the goddess Lunaria. He suddenly panics, realizing he forgot to set his DVR to record his anime. The scene shifts to the imposing building of the Adventure High School. A sign hangs from the ceiling, indicating the location of Supply Warehouse C. Inside, Tanaka confirms receipt of 100,000 medicinal herbs from Ryuji. Tanaka asks Ryuji what happened to the students from his old E-class. She admits she's curious about them suddenly losing their adventurer traits. Ryuji asks if losing their trait means they have to leave the school. Tanaka clarifies that the school won't expel them unless they choose to leave. Ryuji is surprised to hear this, looking up at her with interest. Tanaka explains they could continue their education as general adventurers. However, after a terrifying slime hunting exam, they all dropped out. Ryuji correctly deduces they were too scared to face their victim's dungeon. In the warehouse, Tanaka tells Ryuji the chairman is grateful for the transfer. As he leaves, she reminds him that he has been promoted to the special class. Ryuji is pleasantly surprised by the good news, his eyes widening. Tanaka congratulates him, noting that he was the only one to be promoted. He smiles, thinking to himself that this is only a natural result. Tanaka smiles, pleased that the former hero is finally getting his due. Ryuji arrives home, greeted by his loyal Golem, Plot 1. He happily tells Plot 1 about his promotion to the special class. Plot 1 congratulates him, stating that it is also happy for him. Ryuji thanks the Golem, feeling that today will be a great day. His phone suddenly starts ringing, the screen showing Yoshiko's name. Ryuji's good mood evaporates as he sees the calls from Kyoko. Plot 1 tells him that this is no laughing matter. He answers the phone to hear Yoshiko's panicked voice calling his name. She frantically explains that her mother has suddenly collapsed in front of her. Ryuji tells her to stay calm and that he'll be there immediately. He hangs up and instantly activates his teleportation skill. He materializes in his entryway, grabbing his phone from a cabinet. He quickly slips on his shoes, ready to rush out the door. He combines invisibility and teleport to travel instantly and unseen. He rings the doorbell at Yoshiko's house, a modern two-story home. A tearful Yoshiko throws open the door, crying his name in relief. He walks past her into the house, asking where her aunt is. He strides purposefully down the hallway, not wasting a single moment. He finds her mother lying unconscious on the wooden floor. Ryuji uses his charm skill and realizes her heart has stopped. Yoshiko says a regular potion didn't work. Ryuji knows he needs more. He administers a high potion, which is actually a priceless elixir. Yoshiko's mother groans softly, beginning to stir as the magic works. Yoshiko cries out her mother's name in joy and relief, seeing she is alive. He calmly states that she is fine now, then asks what exactly happened here. Yoshiko explains she got annoyed with her mother's nagging and simply told her to shut up. He asks for her level. She confirms that she is currently at level 11. Ryuji accuses her of unleashing her killing intent, which could have been fatal to her mother. Yoshiko looks utterly shocked by his accusation, her eyes wide with surprise. He warns her that anyone unable to control their killing intent is unfit to be an adventurer. She denies it, insisting she didn't use any power and that her mother collapsed on her own. She lashes out, calling him the childish one for still being obsessed with anime. A cold, detached expression comes over Ryuji's face as he listens to her insults. His mind goes blank as he thinks to himself, "What is this thing?" He realizes this is the first time he has ever felt such a cold detachment from Yoshiko. Yoshiko continues her angry tirade, pointing an accusing finger at a silent Ryuji. He thinks to himself that whatever she's saying, it doesn't matter anymore. He says the Yoshiko he knew is gone and tells her not to contact him again. Walking away, he feels his dislike of women growing, a lingering hope now extinguished. He realizes this is a healing process he must get through, and quickly. He seeks refuge at the familiar, craggy entrance of the Ueno Park dungeon. He sits alone on a stone pillar on the deserted 200th floor of the dungeon. Surrounded by gentle minotaurs, he finds their presence more soothing than Yoshiko's. He wonders what would happen if he unleashed his constantly suppressed killing intent. He focuses his power for a moment, his eyes glowing with a terrifying white light. An immense, invisible shockwave of pure menace erupts from him across the chamber. He opens his eyes, surprised by the sudden, unnerving silence that has fallen. He looks around in shock, seeing a minotaur corpse and a completely empty floor. His detection skill confirms all monsters on the floor have been instantly annihilated. He nervously concludes he must be careful not to accidentally unleash his killing intent. The next day, he arrives at the familiar building of the Adventurer High School. He is summoned to the headmaster's office, the door clicking open before him. Tanaka greets him, introducing himself as the new headmaster, Assassin Tanaka. Tanaka hands him a key card for the special class, warning him not to lose it. Ryuji thinks the card is cool as Tanaka tells him to ask a classmate for instructions. Tanaka hurries off, leaving Ryuji to muse about his busy new headmaster. Ryuji walks down the school corridor, humming a tune on his way to his new class. He arrives at a sleek modern door with a card key reader, surprised by the setup. He wonders about the mechanics of the mana-powered security door as he touches it. He identifies the touch panel where he is supposed to use the card key. He touches the card to the panel, but a red error message flashes on the door. He tries again and again, wondering if the high-tech door is simply broken. He jiggles the card reader in frustration as a voice asks what's wrong. A girl appears behind him, offering to help and asking to borrow his card. He turns to see Aya, one of the girls he saved, smiling warmly at him. He looks at her, momentarily confused by her familiar yet different appearance. She realizes his card isn't registered and asks if he's Furia from E-Class. Ryuji recalls Headmaster Tanaka telling him to ask a special class student for help. Aya's eyes widen in shock, a blush creeping onto her cheeks as she realizes who he is. Ryuji looks on, completely puzzled by her sudden and dramatic reaction. She quickly recovers, assuring him it's no problem and that she will explain everything. She instructs him to press the card to the reader and channel his mana into it. He follows her instructions, touching the card to the panel, which emits a soft beep. The high-tech door slides open with a hiss, revealing the corridor beyond. He thanks her in Chinese, Shishi, smiling brightly at her kind gesture. She smiles back, replying in perfect Chinese that it was no trouble at all. As they walk, she remembers the cloak he lent her and promises to return it. Ryuji, flustered, tells her she can just keep it since he gave it to her. She claps her hands in delight, realizing his slip of the tongue confirms his identity. With tears in her eyes, she thanks him again, calling him her savior. She gives him a deep, emotional bow, much to his awkward surprise and embarrassment. He blushes intensely, completely flustered by her heartfelt display of gratitude. He tries to deny any connection, asking what she's talking about, feigning ignorance. She playfully makes an okay sign, promising to keep his secret as the heroic DTJC. He panics, realizing he forgot to alter his voice during the random shuffle time incident. He enters the classroom with her, feeling self-conscious as all the other students stare. Ken immediately confronts him, calling him out for walking in with a girl. Ryuji wonders who this aggressive new classmate is, as Aya looks on nervously. Ken gets in his face, boasting that he is a level 40 world-ranked adventurer. He suddenly recognizes Ryuji from the dungeon entrance during the RST incident. He demands to know Ryuji's level, who calmly replies that it has always been level 1. Ken accuses him of using his friendship with the headmaster to get into the class. Aya tries to intervene, telling Ken to stop being rude, but he dismisses her. Ryuji looks Ken in the eye, stating it wasn't connections but his own ability. Ken scoffs, telling him that talk is cheap and to prove his strength. Ryuji agrees but calmly asks him how he would like him to prove it. Ken suggests a simple test. Unleash his killing intent so he can gauge his true power. Ryuji and Aya are both left completely baffled by the absurd challenge. Ken taunts him, asking if he's too scared to even try the simple test. Ryuji pauses, a background of cute sea creatures appearing as he calmly thinks. He states that he doesn't feel the need to be acknowledged by a level 40 like Ken. Ken stands with his arms crossed, his expression hardening at the casual dismissal. He glares intently, asking Ryuji if he is serious about what he just said. He accuses Ryuji of being a coward who has always run away from his problems. A nerve twitches on Ryuji's smiling face, his patience finally snapping. Ken insults him, saying he looks as if he's never even been in a dungeon. The twitching on Ryuji's face intensifies, his smile becoming strained and dangerous. Ken tells the weakling to go home and watch anime instead of coming to school. Ryuji's expression turns deadly serious, the shadow falling ominously across his face. The other students feel the atmosphere in the room suddenly become heavy and cold. The dismissive words echo in Ryuji's mind. Watch some anime? He looks up with a chilling smile, agreeing to the duel without any hesitation. Ken flinches, a flicker of fear flashing in his eyes at Ryuji's sudden change. He quickly regains his composure, boasting that Ryuji's killing intent can't possibly kill him. Ryuji smiles, telling him he'll start off weak, much to Ken's confusion. Ryuji's eyes become black voids as he prepares to unleash a sliver of his power. The scene flashes back to Ken's initial, arrogant confrontation in the classroom. Ryuji internally questions why he would be happy walking to school with a real girl. The kanji for kill flashes in a burst of light, representing the invisible attack. A wave of menacing energy washes over Ken in the otherwise normal classroom. An illusion of a grinning skull appears right beside Ken's shocked face. He stumbles back, his body trembling as sweat pours down his pale face. He takes an unsteady step, trying to regain his balance and physical composure. He forces a shaky grin, trying to pretend that the terrifying attack was nothing special. The oppressive aura emanating from Ryuji is so intense it makes his classmates feel sick. A girl points to herself, a single horrifying thought crystallizing in her mind. Weak? Ryuji's expression remains cold and impassive as he simply says, next. Ken, his face a mask of fury, lectures Ryuji on manliness and running away. The accusation of running away strikes a deep and painful chord within Ryuji. A terrifying power erupts from Ryuji as he confronts Ken's misplaced accusations. Ken is stunned into silence, sweat beading on his brow from the immense pressure. The overwhelming force is so great that blood begins to drip from Ken's nose. Ken finally relents, raising his hands and admitting Ryuji's power is the real deal. Ryuji's judgment is not yet finished. He knows 2 more students must be tested. He moves on to the next person, leaving a trembling and utterly defeated Ken behind. Ken scoffs, thinking Ryuji is just a show-off with no real dungeon experience. Ryuji turns back, asking what someone like him could possibly know about his struggles. He scorns Ken's arrogance, born from only a year and a half of dungeon crawling. He reveals the truth. He was abducted to another world for 10 long years. His life there was an endless, brutal cycle of fighting for survival in the dungeons. A single tear falls as he explains his true mission, to create guides to save novices. He declares that this is the sacred duty of a hero who has returned home. The full weight of his killing intent overwhelms Ken, whose body begins to seize. Ryuji's anger boils over. He can forgive personal insults, but not insults to his mission. A girl cries out in alarm, rushing to intervene before the situation escalates further. Another classmate tries to defuse the situation, asking if he's been watching too much anime. Her casual dismissal of his life's trauma echoes in his mind, striking an unexpected nerve. Hanfa watches with deep concern, realizing Ryuji is about to be consumed by his rage. She embraces him from behind, telling him it's over and to retract his killing intent. The sudden, gentle contact snaps him out of his trance, his anger instantly vanishing. Hanfa smiles, assuring him that she now completely understands the depth of his power. Ryuji is left flustered and speechless, caught off guard by her closeness and understanding. Ken stands completely catatonic, his body upright but his mind somewhere far away. A wave of regret washes over Ryuji as he realizes he may have gone too far. He rushes to Ken's side, shaking him and desperately asking if he's all right. Ken's face is slack, his arrogant expression replaced by one of blissful peace. In his mind, Ken walks through a sunlit field toward a vision of his grandmother. He happily waves to her, telling her that he's been well and she calls him a good boy. She smiles warmly, telling him to return, as it is not yet his time to be there. Back in reality, Ken mutters his grandmother's name with a goofy, serene smile. He snaps back to his senses with a jolt, realizing how close he just came to death. Ryuji asks how he feels, and a dazed Ken insists he is fine, then retracts it. Honfa gently guides the wobbly Ken to a nearby chair, telling him to sit. Ryuji tells him to remain perfectly still, as he is about to cast a healing spell. Chanting the word heal, Ryuji envelops Ken in a brilliant, sparkling light. Ken is shocked, recognizing the powerful healing magic being cast upon him. He realizes he's instantly healed, and that Furuya's power is the real deal. Humbled, Ken sincerely apologizes for his behavior, promising it won't happen again. Ryuji, flustered, insists that he was the one at fault and apologizes profusely. Ken shakes his hand, welcoming him to the class as his peers finally applaud. Ryuji looks on, slightly embarrassed and overwhelmed by the sudden show of acceptance. At a local beef bowl restaurant, a familiar post-dungeon meal is taking place. Shachu announces that since they've all reached level 4, they'll hunt on the second floor. Uo complains, having just gotten comfortable with the easily defeated first-floor slimes. Kunimi explains the unspoken rule. Level 4 adventurers must leave the first floor. Confused by this rule, Uo asks him to explain what he means by that. Shachu clarifies they leave the first floor for beginners to help them level up safely. Uo understands the logic and reluctantly agrees that it can't be helped. He instructs them all to study the DTJC's strategy videos for the second floor. Their table is laden with 3 massive steaming bowls of delicious beef gyudon. Uo happily digs in, declaring that a beef bowl after a hard day's work is the best. The men agree that the DTJC's strategy videos with detailed maps are a huge help. Uo is shocked to hear a rumor that he has already filmed over 100 dungeons. She recalls with sadness how her best friend died, following fake guides before DTJC appeared. Kunimi is glad the liars were arrested, as he and Shachu nearly died from their misinformation. Shachu smiles warmly, saying he's just grateful to be alive and eating with them. Uo looks up from her meal, asking them who the legendary DTJC really is. Kunimi and Shachu exchange a look, chewing their food as they consider her question. Shachu admits that while many theories exist, his true identity remains a mystery. A single piece of seasoned beef is lifted delicately from the rice bowl. Uo chews her food slowly, her mind completely absorbed in thought about the mystery. Shachu looks over at his companions and jokingly suggests that maybe DTJC is an alien. The suggestion is so ridiculous that Kunimi chokes on his food, sputtering in surprise. Uo recoils in disgust from the sudden spray of partially chewed food. Shachu asks if he's okay as Kunimi coughs, saying his food went down the wrong pipe. Uo muses that his strength is inexplicable and his dungeon knowledge is too vast. Shachu thoughtfully strokes his chin, agreeing that her points are certainly valid. Kunimi suggests he must have come from another planet, maybe even Planet Dungeon. Uo's eyes sparkle at the idea, saying that Planet Dungeon sounds pretty cool. Shachu agrees his helmet looks very alien-like, reminding him of old sci-fi shows. Kunimi is surprised that his boss is actually considering the absurd alien theory. Uo says her intuition suggests he's just disguised as an ordinary earthling, maybe a student. She points out that he seems young in his videos, perhaps around high school age. Shachu agrees, noting many videos are filmed near the Adventurer High School. The school's special class, he adds, is full of the world's top student adventurers. Uo is impressed by their knowledge, playfully calling them adventurer otaku. Kunimi gets defensive, asking her age before worrying if the question is harassment. Uo realizes that with this much information, they might actually be able to identify him. In summary, the DTJC must be the highest level Japanese boy in the special class. Shachu checks a ranking site, concluding it must be Ken Takeshi, world rank 7. At that very moment, a loud sneeze echoes across the Adventurer High School grounds. In class, Ken jokes that Ryuji's killing intent made him catch a cold. Ken smiles, admitting there's an aura about Ryuji that just invites teasing. Ryuji wonders what kind of character he is, but Ken tells him to relax. Honfa approaches Ryuji, asking him to call her by her first name as well. Ryuji blushes deeply, shyly agreeing as he softly says her name, Honfa. The other classmates watch the scene unfold, finding Ryuji's blushing absolutely adorable. Ken pats his shoulder, suggesting they should go into a dungeon together sometime. Ryuji thinks that the level gap would make it boring, and besides, he's too busy. He realizes that sounds too introverted and wonders how a popular person would respond. He awkwardly offers a fist bump, enthusiastically agreeing to the future trip. The sign for the Umea Beef Bowl restaurant hangs over the bustling entrance. Shachu realizes that if their logic is correct, then the boy Ken Takeshi is DTJC. The ranking site shows a photo of Ken Takeshi, level 40, his job a Grand Priest. A young adventurer named Kunimi stares intently at his phone, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He recalls the mysterious, masked boy who once saved him, realizing he might be the legendary DTJC. Kunimi remembers the stranger's impossible feat of defeating 2 slimes at once from a distance. He also recalls the boy healing his and his boss's wounds with a strange, glowing magic. He concludes that only the DTJC could have possessed such advanced knowledge in those early days. The main puzzle, he thinks, is that the strong DTJC isn't rank 1. A girl named Isabella is. He wonders if the DTJC uses some unknown method to bypass the scouter checks at dungeon entrances. His companion, Uo, scoffs at a picture of Ken, calling him a countryside delinquent. Uo crosses her arms, clearly unimpressed with the leading male candidate for the DTJC's identity. Kunimi looks surprised by her very strong and immediate dismissal of the world-ranked adventurer. Their boss, Chichu, agrees that Ken's muscular build doesn't match the DTJC's leaner frame. Uo then asks if any other students at the Adventure High School seem like potential candidates. Chichu leans in, ready to share a popular fan theory that the DTJC is actually a woman. Uo is completely shocked by this revelation, her eyes widening as she asks if it's true. Kunimi is equally baffled, admitting he has never heard this particular rumor before. Chichu explains the theory's credibility, noting the DTJC's polite language and endearingly flustered demeanor. Uo listens carefully, the gears turning in her head as she considers this new possibility. Kunimi, too, begins to see the logic, murmuring that he understands the reasoning. Chichu builds the suspense, announcing that this theory points to one very likely person. The prime suspect is revealed, the world's #1 adventurer, the Holy Knight Isabella Lune Clinage. Uo is ecstatic, gushing that she is a huge fan of Isabella and follows her on social media. Kunimi is stunned to learn that the world's most powerful adventurer is only 16 years old. The group considers that Isabella, as a noble, might be releasing the videos as a form of public service. Uo is thrilled by the idea, saying how happy she would be if her idol was the DTJC. Kunimi, however, begins to have doubts about the theory, his confidence in it wavering. He realizes that while a helmet hides the face, Isabella's prominent figure would be impossible to conceal. Far away, Isabella lets out a small sneeze, completely unaware she is the topic of intense debate. The friends discuss other wild theories as they walk, including heroes from other worlds or the future. They acknowledge that the video site's company must know the truth, but is bound by contract. Chichu decides it's more fun to speculate until the day the superhero's identity is finally revealed. Meanwhile, Ryuji arrives home, sighing to himself that this has all become such a hassle. He happily tells his golem, Plot 1, that it feels strange to suddenly be on a first-name basis. Plot 1's mechanical voice informs him that this is not in fact the first time. Ryuji remembers with a jolt that he had completely forgotten about a promise he made. Night falls over the Furuya residence, the title of the manga displayed over the image. Ryuji is surprised to receive a message on the Lime app from Kurenai, also known as Honfa. Plot 1 looks on, its optical sensor displaying a matching look of surprise. The loyal Golem declares that if Kurenai is Ryuji's benefactor, she is its benefactor too. Ryuji agrees to introduce them someday, knowing Kurenai is already aware of his secret identity. He tells Plot 1 he is heading out for an important conversation and to have a good evening. The scene is set at a brightly lit family restaurant, a familiar meeting place for Ryuji. Kurenai waves cheerfully, apologizing for calling him out so late for their important talk. Ryuji's attention is immediately drawn to her legs as he mutters an acknowledgement. They settle into a booth, both deciding to get drinks from the self-serve bar. Looking at their 2 glasses of soda, Ryuji reflects that this is his second late-night restaurant meeting. He asks Kurenai if it isn't dangerous for a high school girl to be out walking alone at night. She reassures him with a confident smile, reminding him that as world rank 2, she's perfectly safe. Ryuji concedes the point, realizing that her strength makes her more than capable of self-defense. Kurenai then gets to the purpose of their meeting, asking if he's spoken to Isabella and Aya. Ryuji listens intently, a neutral expression on his face as she begins her story. He denies having spoken to them, a bad feeling creeping over him as he does. Kurenai realizes he's right. He wouldn't have had the chance to meet them at school yet. She takes a breath, preparing to tell him about the events that transpired earlier that day. In a flashback, the three powerful women stand over the defeated Queen Killer Ant on the 44th floor. Aya celebrates their new world record, and Isabella congratulates them on a job well done. Kurenai points out that their record doesn't count the unofficial clears by the DTJC. Isabella looks surprised by Kurenai's casual mention of the mysterious adventurer's name. Aya is also taken aback, questioning why Kurenai is speaking so familiarly. Kurenai explains that the DTJC's records are unofficial because he never sells the boss materials. Isabella steers the conversation, asking Kurenai about her former E-class classmate, Ryuji Furuya. Isabella reveals she has seen Ryuji before and sensed an incredible power from him, suspecting he is the DTJC. Kurenai tries to distract them with an offer of a tea party and homemade cake. Isabella sees through the ruse, smiling knowingly as she realizes Kurenai is hiding something. Aya drops her own bombshell, revealing she knows the DTJC's bank account is named Furuya Planning. Kurenai is shocked, asking how Aya got that information. Aya explains her family's connection to the bank. Aya stares intently, her investigation having brought her closer to the truth than anyone realized. Kurenai protests that leaking bank information is wrong, but Aya says the massive sums are hard to hide. Aya confidently states that Ryuji's build matches the DTJC's and that he is also her type. Kurenai makes one last flustered attempt to change the subject by offering to make almond tofu. Back in the present, Kurenai apologizes to Ryuji for how the conversation unfolded. She admits she was testing everyone's reactions and confirmed that he is terrible at hiding his feelings. Ryuji is struck by her words, the revelation hitting him like a bolt of lightning. Kurenai looks at him, confused by his overly dramatic and shocked reaction to her comment. He repeats her accusation in disbelief, questioning if he is truly that bad at hiding things. She confirms it, saying it's written all over his face, leaving him utterly speechless. Ryuji reflects that while he was told this as a child, it's the first time he's heard it as an adult. He then corrects himself, remembering he was told this once before, during his time in the other world. He flashes back to an imperial banquet where nobles scorned him for showing his displeasure so openly. He recalls hiding on a balcony, crying with frustration after being told his feelings were too obvious. Daenerys had found him, promising to shield him from politics so he could focus on his heroic quest. He remembers looking at her with tears in his eyes, whispering her name in gratitude. Daenerys had smiled warmly, telling him that she liked that honest part of him and felt at ease with him. Returning to the present, Ryuji's intuition tells him that he can trust Kurenai. He looks at her with newfound resolve, deciding to place his faith in her judgment. Kurenai is surprised by the sudden shift in his demeanor, her eyes widening slightly. He gives her permission to tell the others, accepting that his identity will eventually be revealed anyway. Kurenai is deeply touched by his trust, her heart fluttering as she thanks him. She closes her eyes, savoring the happy, dreamlike feeling of being trusted by Ryuji. Ryuji sips his drink, calmly advising her to think carefully about her next move. Kurenai is lost in a happy daze, marveling that the legendary DTJC trusts her. Ryuji returns home, announcing his arrival to the quiet house, and Plot 1 welcomes him back. Plot 1 immediately teases him, asking if he enjoyed his date, which Ryuji vehemently denies. Despite his protests, a small, happy smile plays on Ryuji's lips as he thinks about the evening. Plot 1 watches its master's reaction with its unblinking mechanical eyes. As night settles, Plot 1 wishes him well on his fun date, earning another flustered denial. The next day begins, the massive Ueno Park dungeon looming over the city skyline. Inside the dungeon, Kurenai officially informs Isabella and Aya that Ryuji Furuya is indeed the DTJC. Isabella's face breaks into a triumphant smile, exclaiming that she knew it all along. Aya looks at Kurenai with a hint of concern, asking if it's really okay to reveal his secret. Kurenai gives a confident thumbs up, assuring them that she received Ryuji's full permission. Isabella smiles warmly, observing how very close her two companions seem to be. Kurenai lets out a happy sigh, glad she could finally speak openly with them. Aya blushes as Isabella looks her way, a silent moment passing between them. Isabella steps forward, announcing she has something to discuss with both Aya and Kurenai. Kurenai looks on with a surprised and slightly worried expression. Aya, too, appears taken aback by Isabella's sudden seriousness. Isabella confesses that her admiration for her savior, the DTJC, has turned into love. She admits that admiring the distant hero was enough for her, at least until now. Kurenai's expression is one of complete, dumbfounded shock. Aya looks on with wide-eyed surprise at Isabella's bold declaration. Isabella clutches her chest, unable to stand by after learning of Kurenai's feelings. With a deep blush, she declares her own wish to become closer to Furuya. Aya takes a small, hesitant step forward, preparing to voice her own desires. Blushing furiously, Aya timidly admits that she also wants to get closer to him. Kurenai looks from one friend to the other, processing their mutual confessions. Kurenai blushes and boldly states her desire to be his girlfriend. She gives a confident little smile after staking her claim. Isabella steps between them, proposing a fair competition with no hard feelings. Aya smiles sweetly, readily agreeing to the terms of their romantic contest. On the 1000th floor, Ryuji sneezes loudly over the dragon's glittering treasure. He wonders why he keeps sneezing, as his high level prevents any normal illness. A thought strikes him. Could it possibly be some kind of unique dungeon pollen? The story shifts to the main gate of the prestigious Adventurer High School. A sign hangs above a classroom door, marking it as the elite special class. Isabella and Aya stand together, their world-class rankings and levels displayed. Kurenai arrives, playfully teasing them for having such scary, intense expressions. Isabella blushes, insisting that she is not being overly serious at all. Kurenai happily announces that Furuya-sama is coming to school today. The classroom door slides open with a loud clatter, revealing a dark silhouette. The three girls look up in unison, exclaiming that he has finally arrived. But it is only Ken, who enters with a casual greeting and a small salute. Kurenai waves a cheerful hello, while her friends look visibly disappointed. Ken notices their lack of enthusiasm and lets out a questioning sound. He comments that it's good to find the world's top party members all together. He then asks if he can have a moment of their time. Kurenai offers to be the group's representative, much to Ken's confusion. Ken brings his hands together, preparing to use a skill for a private chat. A shimmering barrier forms, prompting Kurenai to ask if it's a Grand Prix skill. He explains that their conversation inside his divine domain is completely private. Kurenai is impressed, remarking that the skill is very fitting for a Grand Priest. Ken reveals his theory. Ryuji's killing intent is immense, so he must be the DTJC. Kurenai listens intently, a bead of sweat on her cheek as she processes his words. He continues, explaining that Ryuji's immense power has left him dangerously isolated. Ken believes Ryuji needs companions who can truly appreciate his strength. He points to the DTJC's video comments, proving Ryuji is a proper adventurer. Ken laments that Ryuji has been fighting alone and must be lonely. Kurenai's eyes widen slightly as a sudden realization dawns on her. She admits she never considered it, but now sees that Ryuji might indeed be lonely. At that same moment, Ryuji walks to school, happily thinking about the new anime season. He smiles, deciding it's not a good time to film since he has nothing to edit. He beams, his official status as a level 1, but actually 1511, jobless, shown. Ken worries that if Ryuji comes to hate humanity, his heroic activities will cease. Kurenai's eyes widen in horror at the dark possibility. Ken voices his ultimate fear. With his power, Ryuji could become a demon lord. Kurenai gasps, utterly shocked by the terrifying suggestion. Ken reminds them that a year and a half ago, no one even imagined monsters appearing. Kurenai insists Ryuji would never become evil because she has faith in him. Ken pleads with her to look after Ryuji and keep him from becoming isolated. Kurenai promises that no matter what happens, she will never let Ryuji be alone. Ken is relieved they talked and prepares to dispel his privacy skill. He claps his hands together, dissolving the shimmering barrier of light. The main classroom door clatters open once again. Isabella and Aya look up expectantly, wondering if he has finally arrived. The girl with the dreadlocks enters, offering a tired, "Good morning." Isabella and Aya politely return her greeting, their disappointment evident. Aya wonders if Furuya-sama is absent and considers asking Kurenai for a plan. Isabella declares she won't take on debts as per the Klinage family's love guide. She insists on a natural encounter for their competition to be truly fair. Aya asks to be her apprentice, promising not to hold back in their contest. Their classmates are relieved, noting Isabella seems more relaxed and Kurenai is excited. Isabella notes the time and asks her apprentice, Aya, if she is prepared. She glances away nervously, a single bead of sweat on her cheek. Aya also looks to the side, blushing with anticipation and anxiety. Kurenai laughs at them, remarking that they both look scary. Students are seen milling about outside the school entrance. Ryuji is greeted by a former E-class bully, who now boasts of being in A-class. The bully tells him to catch up, and Ryuji agrees, saying he'll be waiting up there. The bully waves a casual goodbye as he walks away down the hall. Ryuji realizes he forgot to ask for the boy's name, but decides it doesn't matter. He arrives at the door to the special classroom. He slides the back door open with a clatter, offering a simple, "Good morning." Isabella and Aya are shocked, wondering why he came in through the back entrance. Isabella quickly recovers, turning to him with a radiant, though nervous, smile. Aya watches in awe, whispering that her master, Isabella, has made her move. Ryuji returns her greeting as they stand alone among the empty desks. Isabella blushes deeply, getting close and asking if he would like to have a meal. Ryuji notes her resemblance to an anime heroine before bluntly turning her down. Ken and Kurenai are stunned that he just rejected the school's most desired girl. Aya is devastated, realizing her carefully constructed Plan A has spectacularly failed. Isabella, flustered, quickly asks if he would guide their party's exploration instead. Aya's hopes are reignited as Isabella immediately pivots to their backup, Plan B. Ryuji praises her ambition, saying her desire to improve is a wonderful thing. But he declines, stating there's no benefit to him and he'd rather watch anime. Isabella stares back, her eyes wide and welling with tears of pure shock. Ryuji, completely oblivious to her distress, looks back at her in confusion. Ken quickly approaches Ryuji from behind, asking for a moment of his time. He tells Ryuji he's borrowing him and Klinige, promising it will be quick. He apologizes and uses his divine domain skill again for a private chat. Ken grabs Ryuji's collar, warning him his rejection will become a famous story. He instructs Ryuji to reject her gently, and Ryuji, overwhelmed, agrees to try. In the classroom, Isabella stands before Ryuji, her posture expectant. He apologizes for his blunt refusal, but she says it is fine. He asks if she is willing to hear his reasons for declining. With a slight blush, Isabella readily agrees to listen to him. A dark memory flashes. His guidance once led to a terrible disaster. His gaze turns serious as he brings up another critical issue, money. A vision of Princess Daenerys appears, warning against the folly of working for free. He explains that his fees are too high and would create awkwardness. Isabella thanks him for his honesty, then asks him to hear her side. Ryuji realizes he has been neatly trapped and must now listen. She says they aspire to be like the distant heroic figure, DTJC. She insists they will pay any price and asks him to name his fee. He recalls his attorney's advice to propose a specific high figure. Ryuji feels the conversation has shifted, but sees his chance to escape. He grins, certain his absurd price of 1 billion yen each will be refused. To his shock, they are delighted, calling the price both cheap and fair. Ryuji is left utterly speechless, only managing a faint, A close-up reveals his wide-eyed shock as his master plan crumbles. The scene shifts to the exterior of Ryuji's quiet suburban home. He complains to Plot 1 about being cornered into a harem date lesson. He cannot believe those high school girls actually have that much money. Plot 1 explains their noble and tycoon backgrounds made his gambit foolish. Outside, rain begins to fall, mirroring his gloomy, defeated mood. Lying on his bed, he considers just backing out if it becomes a hassle. Plot 1 asks if it wouldn't be uncool of him to refuse now. Ryuji pauses, admitting to himself that the Golem has a point. His phone suddenly buzzes. A message from Isabella has arrived. A lovely portrait appears as she formally thanks him for accepting. She types that she is greatly looking forward to their training session. Plot 1 notes her Japanese is good. Ryuji wonders if she's really excited. Before he can reply, his phone buzzes with a message from Aya. Aya, wearing a DTJC shirt, sends a poetic line about the beautiful moon. Plot 1 blushes slightly, understanding the classic romantic confession. Ryuji looks at the pouring rain outside, confused by her message. He begins to type a reply, pointing out that it is currently raining. Plot 1 explains she wasn't being literal, calling her a complicated girl. Ryuji is left slightly bewildered by the unexpected romantic overture. His phone buzzes a third time, announcing a message from Kurenai. She says she's excited and wants him to teach her about steel-type figures. Ryuji is completely baffled by her nonsensical request. He looks to Plot 1 for answers, but the Golem is silent. Plot 1 advises him to make his decision to refuse quickly. Ryuji's expression hardens with resolve. He will coach them. Plot 1's glowing eyes watch him, its thoughts unreadable. He thinks back to a time when he, too, was a low-level novice. A memory shows him walking with Daenerys, who taught him everything. He admits to Plot 1 that he would have been lost without her. A soft, hazy light fills his memory as he continues his thought. He sees Daenerys' kind face, certain he couldn't have won without her. He realizes with conviction that now it is his turn to teach. Plot 1 agrees, saying the girls have earned the right to his coaching. Ryuji gives a small, firm nod, his decision now unshakable. On the appointed day, the three girls wait on the dungeon's 44th floor. Ryuji appears in a flash of light, and they greet him enthusiastically. Isabella welcomes Ryuji-san with a bright, blushing smile. Kurenai is amazed, asking how he managed to appear out of thin air. Aya adds that teleporting inside a dungeon should be impossible. Ryuji scans the area, confirming with his skills that they are alone. Isabella reassures him that only their party can reach this floor. He replies curtly that he is already aware of that fact. He instructs the three of them to gather around him to move floors. He holds up a glittering egg-shaped artifact etched with glowing runes. The girls are captivated by its beauty and ask him what it is. He explains it is the dungeon core, a very convenient item for travel. Kurenai says she wants one and asks where she can find it. He replies simply that you must defeat the dungeon's final boss. He cuts off any more questions, stating that they are out of time. The three girls nod in unison, accepting his command without argument. He announces that they are now moving to the training location. A brilliant flash of light begins to envelop the entire group. They reappear on a vast, bright plain dotted with countless black spheres. The girls are stunned, realizing they are on the impossible 500th floor. Ryuji lays out the schedule. Leveling in the morning, practice later. The girls are aghast as they had just barely managed to reach floor 44. Ryuji firmly forbids any further questions as it's a waste of time. He introduces them to the floor's only monster, the Dark Ball. He explains that it's a passive creature, perfect for safely grinding EXP. He asks Isabella to attack one with a weapon from his item box. He gets flustered, realizing he should address her by her first name. Isabella beams with delight, happily agreeing to his request. Kurenai eagerly asks to be called by her first name as well. Isabella holds the weapon, recognizing it as a priceless mithril sword. Ryuji's hand glows with magic circles as he prepares a buff. He explains the spell will multiply her physical attack power by 16. Aya is shocked he can cast such a powerful spell without an incantation. Ryuji tells Isabella the sword is easy to use, and she prepares to attack. She leaps forward with a powerful cry, bringing the blade down hard. With a sharp crack, the legendary mithril sword shatters on impact. Isabella's face becomes a perfect mask of horrified disbelief. Kurenai stares with a similar expression of wide-eyed shock. Ryuji rushes over, asking if she is okay and not injured. Aya looks on, her face pale with a mixture of concern and surprise. Isabella apologizes profusely for breaking such a precious item. He dismisses her apology, handing her a new cross-hilted sword. She takes the new blade, asking what it is. He calls it an orichalcum sword. He applies 6 more buffs, multiplying her attack power by 1,024 times. With renewed determination, Isabella strikes the dark ball once more. Ryuji and the others watch as she succeeds, cheering her on. A flash of light surrounds Isabella as she announces that she has leveled up. She blushes, realizing with a gasp that she is leveling up consecutively. Isabella is stunned to see she has leaped from level 44 to 72. Ryuji gives Kurenai a pair of orichalcum knuckles, promising 10 stacked buffs. Kurenai assumes her steel-style stance, channeling immense power into her fists. She unleashes her attack, shattering the dark ball with a single, devastating punch. Kurenai is ecstatic as she experiences a massive level up, from 42 to 71. Ryuji instructs the two warriors to continue fighting until his buffs expire. With a glance at Aya, Ryuji acknowledges that she is the remaining problem. He explains to the shocked sage that the dark balls are immune to magic. A title page shows a dark ball, a passive monster from the 500th floor. The scene flashes back a few hours to the Adventurer High School grounds. 2 male students in their school uniforms greet each other in the morning. One boy with glasses excitedly tells his friend about seeing Miss Sanzanin. He explains that seeing her is rare now that dungeon exploration is official school business. His friend agrees, noting that they only have a few designated school days. The bespectacled boy is completely Twitter-pated, gushing about how cute Aya was. A profile highlights Aya's many talents, from her sage rank to her noble lineage. The boy continues his praise, not failing to mention her outstanding figure. He notes her immense popularity with over 100 million social media followers. His friend sighs, complaining that he has heard this exact speech 50,000 times. The boy insists he is drawn to her inner character, not just her beauty. He heard from an acquaintance that Aya is a true cool beauty at heart. He recounts how she coolly saved her friends with an iceberg spell. His friend can't help but be impressed, admitting that she sounds very cool. The scene returns to the present, on the desolate 500th floor of the dungeon. Aya, identified as a sage, timidly asks Ryuji what he just told her. He repeats that the dark balls are immune to magic, causing her to cry out. The sage looks utterly crestfallen, her primary method of attack now useless. Ryuji reassures her, saying he has a countermeasure and that it will be fine. Her face instantly brightens with a radiant smile as she praises Ryuji-sama. Ryuji is taken aback by her sudden mood swing, finding her reaction interesting. He presents her with a gleaming white staff, identifying it as made of orichalcum. Aya is confused, questioning the use of a staff when magic is ineffective. He explains the weapon's special ability to convert magic into physical attack power. He tells her to channel her mana into it, admitting it might be difficult. She concentrates, and the staff immediately begins to glow with a powerful light. Ryuji is surprised by her instant success, muttering, "Huh?" under his breath. She holds the glowing staff, asking how she did, feeling that it went well. Ryuji admits it took him time to learn, then tells her to try attacking. He instructs her to visualize striking the monster's core as she attacks it. Aya's expression becomes serious as she readies the staff for a powerful strike. She leaps forward, plunging the spear-like weapon into the side of a dark ball. Ryuji watches with an approving smile, calling her performance magnificent. Aya jumps for joy, celebrating her victory with an ecstatic, "I did it!" Ryuji is baffled, thinking her cheerful personality is nothing like he expected. He had always thought of Aya as a quiet, elegant, and reserved person. Aya is overcome with a euphoric sensation as she levels up from 42 to 71. Ryuji pushes up his prototype scouter glasses to check her new level. He confirms she is now a level 71 sage as she points at his glasses. He asks about her MP, and she sheepishly admits that she is completely empty. Ryuji opens his item box, revealing a massive case of countless MP potions. Aya is stunned, asking if it's okay to use such rare and valuable items. He dismisses her concerns, telling her to use them freely as he can make more. She bows gratefully, praising him and promising to use the potions without hesitation. Ryuji is still getting used to being addressed with the formal honorific Sama. The three powerful women begin their training, destroying dark balls across the vast floor. Ryuji watches them, thinking to himself that the real problem starts now. He stands with arms crossed, declaring that this next phase is his own battle. His eyes are heavy with boredom as he contemplates his supervisory role. He fights to stay awake, his expression one of utter, crushing exhaustion. He finally gives in, his head drooping as he begins to doze off. He snaps awake with a start, realizing he was half asleep and needs a solution. Believing he prepared for this, he opens his item box to retrieve something. He summons a comfortable couch, marveling at the incredible convenience of his skill. Settling in, he decides to use the time to finally read some magic books. Sometime later, Isabella and Kurenai approach, reporting that their buffs have expired. Ryuji reapplies their power-ups, and they thank him before returning to the fight. An hour later, Ryuji summons a table and chairs, declaring it's time for tea. He notes their levels are all around 200, and Aya asks how he knows. He points to his glasses, explaining they are a scouter and forbidding more questions. He explains that the special tea helps mitigate the strain of rapid leveling. Aya uses a diagram to illustrate how leveling up only increases the HP gauge. Ryuji confirms this is true for both HP and MP, mentioning other status issues. Aya suggests they grind to level 300, then practice their newly acquired skills. Isabella proposes they continue leveling up all afternoon for maximum efficiency. Ryuji's eyes widen. He knew this was coming, an all too predictable development. Isabella argues that only he can help them level here, making it the best option. Aya agrees, wanting to become a high-level adventurer to reduce Ryuji's burden. Kurenai and Isabella chime in, both wanting to become strong enough to support him. Ryuji is stunned and deeply touched by their earnest declarations of loyalty. He turns away, hiding his face as he pretends to have dust in his eye. Isabella watches him with a gentle, knowing smile and a slight blush. Kurenai also has a soft, blushing expression as she gazes at him. Aya mirrors their expressions, her cheeks flushed with admiration as she watches him. Ryuji explains that he will help them continue, but there is one problem. He reveals that their rapid leveling has caused a kind of dark ball poisoning. The three women react with shock and horror at the word poisoning. He explains they've reached a point where they feel anxious if they stop hunting. Isabella realizes he's right. She feels an exhilarating high thinking about the dark balls. Kurenai also admits that the thrill of leveling up is exciting and addictive. Aya wonders if this feeling could be a strange form of love for the monsters. Ryuji sternly warns that if they are continuously attacked, death awaits them. The three women are terrified by his grim pronouncement, their faces pale with fear. He clarifies that it's not physical death, but the death of their adventurer's spirit. A vision of a Daenerys-like woman states that no one becomes an adventurer to hunt dark balls. Ryuji agrees, saying that while everyone's reasons differ, that isn't their final goal. He explains how this addiction traps adventurers, preventing them from ever progressing further. He warns them that this is a common pitfall they must be wary of. The Daenerys-like figure explains that this is why the 500th floor is called. Ryuji echoes her words, stating that the 500th floor is therefore called the floor of trials, a place where the strength of one's will is tested. Ryuji explains that only those possessing a will of steel can reach the 501st floor. Isabella is taken aback, realizing that the trial is a test of their very spirit. Aya looks surprised, questioning the unusual requirement of having a steel will. Honfa, however, is simply captivated by Ryuji's serious demeanor, thinking he's cool. With renewed purpose, Isabella and Honfa declare their intention to face the trial. Aya devotedly vows to Ryuji that she will succeed in this trial for his sake. A faint knowing smile appears on Ryuji's face as he acknowledges their resolve. He announces that he has prepared support items, reaching for his dimensional storage. With a smooth motion, he pulls the first of 3 custom helmets from his item box. He carefully places the second helmet down beside the first one. Isabella watches intently, her eyes wide with anticipation for the reveal. Honfa stares with equal curiosity at the items being retrieved. Aya's gaze is fixed on the final helmet as he brings it out. The 3 sleek, heroic helmets are presented to the astonished women. In a flash of dramatic text, they are identified as official DTJC helmets. At a conjured table, Ryuji admits he stayed up all night to make the matching gear. He smiles warmly, explaining the helmets cut damage by 96% and are a gift for them. Honfa and Aya eagerly ask if they can equip them immediately. Isabella, however, is frozen in place, her face a mask of silent, wide-eyed terror. Honfa, now helmeted, asks for a magic mirror to check her new look. Posing dramatically, Honfa and Aya introduce themselves as DT Sentai Red and Purple. Ryuji notices Isabella hasn't put on her helmet and asks her why not. The blonde knight stammers nervously, unable to articulate her sudden fear. A memory of sack-headed horror movie villains reveals her childhood phobia of covered faces. Ryuji guesses she might prefer a different color, suggesting blue would suit her image. Isabella's face lights up with relief, and she happily agrees that she loves blue. Now wearing a blue helmet, she introduces herself as DT Sentai Blue, her confidence restored. Ryuji announces the resumption of their training, and the new DT Sentai agrees. As they fight, he relaxes in a summon chair with a book, noting the change of plans. His eyes narrow slightly as he thinks back on his earlier conversation with the girls. He had worried his direct questions might have bothered them, but was glad they didn't. He smiles to himself while reading, thinking they are surprisingly pure-hearted. In a flashback, Aya gathers the other 2 on the 44th floor to discuss their thoughts. Isabella analyzes the facts, estimating Ryuji's true level to be over 500. She wonders aloud how it could be possible to level up so incredibly fast. Aya agrees that it's a mystery, deeming it impossible in just a year and a half. Honfa concurs, stating it would require at least a decade of non-stop dungeon exploration. Isabella reveals that Tanaka learned Ryuji was just an ordinary, unremarkable middle schooler. Aya suggests to Isabella that if she's so curious, she should just ask him directly. Isabella turns the question on Honfa, asking if she isn't curious about it too. Honfa admits she is, but states she doesn't want to pry into his personal life. Aya agrees with Honfa, resolving to wait until Ryuji decides to tell them himself. Isabella listens to her friends, her expression softening with understanding. She smiles, happy they all share the same thought and will work to earn his trust. The 3 women stand together, united in their decision to respect his privacy. Back in the present, Ryuji continues reading, thinking the new manga volume is good. A few hours later, the training session concludes, with each girl gaining 400 levels. The 3 women thank him profusely, their new incredible levels displayed for all to see. He sends them to the first floor, knowing his own bugged status will remain level 1. He arrives home, deciding he is too exhausted to think and will just go to sleep. His Golem Plot 1 welcomes him home and notes that he must be tired. Ryuji collapses onto his bed, fully clothed, and falls instantly asleep. The scene shifts to the vast, craggy expanse of the Rocky Mountain dungeon. On the 45th floor, Linda Bluestone and her squad unleash a torrent of automatic gunfire. They cheer as the massive floor boss dissolves, celebrating their new world record. Linda poses proudly with her rifle, thrilled to have reached level 45 and reclaimed her top rank. The title page for Chapter 26 appears over a shot of Ryuji's suburban home. The next morning, Ryuji stretches awake as Plot 1 informs him something terrible has happened. He casually guesses a dog peed on the gate, but Plot 1 insists it's more serious. Ryuji widens his eyes in mock terror, asking if the dog pooped instead. Plot 1, annoyed, clarifies the uproar is about the newly updated adventurer rankings. Ryuji sits on his bed, unconcerned about the girl's massive level jump. The new rankings are shown, with Honfa now at number 1 with a level of 432. Isabella has claimed the second spot in the world, her new level at 427. Aya follows closely behind, now ranked 3rd in the world at level 425. America's top adventurer, Linda Bluestone, has been pushed down to 4th place. Plot 1 warns its master that the situation is far more serious than he realizes. Ryuji looks up from his bed, a bit confused by the Golem's grave tone. The Golem reports that the news is in a frenzy and forums are accusing the DTJC of foul play. Ryuji admits it's suspicious, and Plot 1 confirms their channel's comment section is on fire. Looking concerned, Ryuji asks what kind of comments are flooding the channel. Plot 1 displays comments demanding equal power leveling and calling Ryuji a tyrant. Ryuji points at himself in disbelief, questioning how he could be seen as a tyrant. The Golem deadpans that people just want to call him that, so he should ignore it. Plot 1 adds that the girls are being bashed on social media, forcing Aya to close her comments. Ryuji is shocked, defending his friends by insisting they did nothing wrong. Plot 1 explains it's simple jealousy from adventurers who struggle for every single level. Ryuji sweats, conceding that the Golem's assessment is probably correct. The Golem advises him not to worry, as trying to please everyone is an impossible task. Their conversation is interrupted by the buzzing of Ryuji's phone. He answers the call from Ken, who apologizes for calling so suddenly. Ken asks if he was asleep and says sorry for waking him. Ryuji listens quietly, simply humming to show he's on the line. Ken warns him that the school is currently swarmed with media and streamers. A wide shot reveals a massive crowd of reporters gathered outside the school gates. Ken explains that he had to stop some classmates from giving interviews to the press. Ryuji understands the gravity of the situation and thanks Ken for the warning. Ken dismisses his thanks, reminding him that they are friends. Ryuji sternly tells him not to hesitate to ask for help before hanging up. He remarks on the messy situation at school, and Plot 1 calls Ken a good guy. His phone immediately buzzes again, this time with a call from assassin Tanaka. Tanaka urgently asks him to come to the chairman's office to discuss the power leveling incident. Ryuji tells Plot 1 he's heading out, and the Golem wishes him well. Now in his uniform, Ryuji walks grimly across the school grounds. He stops before the door to the chairman's office, his destination reached. Inside, Chairman Iwaki and Headmaster Tanaka greet him with a casual apology for the summons. Just then, the 3 girls arrive, having also been called to the office. Iwaki welcomes them all as Tanaka remarks on the gathering of the world's strongest. Ryuji's scouter glasses display the incredible levels of everyone in the room. Iwaki excitedly asks about the loot they got, but Tanaka reminds him to stay on topic. Chairman Iwaki remembers he has been summoned by Prime Minister Takahashi about the power leveling. Ryuji quietly questions the gravity of involving the Prime Minister. Iwaki explains it concerns the nation's energy problem, a sensitive topic. This is becoming far more troublesome than Ryuji ever anticipated. Iwaki asks if Ryuji plans to offer power leveling as a regular business. Ryuji bluntly refuses, saying it's too much trouble and the girls are special. Aya beams with delight, feeling acknowledged by her mentor. Isabella also glows with pride, softly murmuring Ryuji's name. Kurenai blushes deeply, whispering his name with a small heart. Iwaki wants to confirm if he is truly finished with power leveling. Ryuji insists he absolutely won't do it again, as it is a huge pain. Understanding, Iwaki turns to the girls to hear their thoughts on the matter. Isabella believes they should be discreet about what they say regarding the power leveling. Aya agrees, adding their top priority is not to get in Ryuji's way. Kurenai passionately argues that obstructing Ryuji's work would be a global catastrophe. Iwaki listens to their reasoning and finds himself in complete agreement. He thanks Ryuji on behalf of the world for preserving civilization. Ryuji sweats, thinking he'd be in trouble if he admitted his real motive was anime. Isabella suggests that once they master their new levels, they can assist Ryuji. Iwaki loves the idea, promising the full support of his school and company. Suddenly, Ryuji's phone buzzes. He's surprised to see a call from Miss Kijima. He excuses himself, explaining his tax attorney needs an urgent callback. Iwaki waves him off, thanking him for his time and cooperation. Stepping into the hall, Ryuji answers the phone and identifies himself. Miss Kijima's professional voice thanks him and asks if he is free to talk. He wonders what could be so urgent, but confirms he has some time. She asks his location, offering to come and pick him up immediately. He tells her to wait at his house, planning to teleport there instantly. Soon after, Miss Kojima's car pulls up and she rings his doorbell. In the car, she explains that the President of the United States has contacted her. The President, she says, has made an urgent trip to Japan to meet the DTJC. Ryuji apologizes for involving her in business beyond her tax duties. She insists that protecting her client from financial trouble is also her job. He can't help but notice that she seems unusually tense about this meeting. They arrive at the grand and imposing official residence of the U.S. ambassador. Miss Kojima vows to protect Ryuji, confident in her contractual negotiation skills. The sound of expensive shoes on a polished floor signals their host's approach. A distinguished man introduces himself as Bluestone, President of the United States. The president offers a firm handshake to Miss Kojima, welcoming her. He then turns to Ryuji, warmly welcoming the great champion. President Bluestone asks if they will require a translator for their discussion. Ryuji surprises everyone by stating that he does not require one. When Miss Kojima asks, he explains that leveling up boosts intelligence and language skills. She quietly processes this new, unexpected fact about adventurers' abilities. Ryuji thinks he can see a flicker of disappointment on her face. The president says he first wants to introduce America's #1 adventurer. A blonde girl with pigtails confidently asks if he is the DTJC. She looks him up and down, remarking he seems weaker than in his videos. Ryuji and Ms. Kojima share a brief, annoyed glance at her comment. The girl then blushes, adding that he is 100 times cuter in person. Ryuji's mind short-circuits as he immediately identifies her as a tsundere. Once they are all seated, the president says he will get straight to business. He requests dungeon guides for America and power leveling for his top team. Ryuji is stunned by the magnitude of the request, thinking, "For real?" He stays silent for a moment, letting the president's words sink in. The scene flashes back to a few moments before their arrival. In the car, Miss Kojima had suggested they talk strategy since they were early. Ryuji had listened intently, ready to follow her professional advice. She had first wanted to confirm his position on the power leveling issue. He had simply affirmed that he was not planning to do it again. She took a moment, carefully considering their next move. She advised that responding well to America's initial offer would be key. With a smile, Ryuji had agreed, placing his trust in her guidance. She accurately predicted the president would ask for guides and power leveling. Ryuji had understood her assessment immediately, seeing the logic. She had advised him to put any decision on hold, anticipating a large offer. The president offers $1 million per guide and 5 times the clinic fee. Ryuji is floored. The power leveling fee alone would be 50 billion yen. President Bluestone watches him with a steady, unreadable gaze. His daughter Linda watches Ryuji with a nervous, blushing expression. The president continues to stare, waiting for an answer. Another American official watches the exchange with a calm smile. Flustered, Ryuji asks if he can take some time to consider the offer. Linda immediately protests to her father that this kind of bargaining isn't fair. Ryuji is surprised that she is already using his first name so casually. She insists Ryuji is the world's greatest adventurer, not a simple businessman. The president relents, stating America is prepared to pay Ryuji's desired amount. Ryuji is shocked at being asked to name his own price. He sends a quick, uncertain glance toward his attorney. Miss Kojima gives him a subtle, confident nod of encouragement. Ryuji states his true motive, to prevent civilization from regressing so he can watch anime. He agrees to film the U.S. guides for free to be released on his channel. The president warns that working for nothing could cause worldwide chaos. Linda passionately argues that his videos save humanity and can't be sold cheaply. Ryuji glances at Ms. Kojima, admitting to himself he's bad at this. She responds with another subtle, reassuring nod. He closes his eyes for a moment, collecting his thoughts. He recalls Denris's advice that the final decision must be his own. He tells him he will think it over and give his reply tomorrow. Miss Kojima confirms they will return at the same time and place. Ryuji formally tells the president he will consider the proposal carefully. The president looks forward to his answer, while Linda pouts, telling him to think hard. After being dropped off, Ryuji stands outside his house, grateful for Miss Kojima's help. He announces his return home, and Plot 1 greets him warmly. The Golem asks if he enjoyed his date, which Ryuji heatedly denies. The sun begins to set over the quiet suburban neighborhood. Lying on his bed, he tells Plot 1 he will refuse the power leveling, but is still conflicted. He complains that being forced to do something feels different than choosing to do it. Plot 1 astutely notes that its master's feelings on the matter run deep. The Golem advises him not to do things he's not comfortable with, as carelessness leads to death. Ryuji lies on his bed, lamenting that he wants money but has no one to ask. Plot 1 cheerfully announces it has grown their assets 20-fold through investments. Completely shocked, Ryuji can only stammer, asking if this is really true. His resolve now hardened, he decides to refuse the president's monetary offers. Plot 1's happy, curved eyes show its approval of its master's decision. A notification sound, Poyoyan, chimes from Ryuji's phone, signaling a message. Plot 1 asks if the message from Chairman Iwaki is a love letter, earning a rebuke. Ryuji stares at his phone in disbelief, utterly confused by what he is reading. Plot 1 leans in, mirroring its master's confusion with a questioning glance. The message reveals the government is considering a new punitive adventurer tax. The proposed tax is a staggering 100 million yen for every level gained. Plot 1 asks if this crippling new tax is still just in the discussion phase. Ryuji explains that a furious Iwaki is now threatening to move his company overseas. Plot 1's eyes turn to angry chevrons, stating this will cause a national decline. Ryuji falls silent, a bead of sweat on his face as he processes the dire news. He looks down, his expression filled with guilt as he wonders if this is his fault. Plot 1 looks at its master, questioning his sudden bout of self-blame. Ryuji feels his videos made adventuring seem too easy, like a fun way to get rich. Plot 1 tells him he is overthinking things. His videos have saved countless lives. His eyes remain downcast, still caught in a spiral of depressive thoughts. Plot 1 notes that its master's depression mode has activated, a worrying development. The Poyoyan sound chimes again, indicating another message has just arrived. Ryuji looks at his phone, wondering who just messaged him now. He sees it's from Ken, who wants to come over and hang out for a bit. The doorbell rings, announcing the arrival of his unexpected guest. Ken stands at the door, offering a casual greeting and a quick apology. The two are soon on the couch, laughing as they play a chaotic racing game. Ken complains that he lost again, asking Ryuji why he didn't use any items. He admits there is no satisfaction in winning by using cheap, unfair tactics. Plot 1 compliments Ken's puppet, which Ryuji apparently made for him. Ken is surprised the puppet has a name, Plot 1, and says his is cuter. Now leaving, Ken thanks Ryuji and Plot 1 for the fun time. He invites Ryuji to join their class's upcoming dungeon trip to England. Ryuji watches him go, his expression thoughtful after his friend's visit. Ken offers a final see ya as he walks away into the evening. Plot 1 correctly observes that Ken is a good person who came to check on him. Ryuji stands silently, his mind now clear and his resolve seemingly restored. A dark transition panel marks the shift to the following day's important meeting. The scene opens on an establishing shot of the Grand American Embassy in Japan. Ryuji immediately asks the president if America plans to specially tax adventurers. President Bluestone firmly states he will never tax those who bring back resources. He explains passionately that he wants to help adventurers achieve the American dream. Ryuji says he understands while Ms. Kojima smiles, pleased with the outcome. He then lays out his terms for creating dungeon guides, including his fee. The president enthusiastically accepts the deal, promising the full support of the U.S. Ryuji then moves on to the more difficult subject of the power leveling request. Linda Bluestone, the president's daughter, blushes, sparkling with eager anticipation. Ryuji's expression turns serious as he explains there is a problem with his methods.